A white-haired student struggles as cruel classmates pin her down during their sick classroom broadcast. The bullies grab her legs and mock resistance, treating the assault like entertainment, while classmates crowd around top student Jiang, filming every second as she begs for help. Blue-haired ringleader WW decides another unwilling victim should join their disgusting game, so his gang drags in camp volunteer Wu Qi, battered, stripped, and barely standing. They shove him face first onto the floor, laughing while ordering him toward Jiang, and bruised, shaking Wu Qi hears the command beneath their cruel, looming shadows while Jiang recoils in terror, begging the powerless volunteer not to come closer. His trembling hand exposes the truth. He's being forced into WW's scheme, so hesitation earns another vicious kick, smashing the helpless man across the room. The wounded volunteer screams through impact, but raw fear cannot end this nightmare. Even as one accomplice worries they have gone too far and Wang dismisses death itself. Facing Jiang again, Wu Qi apologizes for lacking the strength to protect anyone, before the next blow leaves him bleeding heavily, his body collapsing beyond recovery. Jiang pleads for help while Wang Wei restrains her and savors the surrounding panic, yet her desperate screams continue as Wu Qi's final breath quietly slips away. And death should end everything, until a killing intent system locks onto host Wu Qi. While Wang resumes tormenting Jiang, the newly awakened system prepares its first move. She demands to know why this is happening, unaware something has changed nearby. Among a silent crowd, a bespectacled student faces a challenge to his supposed devotion to justice. As the girls keep restraining Jiang, an unseen voice challenges self-proclaimed heroes to replace her. Wang Wei tightens his grip and warns their captive that resistance will bring more pain, until the ringleader notices impossible movement from the man his gang just killed. Wu Qi rises wearing a white coat, calmly ignoring demands to fetch Wang's phone. Inside his reborn mind, the system assigns a first mission: kill the school's violence instigator within 72 hours, because its masked avatar remembers this host as the deadliest killer from his previous life. Back in the laboratory, stunned classmates confront him while the system teases another mission, and he handles chemicals, declaring everyone present will die within the next 30 minutes, as the masked guide realizes he is preparing a mercury-based explosive and watches with wicked delight, but their contract forbids killing anyone except the designated target under penalty of permanent death. Wu Qi calls himself law-abiding as Wang charges, conveniently releasing the volatile flask. The container hits the floor and erupts, blasting through the laboratory and scattering everyone, while he laughs that unpredictable accidents happen and a badly injured attacker screams nearby. Even the system marvels at this shameless loophole around its supposedly absolute rule, then judges its reborn host perfect as he calmly approaches the terrified survivors, though collateral injuries will lower his mission score and weaken any future resurrection. He rejects their innocence, counting both active bullies and silent bystanders as willing accomplices. The system insists only the designated target is guilty, but he finds that definition interesting before the wounded Wang Wei orders his remaining allies to kill their resurrected victim. Wu Qi launches into combat, dropping attackers with overwhelming precision and brutal speed. Wu Qi finishes the exchange standing untouched, while every charging bully collapses screaming around him. He notes the delicious irony of tormentors stockpiling materials dangerous enough to punish themselves, then reasons the true violence instigator probably is not among this defeated group. Still determined to avoid unnecessary casualties and uncover the hidden objective quickly, he studies Jiang with interest. Their eyes meet, and her startled expression awakens a disturbing memory from his former life. Because he never expected to see that familiar face again, especially inside this reborn world. He covers Jiang's mouth, thanking her cryptically before she can question his sudden transformation, and claims that thanks to her he only just appeared in this place. 2 days earlier, Wu Qi had ruled Dragon Country as its unrivaled #1 assassin, able to eliminate any target within minutes and disguise every hit as an accident. His unmatched skill made him feel godlike, even while lowering his guard around a white-haired woman, yet a quiet romantic moment became the instant his supposedly invincible life ended. His unknown killer left no trace, but the masked system offered resurrection and revenge, appearing over his corpse with a chance to hunt whoever orchestrated that perfect murder. Back in the laboratory, the recollection hardens his focus on solving both intertwined mysteries. While the system rewards his sharp observation by granting an unexplained title ahead of schedule. He strides past the shaken Jiang without answering, and the guide reluctantly follows, as Wu Qi opens a status board listing an E+ rating, apprentice title, revenge wish, and ticking mission countdown. The modest title surprises him until a targeting interface ignites across his vision, revealing learnable traits in broken equipment and students, including temporary blindness, fragmentation, and forced kneeling. The system explains these bizarre sampled skills grow useful only through repeated skillful use and rising proficiency. Before he can test that theory, the camp director storms inside demanding an explanation for the explosion. Terrified bullies accuse the resurrected volunteer of attempted murder, while his table comprehension quietly climbs to 20%. He realizes the apprentice title advances by deeply understanding each object's deceptively simple life, potentially evolving into observation mastery, a detective-style ability perfectly suited to uncovering his target. Scanning the director reveals a spotless public mask, secret voyeurism, and professional-level photography ready to learn. Armed with that dirt, Wu Qi embraces the furious official and agrees someone must answer. then whispers that the director's hidden photo collection should accept responsibility for everything, leaving director Liu Zhiyuan panicked, hiding his fear while accepting the blast as an accident. Wounded Wang Wei protests and demands the official arrest their seemingly murderous teacher, but Jiang courageously intervenes, insisting teacher Wu is good and blaming the entire disaster on herself. Yet Liu Zhiyuan answers by touching her inappropriately, his filthy secret surfacing before everyone. She recoils with a frightened cry, exposing exactly what his respectable facade concealed, as a determined blonde student pushes through the crowd, urgently calling Jiang's nickname Ping Ping. Her best friend checks Jiang for injuries, relieved that the explosion left her standing, and Jiang reassures her while the revived teacher quietly recognizes another unusually brave target. Wang Wei turns on Director Liu, shouting his full name and demanding obedience, while the administrator calculates that resisting Wang's powerful father could expose his embezzled construction money, and the blonde friend counters first, revealing bullies were caught harassing classmates when teacher Wu intervened. Wang refuses to fold, confidently claiming every remaining student will confirm his version. Pressed for testimony, several frightened students side with Wang, falsely blaming both their teacher and Jiang. Security officers enter the wrecked laboratory and the director mistakes their chorus for an easy escape, so he publicly condemns the accused pair as shameless criminals while pointing straight at Jiang. She denies everything through tears, but Yu Lian immediately declares complete faith in her friend. Teacher Wu gently covers Jiang with his coat, telling her to save tears for someone worthy, not waste them on trash whose lies are about to implode spectacularly today. Wang challenges the unarmed instructor to fight back inside the classroom, convinced authority protects him, until Wu Qi reveals the missing phone, still displaying recorded evidence of the entire attack. Wang realizes his victim stole it, while the killer mocks him for preserving proof, then warns every liar that karma can arrive disguised as another convenient accident. He rests one hand on Director Liu and asks whether the official stands behind his words, unleashing such murderous pressure that a spectral nightmare seems to rise behind them. The terrified administrator becomes certain disobedience will end with his immediate death there, so Liu Zhiyuan abruptly turns and strikes Wang Wei before the whole room, then orders security to confine the bully and summon his parents for discipline. Wang screams about his father's donations, but the guards drag him away anyway. Director Liu dismisses everyone else and nervously asks whether teacher Wu finds this resolution satisfactory, only to learn the killer already sent his achievements and secret photos to the Education Bureau, where officials will soon deliver very personal feedback for his outstanding contribution indeed. As the disgraced director begs desperately, Jiang realizes her teacher now feels like someone entirely different. With the immediate crisis settled, Yu Lian offers to escort shaken Jiang safely back to the dormitory. Behind them, Wang watches the instructor leave and swears his enemy will never enjoy peace, while the bespectacled student from the silent crowd steps forward wearing a strangely knowing smile. Security drags Wang down the corridor, unaware that this quiet observer follows close behind, and the wounded bully nurtures one thought: teacher Wu is finished once his retaliation begins. Outside, sunset settles over campus as the next hidden threat begins moving into position, while the revived assassin crosses the courtyard with 71 hours remaining on his first mission, when a crimson alert reports an ominous transformation called cutification has already reached 80%. His masked guide explains a rival triggered the process, once again praising its unusually compelling host. Anyone consumed by genuine killing intent becomes a cud monster here, and this one approaches completion. The system wonders how long its legendary assassin can survive, but he welcomes the challenge, despite a warning that ordinary humans cannot easily defeat these monstrous transformed killers alone. Across campus, a shadowy figure completes its change inside another building and fixes on him, its glowing eyes carrying one murderous command: Wu Qi must die as its transformation finishes, while down below he senses the hostile gaze and turns toward the distant window, quietly confirming someone dangerous is watching from above, though he shows no alarm. Rather than chase immediately, he prioritizes unfinished preparations and continues toward his room. Night falls before the assassin finally settles inside, with several system avatars hovering nearby, and begins testing his new perception despite the guide's warning against unfamiliar abilities, flooding the entire dormitory with targeting panels that map every object around him. The learning ability initially reaches only 3 meters, with comprehension limited by existing traits and stored memories. Yet combining familiar fragments can create a path toward facts the host never consciously knew, generating unknown information beyond normal biological and mnemonic limits as the interface erupts with energy. His first ridiculous discovery becomes bird droppings acceleration, derived from an astronomically unlikely event outside the window. The breakthrough strains his mind, revealing he can sustain this power for roughly 5 seconds. But he refuses to quit, merely deciding future experiments should happen away from witnesses. What he lacks is a completely safe subject capable of surviving whatever the ability unleashes, until the bathroom mirror offers an obvious candidate while 54 mission hours remain, because nobody suits a lethal experiment better than someone who already controls his own death. Wu Qi activates the Crimson Eye and aims its full analytic force directly inward. His consciousness enters the body's complete thinking space, where a sealed record warns physical death unlocks deeper memories, though he believes those memories already merged with his own after resurrection completely, so he touches the stored body's shoulder and dives into that forbidden archive, instantly witnessing his original body's entire past from a clear, godlike external perspective. The system explains unconscious perception exceeds active memory, forcing the brain to seal unprocessed information, and he searches those buried details for whoever was secretly manipulating the gentle volunteer. The memory reveals a young man whose difficult childhood inspired him to become a teacher, after one compassionate educator refused to abandon him and showed how adults could protect struggling students. That ideal leads him to summer camp, where he discovers several boys beating a frightened girl and immediately grabs the attacker's belt, demanding the abuse stop before anyone suffers further. The original Wu Qi blocks Wang Wei's next strike and demands to know who these attackers are. Their answer is another coordinated beating, with Wang ordering the stranger to mind his own business. Yet the battered volunteer keeps rising, insisting that ignoring cruelty would be morally wrong. Bruised and embarrassed by his weakness, he nevertheless refuses to withdraw the accusation. Before Director Liu, he argues that students who bully classmates cannot remain unpunished, but the official cuts him off and orders frightened Xiao Qi to recount events herself. Teaching assistant Wu gently promises support, giving the trembling student one chance to expose everything, only for terror to choke her words while tears overwhelm every attempt to answer. Liu Zhiyuan seizes that silence, dismisses the case, and warns the volunteer to stay uninvolved, adding that another disturbance could permanently destroy his dream of becoming a teacher. The meeting ends with students gathering outside while the rescued girl remains isolated and shaken. Teacher Wu escorts her back before the watching crowd, still refusing to abandon his responsibility, as Jiang Pinger reaches Xiao Qi first and anxiously checks whether her friend is safe. Xiao Qi apologizes to the teaching assistant, guilt replacing the courage fear stole earlier, but the following days punish his intervention through relentless humiliation, sabotage, and escalating attacks. Even seeing Xiao Qi dragged along the stairs, he briefly considers enduring everything until summer ends, then rejects that cowardice and charges in again, blasting one tormentor away with his books. Which brings another furious lecture from Liu Zhiyuan while Wang watches with smug satisfaction. Though battered and threatened with dismissal, the volunteer decides helping Xiao Qi still makes resistance worthwhile. Finally, she names Wang Wei and his lackeys, confirming teacher Wu intervened to protect her. Pressed once more, Xiao Qi firmly confirms the accusation before Liu Zhiyuan, overturning her earlier fearful silence. Outside the office, she offers her bruised defender a grateful smile that leaves him speechless, and he realizes that protecting someone has finally given his suffering a meaningful reward. That fragile victory collapses when Xiao Qi falls from the school roof during a violent storm, her scream drawing a horrified crowd toward the blood pooling beneath the building. Grief hardens into rage as Wang Wei taunts the volunteer and threatens to make him next. The original Wu blames his own interference for escalating Wang's violence until Xiao Qi died, then confronts the smiling bully directly, declaring that his own weakness allowed the tragedy. He swings with everything left, begging anyone who witnesses this cruelty to finally intervene, but Wang's crew crushes him against the pavement while he pleads for someone to stop them, asking the silent students to protect every other helpless child before another life is lost. Back in the present, the countdown shows 46:11:00 as the system asks for Wu's verdict. He condemns his predecessor as childish and stupid, rejecting any sentimental identification with him, calling that weak man a waste of space despite sharing exactly the same face. Still, the assassin admits he does not dislike the stubborn volunteer who kept resisting, and decides a dying man's final wish deserves enough respect to be fulfilled. When warned only 46 hours remain, Wu walks out without revealing any target or strategy, yet his confident laugh signals that the sealed memories have already sharpened his next move. Elsewhere on campus, another gang surrounds a chubby student while one thug laughs from above, and their bruised victim begs an older student to help because he cannot endure another beating. The purple-haired bully pummels the chubby student, mocking his body while demanding he stop pretending unconscious. He promises promotion within Wang Wei's hierarchy if the victim keeps serving as his practice dummy, until Wu silently appears behind them, turning the attacker's confidence into sudden, freezing dread. The startled bully swings first, ignoring his accomplice's warning that this Wu Qi has changed. One effortless counterpunch detonates against his face before he can finish the threat, launching him backward into concrete pipes and scattering the gang's stunned nearby spectators. Wu calmly asks whether tasting genuine strength finally revealed how pathetic the bully's fists truly are. Inside another room, senior bullies force students into brutal matches while drunken spectators wager on suffering. A muscular fighter obeys and floors his opponent as the lounging enforcers celebrate their entertainment, but a furious red-haired gambler smashes a bottle across the loser for costing him money. Then continues beating the collapsed student, ordering him awake for yet another rigged round. The terrified victim apologizes helplessly, wondering why monsters thrive while innocent students endure punishment, and his unanswered plea for help echoes through the room until its doors finally open. Wu fills the doorway like an executioner, announcing that he has finally found the gathering, yet the red-haired organizer casually welcomes him and invites him into their vicious break-time games. Wu surveys the bruised fighters, kneeling prisoners, and drinking spectators before questioning that harmless description, then asks the muscular victor why someone with real martial skill refuses to fight his oppressors. The student claims he wants no further trouble and could never defeat the entire gang, but Wu exposes the truth. Attacking weaker victims is easier than confronting the fear controlling him. Called a coward, he protests that Wang Wei's followers rule the school beyond any teacher's power. A blonde enforcer interrupts Wu's accusation, demanding that everyone stop talking nonsense about their rulers. He dismisses the newcomer with a cigarette and confidently orders him to leave the room, but Wu catches his wrist mid-gesture, instantly stripping that casual arrogance completely away. While crushing the hand, he tells the frightened bully to solve his own problems independently, then wrenches his knee and arm together, demonstrating the painful cost of depending on others. For a final lesson, Wu forces the burning cigarette into his mouth and warns smoking is unhealthy. The red-haired organizer answers with a bottle, screaming that Wu has chosen death, as the assassin merely rolls his sleeves and savors the advantages of youth. The room erupts into a blur of blood and bodies too fast for survivors to follow, leaving every enforcer sprawled unconscious while Wu calmly dusts his hands before the muscular student. He says his part is finished and presses the frightened fighter to decide his own response, while the system urges him toward the actual mission, calling this beating sufficient revenge. Wu rejects that motive, declaring revenge irrelevant because his true objective still remains unfinished. He intends these calculated punishments to awaken something far more important within the oppressed students. The startled system wonders whether the ruthless killer's personality has somehow begun changing. Outside, another trio drags a bespectacled victim across the courtyard while he begs for release. Their smug leader calls his suffering bad luck and orders him to avoid them forever, until Wu appears behind him, comparing the campus bullies to cockroaches infesting the entire school. The leader recognizes yesterday's classroom volunteer and angrily demands why Wu has followed him there, then tears up a folding chair and swings it with both hands at Wu's head. Wu slips beneath the chair's arc, sending the heavy seat spinning uselessly across the courtyard. Before driving a brutal counterkick into the leader's face and silencing his attack, the stunned aggressor crashes backward onto the stones, completely separated from his improvised weapon. Wu then redirects the falling chair, smashing its frame beneath the helpless leader's body. With their strongest companion flattened, the remaining pair hesitate while Wu silently turns toward them, yet both recover their swagger and ask whether one victory was supposed to frighten them, when ominous rustling from the bushes announces that their hidden reinforcements have finally arrived. 3 armed enforcers lead a surrounding mob, claiming Wu invaded their territory and cannot escape, while nervous students identify them as Wang Wei's people in fear becoming the gang's next victims. The mob rushes together, mocking Wu's heroism and declaring that powerless trash can never change, but the students he challenged step forward behind him, proving his harsh lessons have already taken root. Wu answers with a towering kick that sends the first armed attacker tumbling backward, then sweeps through the formation, launching multiple enforcers aside before their weapons can connect, and crushes the muscular leader's defense with another perfectly placed kick to the face. One bat-wielding thug charges Wu's blind side, hoping overwhelming force can reverse their collapse, but the formerly submissive fighter intercepts him and lands his first decisive counterattack, leaving the attacker unconscious while the frightened student struggles to catch his breath. Wu asks whether striking back has erased the fear that kept him obedient for so long. He honestly admits the terror remains, hiding part of his face behind a trembling hand, but accepts teacher Wu's lesson that changing the world begins by changing oneself. Wang's remaining followers mock the muscular student's courage, threatening everyone who chooses to stand beside Wu. One levels a metal pipe at the rebels, expecting their brief resolve to collapse immediately, but the bespectacled victim grabs another weapon and vows to help them fight back, prompting more silent bystanders to exchange looks and step away from their former fear. Within moments, a broad circle of students joins Wu's side and surrounds the stunned gang, whose leader insists superior numbers still guarantee victory, desperately rallying his shaken followers. Instead, the battle ends with armed bullies scattered everywhere as Wu declares the wind has changed. The system notes his campus drama consumed time, leaving 21-23 before mission failure. Meanwhile, astonished students spread news that Wang Wei's gang has finally been defeated, as Wu marches the bruised enforcers across campus, escorted by an expanding column of supporters. Wang Wei intercepts the procession, his battered face tightening when he sees Wu approaching, and furiously demands what the volunteer is doing with so many of his people. Wu calmly claims these students were fighting and must be educated properly at the office. Wang silently vows to punish everyone following Wu, promising brutal retaliation once this moment passes, but the muscular fighter and bespectacled student openly challenge him, declaring their fear is finished. Their united defiance leaves Wang retreating in disbelief as the surrounding students close ranks, while dark growth spread across his arm, signaling a dangerous transformation beneath the skin. Murderous fury consumes him as he snarls Wu Qi's name through clenched teeth. Rumors race across classrooms and fields that Wang Wei's entire faction has been broken, and former lackeys watch Wu's procession, realizing their feared reputation has completely collapsed. Wang shouts the name Yi Zai while his gang corners the bespectacled student over guarded contraband. When the frightened boy requests more time, Wang drives a knee into his stomach, warning that Wu cannot protect him and threatening parents who work beneath Wang's father. He slams the victim down again, demanding immediate obedience to the secret arrangement, until the student promises rapid delivery and begs Wang to leave his parents untouched. The red-haired organizer wants to attack Wu immediately, tired of waiting for the larger scheme, but Wang silences the hot-headed proposal with one raised hand and a cold stare, ordering everyone to leave Wu's growing supporters alone until his own preparations are complete. Instead, he plans several smaller gifts to soften Wu before delivering the decisive blow. Unaware, Wu crosses a hallway surrounded by grateful students praising his strength and protection, while the system reveals only 8, 21, 23 remain and warns that playing hero risks mission failure. With cutification at 98%, it predicts the monster will emerge within 2 hours and kill him. Wu finally agrees to act and stops outside the door of third-year Class 2. Then slides it open with one hand, quietly searching the classroom for his chosen person, his attention settling immediately on Jiang Pinger among the students gathered quietly inside. Wu approaches her desk, offers his hand, and asks whether they can speak privately. Before Jiang can answer, Yu Lion eagerly grabs her shoulders and accepts for her, leaving the white-haired girl blushing intensely as she stammers her own reluctant agreement. The system complains he is flirting, but Wu calls Jiang the mission's greatest possible variable and asks when Wang's bullying escalated. Jiang says earlier pranks never reached this cruelty. As they walk beneath the sunset, Wu keeps studying Jiang's face until she notices his gaze. Flustered, she touches her cheek and asks whether something unusual is showing there, and Wu casually answers that everything looks normal, then calls her very beautiful. Moving closer, he asks Jiang directly whether she somehow knew him before this life. The question awakens a memory of the elegant white-haired woman recognizing Wu Qi at a gala, where she dispatches a target and confirms his reputation as the world's top-ranked killer, only to ridicule that ranking and threaten mutual destruction if he obstructs her mission. Wu intercepts her sudden strike with amused precision, pleased that their first encounter established boundaries. She relaxes enough to offer a hand, revealing the rumored friendliness hidden beneath her brutality, while Wu argues only equal strength earns friendship, making him uniquely qualified for hers. Back amid danger, his sharp hearing catches engines, drawn weapons, and concealed shooters converging nearby. He instantly pulls Jiang against him, shielding her while she flushes at the sudden embrace, then quietly asks whether Pinger has something important she still needs to tell him. Their movement echoes another ballroom memory, the assassins dancing together while enemies close from every side. Without breaking rhythm, they maintain elegant contact and conceal their readiness beneath formal grace, exchanging precise enemy positions at 4, 6, and 7 o'clock through intimate whispers. Then both draw hidden pistols and fire outward as their coordinated dance accelerates. Spinning through the attackers together, they shoot separate targets while never releasing each other's hands. Every bullet finds its mark, and each assassin reloads smoothly inside the deadly choreography, until their waltz ends amid fallen gunmen, blood, and shattered marble across the hall. The ballroom memory closes on a shared look between Wu and the woman after their effortless victory, returning him to Jiang, whose embarrassment deepens when he gently lifts her chin for comparison. Before Wu concludes, she truly is not the woman, just as a motorcycle hurtles toward them. He sweeps Jiang into his arms and leaps clear before the incoming machine can strike, landing safely as the unmanned motorcycle tears past and curves back for another charge, while the system belatedly advises dodging and another projectile sparks against the courtyard stones. A towering blue barrier suddenly erupts across the bike's path, swallowing the approaching danger. And the machine crashes violently into that luminous wall as Wu keeps Jiang shielded behind him. Still accelerating head-on, the weaponized motorcycle pushes through the chaos for one final attempt, convincing the worried system to search for a replacement host before Wu gets himself killed. But Wu only laughs, one arm around Jiang while his free hand prepares a countermeasure. Red lines map every moving component and trajectory, letting him ridicule the system's attempted abandonment. Then converge into a glowing knot above his fingertip as his calculation reaches completion, revealing his first apprentice skill as it locks onto the motorcycle's vulnerable machinery. Endless knowledge activates, detonating the vehicle in a spectacular burst before it can reach them. Flames engulf the wreck while nearby students mistake the blast for a sudden blackout or unexplained noise, but Jiang realizes Wu moved one finger immediately before the motorcycle exploded beside them, and demands his true identity as he casually suggests inspecting whatever remains of the attack. Wu answers with a carefree smile, claiming he is merely an ordinary passerby, while curious students open windows and search the courtyard for the source of the explosion. Wu carries Jiang away from the burning wreck as students call for help around the power line. Meanwhile, the coerced, bespectacled student slips into the chemistry laboratory and steals a bottle of mercuric oxide. Later, Jiang calmly deduces the original volunteer died and this stranger borrowed his body to stop violence. Wu confirms everything, surprising the system because he found no rule forbidding such honesty, and Jiang immediately believes him, then requests permission to help with whatever mission remains. When asked whether he might be lying, she notes his transformation and her own lack of value, adding that deception would offer him easier methods than inventing this impossible explanation. She declares complete trust and asks to assist now, promising one personal request afterward, then blushes beneath Wu's gaze and softly asks him to take care of her. Wu answers by awakening his second apprentice skill, the Blazing Mind's arc ability, whose golden force lifts Jiang's consciousness and opens a path directly into her inner world. The sudden transfer shocks her as awareness separates from ordinary physical surroundings entirely. While the system asks whether Wu truly entered another person's mind on his first attempt, astonished because reaching someone's deepest mental layers directly should never be that easy. It explains the human self harmonizes spirit and matter between the moral superego and instinctive id, and entering requires recognition from that self, usually through strong affection or the person's death. The intruder must also break the superego's chains of law, emotion, prejudice, and moral restraint. Then resist the id's primitive desires before gaining freedom to explore the entire mind, making Jiang's effortless access extraordinary enough for the system to wonder whether she is naturally enlightened. Inside that mind, Jiang stands before two frightened girls with a wooden club, daring approaching bullies forward. Within Jiang's memory, she swings her club at approaching bullies while the system praises her rigid integrity. Afterward, she comforts the two girls, introduces herself, and gently asks their names, revealing how that defense grew into warm friendship with Yu Lion and Zio Qi while Wu watches. Jiang abruptly wakes from the memory and discovers herself resting across Wu's lap. He explains she fainted after requesting his care, so he caught and supported her, then asks whether she has questions about the experience or whether he uncovered useful clues. But Jiang only wants confirmation that her trust and cooperation genuinely helped his mission. Wu reassures her with a gentle touch, announcing that the mission target has finally been found. As the system demands an explanation, he prepares to reveal the hidden instigator's identity, but cutification reaches 99% with 34-42-00 displayed while the monster's hesitation unexpectedly disappears. Wu answers the system's question with the name of his analytical skill, endless knowledge, whose abnormal item data can expose the intentions and actions driving a person's cutification. Yet ordinary objects in corridors only reveal their own histories, offering no direct target identification, while broken lamps and disabled cameras likewise contain no usable trace of the instigator, forcing two possibilities. The target left campus or Wu's title skill remains insufficient. Without explaining further, Wu exits the room as Jiang hurries after him and asks where elsewhere. One gang member relaxes with stolen liquor while the bespectacled student faces renewed suspicion. Wang hurls a can at him, furious that he bought alcohol but failed to secure medicine, then grabs the terrified boy by the throat and orders him condemned to hell, until Wu enters through the smoke with Jiang behind him and commands Wang to release the student. Wang greets Wu with manic laughter, declaring that any attempt to save his victim comes too late. He threatens to kill the bespectacled student before Wu can intervene, tightening his transformed grip, but another gang member suddenly recoils in horror as an unexpected reaction begins. Blood erupts from every bully's mouth and Wang realizes Yi Ziofen poisoned the entire group. Even while choking on blood, Wang grips his clothes but his strength collapses, leaving the poisoner standing over the fallen tyrant and repeatedly confirming that Wang is dead. Then he clutches his wounded face and savors that single word with exhausted disbelief, before laughing wildly as the system reveals he, not Wang, is the true cutificator. Wu explains that prolonged darkness eventually makes its victims embrace darkness themselves. Horrifying Jiang then strikes his head and grants what he calls a final chance to rest, sending the poisoned mastermind face first onto the floor while Jiang covers her eyes in shock. But Wu turns away, calling this violent end the last mercy fate could offer him, until the system asks whether he truly believes that attack resolved the cutification crisis, and Yi's body cracks violently as the meter finally reaches 100%. His human form erupts into a towering gray cud, leaving Wu in immediate danger. Wu orders Jiang to run and stop complicating the fight as the monster finishes forming, then whips a metal pen forward like a dart, targeting the creature's exposed eye. But the sharpened point shatters against the black eyeball without penetrating its armored surface. Even titanium proves useless, and the cud's massive fist crashes straight into Wu's torso, launching the assassin across the room as the monster surges after him for another blow. Wu intercepts the cud's next claw with both hands, arresting its massive momentum inches away, then twists clear while recognizing that transformation amplified speed alongside every other physical capability, but endless knowledge activates, assuring him that abnormal power cannot erase a fundamentally human structure. Red analytical lines encircle the charging monster as Wu probes openings while it repeatedly cries Liang. And its familiar anatomy exposes vulnerable pressure points, beginning with an easily located Achilles heel, before Wu drives a concentrated strike beside the ear and directly attacks the cochlea. His energy-forged point immediately changes direction and punches into the creature's solar plexus. Then he climbs its body and hammers another focused blow against the spine, sending a spear-like surge through the reinforced tissue until something finally cracks beneath it. The system mocks this textbook assault, warning that merely striking vital points will never guarantee survival. Because every cud embodies a liberated id and develops abilities shaped by its strongest inner desire, the monster ignores its wounds, roars Liang again, and blasts Wu away with overwhelming force, hurling him through the classroom wall and scattering masonry across the crowded courtyard outside. Jiang shouts for Teacher Wu as frightened students witness him crash onto the stones, while the cud tears through the ruined opening, forcing itself between broken concrete and smoke, revealing self-reinforcement, an unclassified attribute that raises its physical abilities to 10 times human limits. The system admits Wu cannot match that strength yet as the creature launches itself outside, and Jiang screams for police when the towering monster fixes its burning eyes on them. Still calling Liang, it charges directly toward Jiang while Wu struggles back to his feet. forcing him to leap between them and command her to move before the fist lands. The Cud's descending fist crashes against Wu's raised guard, forcing a pained grunt from him. It immediately whips another colossal arm sideways, carving across his defense and spraying blood, leaving Jiang frozen in horror as she can only stammer her teacher's name, before a further sweeping blow tears Wu away and sends him tumbling across the courtyard. His battered body slams into metal trash bins hard enough to buckle them around him. The system avatar taunts him for surrendering, demanding he die quickly so it can change hosts, yet Wu rebukes its attempted desertion and calmly hints that he still possesses a solution. He recalls finding something interesting earlier, focusing despite the monster's renewed charge toward him, and endless knowledge marks self-reinforcement as learnable, though surpassing human limits will collapse his body. The system calls this suicidal, insisting a normal human frame cannot bear any Cud attribute, but Wu activates self-reinforcement, catches the incoming fist, and promises he will not die easily. Endless knowledge simultaneously draws compensating traits from a lizard, sparrow, wall surface, and pine tree, combining their structural advantages to restrain the dangerous backlash while Wu overwhelms the surprised Cud. Even so, his muscles are crushed and rebuilt, agony the system says few could withstand, yet Wu's terrifying will drives a reinforced downward punch directly into the monster's raised fist, detonating the courtyard stones and forcing nearby students to shield themselves from flying rubble. They exchange impossibly fast blows as the system doubts his human body can last another minute, but Wu answers that 10 seconds are sufficient while dodging the Cud's spinning hammer arm attack. With the countdown beginning, he declares the preparation complete and drives a rising kick into its head, leaving 9 seconds as their collision blasts open a vast crater across the schoolyard. The Cud swells its muscles even further, repeating Liang as its reinforced body grows monstrous. With 8 seconds remaining, Wu lands atop its massive arm and anchors himself amid shattered stone, but the system warns that his current power still cannot deliver a lethal finishing blow. At 7 seconds, Wu answers by asking what happens if he creates 2 of himself. Then tail docking leaves a bloody muscular duplicate behind, finally making the system understand his plan. While 5 seconds remain, Wu reshapes one reinforced arm into a gleaming crystalline weapon, compressing the Cud's copied power entirely into that limb as he dives from above, and the monster stretches its own arm skyward, meeting his descent with 3 seconds remaining. Their condensed fists collide at 2 seconds, producing a blinding burst that swallows Wu's silhouette, before successive shocks thunder through the creature's body during the final second of their struggle. The battered Cud suddenly falls silent, cracks spreading around the crystalline spike embedded through it, and the countdown reaches 0 as Wu steps from the collapsing explosion of muscle and debris. The relief system praises him, then immediately demands that he complete the mission's true objective. Wu binds his hair back and admits his remaining stamina is below 1% of his prime, although the system insists his copied ability can still eliminate an ordinary designated target easily. Wu replies this target is anything but ordinary just as Jiang calls anxiously toward him, and she approaches with relieved students while the system teases him about victory and romance. Yet Wu asks whether it ever wondered who the real mission objective among them is, then identifies a woman as ominous red eyes ignite throughout the crowd standing behind Jiang, when Jiang suddenly lunges into his guard and drives a hidden blade through his upper arm. Instead of falling, Jiang smiles and repeats the white-haired woman's old taunt, stunning both Wu and system. The eerie familiarity makes him ask whether Pinger truly is the woman from his former life. Yet he steadies the silver-haired student before her body can collapse among the shocked witnesses, as elegant footsteps approach, and Yulian politely asks whether teaching assistant Wu remains unharmed. Then the blonde woman cruelly asks how betrayal by a trusted student feels, while Jiang and the surrounding students stand with glazed eyes, leaving the system utterly confused. It notices Yulian's transformed demeanor, realizing she now appears like an entirely different person. But Wu tears the embedded blade from his arm and names her the hidden instigator, spending his final strength to throw it, though she merely calls his accusation rude. A hypnotized muscular student intercepts the projectile and takes its crystalline point through his shoulder, before kneeling as Yulian condemns Wu for invading her paradise and ruining her toys. The system observes that nobody reacts to the wound or towering Cud corpse nearby. And Yulian casually explains that every student around them has been hypnotized. Her direct answer horrifies the system, which realizes this enemy can see and hear it, identifying her as an innate host, a titled existence appearing once across 100 universes. Yulian denies lengthy preparation, claiming she noticed the system beside Wu inside the chemistry room, then orders her controlled students forward, admitting his 2-day investigation was designed to draw her out. Wu kicks through their coordinated assault as she laments watching her carefully built paradise unravel, and embraces Jiang possessively, mocking his harsh manner for supposedly ruining his romantic chances, while Wu unleashes a brutal counterattack, dropping bat-wielding thralls around him in rapid succession. The students Wu already knocked unconscious rise again under hypnosis, surrounding him with makeshift weapons. Yulian explains they must obey until death, knowing Wu cannot simply kill them, so he redirects their attacks against one another while the system wonders how she learned his restriction. She says prolonged observation proved he spared Wang Wei despite possessing lethal explosives and sufficient opportunity, and seeing the system beside him confirmed some hidden rule prevented killing her hypnotized toys. Therefore, his repeated provocations and investigation could only mean the little system demanded something involving her. Yu Lian correctly guesses a mission while Wu dodges coordinated strikes and the system insults him. She further infers a deadline and suggests fleeing, but Wu kicks another controlled attacker aside, as the mission display reveals 12 hours, 21 minutes, and 10 seconds remaining. Yu Lian reminds him that reaching her requires sparing every human shield between them, until Wu asks why someone who calls people toys remains so obsessed with Jiang Pinger. She embraces the unresponsive girl and answers simply that her fixation comes from love, specifically loving Jiang's proud expression since she first rescued Zio Qi, one of Yu Lian's toys, a radiant face Yu Lian wanted destroyed, prompting her to arrange repeated bullying. And even Zio Qi's death, a confession that shocks Wu and the system alike. The truth reveals Zio Qi feared Yu Lian rather than Wang Wei during her final days, while the blonde captor strokes Jiang's face possessively, making the system call her perverted. Yu Lian orders Wu to kneel and beg, but he says that posture suits her better. She bursts into laughter and asks whether the exhausted assassin truly believes he has any chance. Yet Wu warns that villains invite accidents precisely when they become convinced victory is certain. A fresh cutification warning suddenly reaches 100%, bewildering the system because every student seems hypnotized. The answer is Jiang, whose fury over Zio Qi erupts into a shadow that alarms Yu Lian. Black cud markings consume Jiang's eyes as she accuses her former friend of killing Zio Qi. Nearby, Wu casually redirects another shovel attack and announces that their protagonist has finally awakened, while Yu Lian recoils and demands to know how Jiang broke through her hypnosis. Jiang condemns the manipulation and innocent suffering, but Yu Lian asks why she deserves no rescue. Furious Jiang answers that she deserves nothing, swinging a massive darkness-coated fist toward her, and the system celebrates a cud ally capable of finishing Wu's mission for him. Yet Wu rejects luck, remembering how 5 minutes earlier Mind's arc carried his wake-up command inside, where he promised Jiang the real truth behind Zio Qi's death if she regained consciousness, and her isolated awareness reached toward his light despite confusion over the impossible revelation. Now Mind's arc weaponizes that awakening, letting Jiang's black tendrils scatter the surrounding hypnotized attackers. The system scolds Wu for exploiting her hatred and allowing cutification to threaten human lives, but he refuses Yu Lian's taste for spectatorship, declaring he prefers performing any killing personally. Then asks whether love or hatred holds greater power as another violent impact shakes the courtyard. Yu Lian thrills at the apparent darkness, insisting true kindness does not exist anywhere, and urges Ping Ping to abandon hypocrisy while the cutified girl drives her fist downward. But Wu catches Jiang's corrupted arm before impact and tells the startled manipulator to stop fantasizing. He restrains Jiang gently, explaining that only kindness gives anyone the ability to recognize evil, then unexpectedly kisses her, confronting the darkness inside Jiang with intimate trust instead of violence. Their lips remain together for one decisive moment as Wu deliberately completes his unexpected intervention. The darkness drains from Jiang's widened eye, restoring its clear blue color almost instantly, and she returns to herself blushing furiously while Wu cups her face with calm assurance, leaving Yu Lian outraged that a simple kiss defeated her corruption like melodramatic television. Wu turns toward the manipulator and promises to explain everything when she reaches her next life. Then he snaps his fingers, activating the finishing mechanism prepared during their earlier confrontation. And a concealed crystalline spike launches directly through Yu Lian's forehead before she can react. Her death instantly releases the hypnotized students, dropping every controlled body unconscious across the courtyard, while the system declares the mission complete and schedules Wu's reward inside killing intent space. Red fragments begin carrying Wu away, and he calmly recognizes that his transfer has started. But Jiang grabs his fading wrist, fearfully asking whether teacher Wu is already leaving. He says he is merely returning where he belongs as she asks whether they can meet again. Wu answers that she should hope they never do, smiling as the transfer surrounds him, before a blazing pillar lifts him away and leaves Jiang staring upward in shock. The freed students awaken around her, confused by their injuries and the devastated courtyard, while Jiang watches the empty sky and admits she never wanted to part from teacher Wu. Meanwhile, Wu materializes within the surreal, colorful realm designated Killing Intent Space C444, where the system explains only successful hosts enter and must await judgment before receiving rewards. It happily admits a century passed since previous incompetent hosts managed to return here, and Wu quietly focuses on the claim that this domain admits hosts exclusively. A black cud aura suddenly deposits Jiang inside C444 and she looks around in confusion. The Killing Intent system screams, unable to understand how the girl followed Wu there, while elsewhere a golden mask system tells Yu Lian accepting hosthood earlier would have prevented defeat. It hovers above her bloodied corpse as the dead manipulator lies face down on the stones, until black energy erupts from the body and lifts a dripping silhouette upright, revealing Yu Lian reborn as a pale spirit who welcomes occasional failure as life's entertainment. Students panic when her revived body transforms openly, its torn clothing exposing an increasingly monstrous shape, and she dismisses ordinary standards, describing herself as a thousand-year monster with very different interests. Yu Lian confirms accepting the offer to become a host and anticipates meeting Wu again. then completes a queen bee transformation, awakening the top-ranked hive mind ability and vowing bloody revenge. A blazing transfer pillar engulfs her amid terrified students as she includes Ping Ping among her targets. Back inside C444, the system realizes Jiang freely entered through her controllable CUD state and briefly suspects another innate host before rejecting such a supposedly impossible coincidence. Jiang apologetically kicks the floating avatar away, explaining she only wants to remain beside Teacher Wu, leaving the offended system tumbling through space while protesting her outrageous disrespect toward its authority. Wu calmly asks whether entering this realm will trouble Jiang's family back home, and her hesitant answer reveals that she has no parents or relatives waiting for her. A pale female presence resembling Jiang appears silently behind her as Wu absorbs the revelation. Jiang explains that constant work and study left her friendless until Yu Lion seemingly changed everything. The system pities her lonely history, though its unfinished remark suggests another complication is coming. The system orders Jiang back to her world, angrily insisting she stop creating trouble inside C444. She admits she followed Teacher Wu without knowing how to return, frustrating the floating avatar further. When a metallic evaluation projectile suddenly streaks toward Wu and Jiang urgently warns him, but Wu refuses to resist because the approaching instrument is merely judging his performance, and an enormous ornamented scanner unfolds before him, bathing the surrounding realm in vapor, before extending a green mechanical probe directly against the center of Wu's forehead. Its display grants mission completion rank of 5 talent points and 80% experience. Then the host potential measurement settles unexpectedly at the much lower rank C for Wu. The system calls that upper middle aptitude, jokes he might survive 10 worlds and praises his rewards, but the scanner's flexible probe abruptly turns toward Jiang, startling her and drawing Wu's attention, while the system protests that evaluating a stray half-cud wastes the mysterious judge's energy. The probe targets Jiang's forehead as she recoils, unable to understand what is happening. And Wu pulls her safely aside while the instrument opens a secondary glowing sensor, which erupts with feathers after measuring Jiang as an extraordinary A-level talent within C444. The resulting omen reaches a Nordic throne room, where ancient figures recognize another Titan-class existence, then crosses ancient Egypt, prompting an Anubis-headed scholar to announce the birth of a new sun, while supernatural observers in Japan notice the falling feather during an otherwise ordinary shrine day. And an owl-like scholar in England senses it beside a sleeping young witch, as more feathers descend across Greece, New York, and Russia, spreading awareness worldwide. Back inside C444, its system praises Jiang's A-level potential and offers to grant her wishes as host. Wu swats the overeager system aside and calls Jiang remarkably loyal, resting one arm around her shoulders. She asks whether a level means she can stay, while memories of the white-haired killer trouble Wu. He avoids explaining and simply invites her to call him Wu Qi, leaving her blushing. The system addresses them as its hosts and offers them a private room for rest, but the realm's central instrument immediately announces another mission before either can recover, forcing the system to admit they can only rest after returning alive from the next world. Jiang touches Wu's shoulder and repeats his name softly, worried by the imminent departure. But he pats her head and promises they will visit their shared room next time. The system orders them to stop flirting and follow as a transfer feather reaches Wu. While orange light carries him away, Jiang runs after the dissolving silhouette and asks him to wait. Wu awakens among bizarre energy-based citizens inside a luminous futuristic metropolis unlike Earth, where every passerby presses fingers against their temples in the same unexplained synchronized gesture. Floating roads, hovering vehicles, and geometric towers reveal the enormous technological scale surrounding him, and his assigned body is a pink-haired female officer bearing a barcode across her chest. Wu studies its partly mechanical form, baffled by this world's incomprehensible conversion between matter and energy, as numerous nearby alerts simultaneously register 50% cutification despite their mission having only just begun. The system identifies Lanch Star, a world of pure energy lifeforms where Law's blade erases personal data. When a public alert names Police Officer 9874 as a wanted criminal suspect and broadcasts her face, the system remarks that she resembles Wu, who dryly confirms the wanted woman is his body, while surrounding citizens repeat their strange temple gesture, apparently reacting to the citywide warning. The futuristic plaza abruptly distorts beneath Wu, making both him and the system question another sudden change. Red geometric barriers rise from the tiled floor, isolating him from the watching citizens, before armored energy enforcers materialize inside those columns with mechanical buzzes and flickering pixels. The squad surrounds Police Officer 9874, who studies every approaching fighter without visible panic. Then Wu draws twin batons and spins through them, slicing green data from multiple bodies, but their severed heads reconnect through streaming pixels, proving ordinary cuts cannot destroy them, forcing Wu to reconsider what combat means against lifeforms composed entirely of pure energy. As he keeps evading, the system asks whether he expects elimination before meeting his partner. Wu questions that partner, and the exasperated system demands he finally read the mission details. While a violent exchange sends nearby citizens breaking apart into bright fragments across the plaza, the system admits it had not actually transmitted the briefing yet, then hurriedly corrects its mistake, revealing Destroy Capital, a 2 versus 2 mission requiring the target's death before Cud's manifest. A massive armored fist interrupts his reading, descending directly over the wanted officer's body, and its heavy strike catches Wu cleanly, blasting him upward from the shattered ground. While the system mocks his slow reaction as he sails between the neon buildings, Wu activates endless knowledge, spreading red analytical threads across every energy soldier surrounding him, but their blank stares remain unchanged, suggesting his newly learned technique found nothing usable, and he realizes endless knowledge only influences physical objects, not beings made from pure energy, as more enforcers raise glowing pink weapons and advance beneath the tangled analytical lines. Yet Wu reasons this host once died, meaning some method must exist to destroy local energy. Wu connects one baton to her belt device, releasing long luminous bands that arc between buildings. She rides those energy ribbons back toward the enforcers, earning delighted praise from the system, then drives the extended baton straight into one helmet while swinging past its guard, and the rainbow-edged blade cuts through the precise glowing point embedded in that energy skull. The officer finally understands the weapon's purpose as her victim collapses without immediately reconstructing, so Wu lunges forward confidently, extending both blades for another high-speed attack against the squad, and whips through several enforcers, carving their energetic bodies apart with overlapping luminous arcs, until turquoise blade lines pin and slice the entire formation into scattered digital fragments. Wu lands among the disabled attackers, visibly winded but still gripping both transformed weapons. When the system asks why she spared them, Wu explains executions would attract stronger pursuers, and chooses reconnaissance until her promised partner arrives beneath a descending golden pagoda, whose emerald impact crushes the surrounding machines and violently transforms their energy into solid matter. The newcomer introduces himself as Li Feihong, titled Confucianism, accompanied by killing Intent System 5214. Wu observes that his title apparently made the pure energy machines corporeal during the rescue. Li's impenetrable jade body rebuilds his anatomy, while Golden Pagoda alters laws within 1 meter. With the blue team assembled, Wu shakes his hand and asks how many titles exist. System 5214 answers there are 12 known titles before Wu's own avatar sulks at being ignored. Li suggests changing systems, making 5214 defend recruitment while Wu's system accuses it of desertion. When Li asks Wu's title directly, the disguised assassin smiles and calls it a secret. Although 5214 insists teammates exchange abilities, Li gallantly accepts that girls may keep secrets. Wu's system blurts that the supposed woman is actually male, exposing his disguise to Li Lei, and both system mascots react with stunned disbelief at the unexpected revelation. While the blushing warrior stares at Wu and timidly addresses him as brother, Li awkwardly begins confessing a long-held wish, leaving Wu increasingly uncomfortable beside him until Wu recommends immediate retreat, cutting off Li's embarrassing confession and restoring their focus. A formation of airborne enforcer craft suddenly races overhead, instantly alarming the distracted Li, who leaps upward toward the leading vehicle before reconsidering Wu's warning in midair. Li declares a real man protects the pretty girl, then hastily corrects himself to brother, only to discover an enormous aerial fleet waiting beyond the first approaching patrol. Cornered by his own bravado, Li nervously insists a real man faces every challenge, while nearby towers begin breaking into unstable digital blocks as the capital's defenses escalate. Colossal armored machines rise across the street, dwarfing Li and surrounding the fleeing partners. So Li immediately revises his creed, deciding a real man should listen to good advice. He abandons the confrontation and sprints after Wu, cheerfully calling out to his brother. Li catches Wu during their escape, asking why she left and what their next move is. Memories from Police Officer 9874 reveal a specific location on the capital's internal map. Wu orders Li to follow, leading them through missiles and giant machines toward that destination. Elsewhere, a hidden woman presses her hand against a tiled wall while sensing distant activity. She reports locating the blue team to an eccentric gathering of disguised figures. Red teammates Xiao Nian and Xiao Hua assemble, with Xiao Hua's animism tracking nearby events. A green-haired subordinate enters the red team's chamber and orders both women to follow, boasting they are fortunate to serve his boss immediately after joining the organization. He leads Xiao Nian and weakened Xiao Hua upstairs through the concealed headquarters, then announces their arrival to the unseen big boss behind a closed doorway. Inside waits a horned master surrounded by masked followers in an openly decadent gathering, while an obese officer wearing a jeweled cap and visor summons the newcomers closer. The masked attendants crowd around Xiao Nian and Xiao Hua, laughing suggestively at their discomfort. Before the massive officer pulls both women against him and inspects them possessively, he calls the captured newcomers quality goods, reaching toward them with complete confidence, but Xiao Nian suddenly manifests a monstrous masked fist behind the unsuspecting officer. She smiles that this mission has delivered its objective directly into her waiting hands, then activates Fury Bodhi, launching an attack at 1000% strength toward him. The officer remains delighted by her fierceness, showing no fear of the overwhelming strike, because an unexpected distortion catches Xiao Nian's blow and leaves her staring in shock. Xiao Hua recognizes teleportation as both teammates vanish before the attack can connect. The red pair reappears hanging upside down near the chamber's vaulted crystalline ceiling. Xiao Hua wonders whether their opponent could be another exceedingly rare innate host, then realizes the phenomenon instead reflects an exchange of stored emotional energy points. Lanch's electronic beings generate different distinct energy types according to their changing emotions, and Supreme Ruler Capet controls society by monopolizing how those emotional energies are harvested. Capet divides citizens into social classes according to his personal interests and their relationships with him, leaving ordinary commoners able to spend only 30 energy points during each day. Fighters and public servants instead command hundreds or even thousands of daily energy points, while Capet's close subordinates and senior officials possess the highest allocations beneath their ruler. The officer narrowly completes teleportation, spending energy as class barriers make advancement exceptionally difficult, then arms his masked followers and orders everyone to kill the two red team intruders. Xiao Nian remembers Capet holds the world's greatest energy reserves, making 30 points hopelessly inadequate, so she relies on her system-granted tidal ability despite sustaining it for only 2 minutes. Xiao Nian activates Immovable King Ming, creating an absolute defense governed by attacks and willpower, and calmly judges the incoming energy bullets comparatively average despite this universe's energetic composition. She charges through the gunfire to test whether her system skills can damage energy beings. As colossal blue guardian arms materialize and smash the surrounding masked gunmen aside, the officer raises a heavy energy cannon, mocking the enormous difference between their available reserves, then unleashes a concentrated barrage against Xiao Nian's guarding manifestation and protective field. Xiao Nian calls him foolish, emphasizing her skills operate entirely differently from energy point summons, and manifests a gigantic armored deity whose descending strike overwhelms the chamber's defenses. The terrified officer braces his cannon while Xiao Nian prepares her first skill again. She launches Fury Bodhai, forcing him to spend every remaining energy point attempting teleportation. Realizing the girl is dangerous, he urgently resolves to report her existence directly to Capet, but his escape suddenly fails inside a green hexagonal field, leaving him confused and trapped. The enormous blue guardian's clenched fist drops directly toward the officer before he can escape, and he screams that such power is impossible as the massive blow closes in. Fury Bodhai strikes his energy body head-on, detonating it in a brilliant data explosion which scatters his visor cap and corrupted digital fragments throughout the ruined chamber. Xiao Nian confirms tidal abilities damage energy beings, although the victory leaves her visibly weakened. Yet defeating one mini-boss nearly exhausts her willpower, making Capet's far stronger target seem hopeless. Xiao Hua supports her injured partner as another violent rupture tears through the headquarters wall, revealing Wu and Li bursting through the debris while shielding themselves from falling blocks. Li questions their wall-smashing route, while Wu immediately notices the weakened red team below. Wu identifies Zhao Jiangsun as the only nearby 1,000-point user and deduces two groups fought. The blue pair lands before Xiao Nian and Xiao Hua, prompting mutual recognition as opponents. Xiao Nian's system warns the encounter is poorly timed because her skills remain temporarily unavailable. Xiao Hua nevertheless begins suggesting an action. While her injured teammate listens cautiously, Wu concludes the women are their opposing team after reading evidence from the fierce battle. But her system forbids exploiting their weakness, stopping Wu from drawing Police 9874's blade. Police machines surround Wu and demand that wanted Officer 9874 immediately stop resisting. Wu reports killing dark web operator Zhao Jiangsun for resisting arrest and requests cleared charges. The authorities accept her report and begin scanning Zhao's residual data for corroborating evidence. Li asks how Wu found the location after explaining 9874 was accused of police betrayal. Wu answers that Police 9874 exchanged her life to obtain the crucial intelligence. Xiao Nian quietly tells Xiao Hua to leave while the authorities remain distracted, as a commanding blonde official arrives with armored escorts and surveys the devastated streets. He remarks that the disturbance resulted from catching a valuable big fish at last, and the saluting machines identify this powerful newcomer as Lanch's supreme ruler, Lord Capet. Both blue and red hosts instantly recognize Capet as the killing mission's true target. Capet warmly tells Wu that proving Zhao Jiangsun's crimes would make 9874 the city's hero. However, he orders the officer escorted back while investigators confirm every part of the incident. Wu accepts Capet's request politely, insisting cooperation remains part of her police duty. She introduces Li as an enthusiastic citizen informant who volunteered without entering police records. Capet instructs the machines to safeguard both young women and Li at the station. Privately, he remembers Zhao sent an incomplete message before death and suspects everyone present, deciding to monitor all potential culprits while his armored forces secure the destroyed headquarters. Wu waits silently inside an empty police interview room, anticipating the supposed investigation, then becomes suspicious because no investigator arrives despite the importance of Zhao's case. Li suddenly crashes through the sealed doorway, protecting his head from the violent impact, and warns Wu that the two red team women have successfully deceived and trapped them. Capet enters immediately afterward, thanking the returning women as heroines for their report, then brands Wu Zhao's accomplice and sentences both blue hosts to DreamWorks factory re-education. Wu stares at the accusers in disbelief, struggling to understand how they reversed everything. Scanners display Xiao Nian and Xiao Hua each possessing an extraordinary 5,000 energy points. Wu's system welcomes the red team's first strike, declaring retaliation now fully permissible, while armed guards transport Wu and Li toward DreamWorks factory aboard an armored prison bus. Wu gives Li a countdown, instructing him to charge toward 9 o'clock after 3 seconds, and Li eagerly agrees while secretly preparing to break the restraints around his wrists. Both prisoners snap their handcuff chains simultaneously as the guards remain momentarily unsuspecting, then whirl through the escort squad with sweeping kicks, knocking multiple officers aside. The freed partners sprint away from the convoy while surviving guards immediately begin pursuit, until a silver-haired female commander blocks the road with several organized armed subordinates. Li charges her using impenetrable jade body, while Wu suddenly recognizes something important. His reconstructed muscles swell dramatically as he prepares an overwhelming direct punch against her, but Wu's system identifies the commander as Jiang Pinger, somehow escaped from killing in tent space. Wu grabs Li's shoulder and urgently stops the punch, leaving his bewildered partner protesting. Ordinary guards surround both escapees, while Li complains that Wu ruined their opening. Jiang dismisses the other guards and orders them to leave both prisoners entirely to her. One subordinate warns that the captives' combined combat power greatly exceeded their expectations. Jiang mistakes the warning for comparison with herself, then confidently dismisses their concern. She orders every guard away and confronts Wu alone without displaying any apparent fear. Li watches the retreating squad and warns Wu that this commander will be difficult. Jiang suddenly embraces Wu and joyfully calls him teacher, completely shocking the watching Li. Wu says the system revealed her identity, then asks how Jiang became a girl. Jiang admits she cannot explain the recognition, only feeling certain Wu was her teacher, and shyly suggests their hearts may remain mysteriously connected across worlds and bodies. Wu's furious system rejects that romantic explanation and demands why Jiang reached this mission, while Jiang pauses thoughtfully, trying to understand the impossible transfer beside the increasingly impatient Wu. She finally admits complete ignorance, leaving both Wu and his system visibly unsettled. Wu asks whether this is truly their Jiang, while the system wonders what her body conceals. Jiang and Li exchange friendly introductions as Wu privately considers the secret behind her incarnation. Pressed for time, Jiang directly asks whether Wu's current mission concerns ruler Capet. Wu says he also has questions, especially how Jiang mastered her role so quickly. Unknown to the reunited hosts, Capet watches their conversation remotely through a surveillance screen. Elsewhere, Xiao Nian challenges Capet for apparently allowing the dangerous blue pair to escape. Capet claims DreamWorks Factory exists to offer every criminal an opportunity for personal reform. Xiao Nian realizes Capet will not eliminate her rivals, while he orders her to replace Zhao. Supported by Xiao Hua, she reluctantly promises they will complete the required work. The two red hosts excuse themselves from Capet's office and prepare to change strategy. Capet returns to his surveillance console while Xiao Nian leads her injured partner away. Once outside, both women exchange a knowing glance confirming their shared tactical decision. Their paired system mascots activate a private killing intent team communication channel for secret planning, whose secure mode prevents every possible form of outside eavesdropping or surveillance on teammates. Xiao Nian concedes that using Capet against their rivals before assassinating him has failed. Xiao Hua explains Zhao's inherited distribution rights cannot gather enough energy to overpower Capet, leading Xiao Nian to conclude that only one viable assassination strategy now remains. They will use Xiao Hua's skill to cutify others and make those victims kill Capet. All creations have spirit scans guard Zhang San's virtual body and influences his life state, allowing Xiao Hua to raise the 32-year-old guard's cutification level with one touch. Meanwhile, Wu and Li ride among complaining prisoners as guards transport them toward forced reform. Li bombards Wu with questions about Jiang, her host's status, and mysterious energy point transfer. Wu admits having no answers, then redirects their full attention toward available mission intelligence. Li summarizes an energy-dominated world, supreme target Capet, and two unpredictable childlike opponents. Wu agrees conventional attacks cannot defeat Capet while he controls the world's energy rules, and notes her own skills require material targets while Li's tidal powers have strict limits. Li admits full-strength combat lasts roughly 90 seconds before severe headaches incapacitate him. Wu questions whether he could kill Capet that quickly, even using sunflower acupuncture hand. Concluding their limited powers are insufficient alone, Wu proposes one remaining indirect solution, and Li's widening eyes show he understands the dangerous implication behind her strategy. Wu explains Capet installed exploitable backdoors within 4 of his most trusted powerful subordinates. When Li asks how to locate them, their prison bus suddenly stops at its destination. Wu selects Magistrate Mr. E's DreamWorks Factory, one of Capet's 4 backdoors, for practice. The flamboyant magistrate welcomes the arriving prisoners as eager new admirers gathered below. Mr. E invites Wu into his family, while she calmly prepares to exploit him. Li worries the enormous amusement park makes locating Mr. E's hidden backdoor practically impossible, and proposes seizing a nearby worker for interrogation despite Wu's more patient approach. An announcement promises everyone passing newcomer training can attend Mr. E's personal meet and greet. Making Lee suspicious that such an easy opportunity must conceal a dangerous trap, Wu immediately requests 2 places from cheerleaders, while Lee desperately begs her to reconsider. After a reluctant visitor is violently punished, Lee abandons his objection and follows Wu. He watches new fans perform a cheerful ritual around another collapsed, unresponsive prisoner. Grim uniformed attendants and acrobatic cheerleaders silently pressure Lee into accepting the orientation. Lee nervously joins their chanting procession, pretending enthusiasm to reach the promised meeting. Inside a dark theater, Wu senses the real procedure beginning while Lee demands her plan. She says Lee's concealed skills inspired several interesting applications for the coming test, but chooses to observe first, ignoring Lee's demand that she complete the explanation. A performer chants that Mr. E is everything while displaying an anonymous subject on-screen. Automated restraints suddenly lock Wu's torso and limbs firmly against the theater chair. Waves of agonizing stimulation make bound audience members scream together and beg for release, yet the presentation continues with another portrait beneath relentless declarations of Mr. E's supremacy. Wu endures the mechanism while beginning to recognize the psychological structure behind the spectacle. The performer reveals Mr. E's glittering portrait, prompting captives to repeat the worshipful slogan. Wu identifies a Milgram obedience experiment designed to brainwash every prisoner into becoming Mr. E's fan, as the test exploits submission to authority despite commands violating each subject's conscience. Wu secretly draws an energy blade and cuts through the chair's restraining straps. She also detects hypnotic gas, but her assassin training provides strong mental resistance. After freeing herself, Wu tells the still struggling Lee to wait while she investigates. Lee desperately repeats martial arts teachings and family memories while resisting the implanted loyalty, and Wu admires his willpower but realizes that resistance gives Mr. E greater leverage. Discovering the orientation also uses potent sedatives, Wu retrieves a suitable injector from storage. She injects Lee, yet the drug proves useless against the conditioning already controlling him. Lee transforms into a striped factory prisoner as Mr. E claims him within the family. Completely brainwashed, Lee attacks Wu with reconstructed strength while she leaps backward from his blow. Wu impales Mr. E's nearby body and shouts for Lee to recognize the real enemy. Her system notes the expected teammate betrayal while Wu urgently questions Lee's mascot Gulu. Lee answers only with another furious charge, his eyes blank beneath overwhelming implanted rage. Gulu explains Lee is trapped in past memories where he now considers Wu his enemy. Wu counters the rampaging partner with a driving body blow that hurls him sideways. Both fighters briefly recover their footing, watching each other for the next opening. Wu fires another weapon while sliding across the floor under Lee's continuing pursuit. She compares his strength to a cud but hesitates to buy weapons that might injure him. Wu regrets not killing Mr. E sooner, until her system insists that she already did. Mr. E reappears through surrounding family members, revealing that death did not end his control, and declares that killing any number of bodies cannot eliminate his continuing presence. Mr. E demonstrates endless replacements by transferring into family members after murdering each discarded host, and Gulu confirms seeing his spiritual body shift instantly between 2 different people. Lee charges Wu again while the possessing Mr. E invites her to join his family, forcing Wu to block another devastating punch that drives her hard against theater furniture. Lee unleashes a relentless sequence of green energy blows as Wu struggles to create distance, and she fears his uncontrolled assault will soon overwhelm her defensive endurance during their duel. One crushing strike finally smashes Wu into the floor, shattering stone around her body, where Mr. E approaches the apparently unconscious assassin while Lee watches over his conquest. The smiling magistrate reaches down and welcomes Wu personally into his boundless family, but Wu suddenly seizes his wrist, revealing she remained conscious and prepared this counter. Mr. E realizes she is unharmed as Wu maintains the grip and signals her partner. Then Wu calls Lee into action, shocking the magistrate when the brainwashed warrior returns to normal. Their system mascots combine into one split-faced avatar, initiating synchronized skill cooperation between them. Lee invokes Golden Pagoda's materialization and angrily condemns Mr. E for hurting his partner. When Mr. E boasts he can resurrect through family, Wu reveals they do not intend killing him. Instead, Golden Pagoda stacks with Wu's endless knowledge against the magistrate's spiritual network, producing a blazing boat-like structure that leaves Mr. E unable to recognize their combined power. Wu mockingly calls herself an ordinary passerby while controlling the luminous constructed domain, then demands Mr. E reveal the hidden backdoor and secrets behind Capit's energy authority. The magistrate finds Wu seated within the glowing vessel beneath his own looming consciousness. Wu explores memories of Capit personally recruiting Mr. E from among ordinary marginalized citizens, then witnesses machines surgically reconstruct the recruit's injured material body through invasive procedures. The bandaged patient examines his altered face while Capit watches his transformation from behind, before emerging as the adored magistrate, surrounded by cheering followers at DreamWorks Factory. Searching those memories, Wu finally locates Capit's hidden backdoor represented through eyes in Mr. E's palms, and escapes the blazing combined skill vessel as Lee anxiously calls after his returning partner. Wu collapses exhausted onto the broken floor, prompting Lee and Gulu to ask what happened. She triumphantly displays an extracted eye-shaped fragment and confirms securing the hidden backdoor. While Lee celebrates with Gulu, Wu senses unfamiliar power entering directly into her mind. Mr. E recognizes that Wu comes from another world, astonishing Lee and his system. He admits glimpsing Lee's memories during possession and discovering universes dominated by physical matter. Wu threatens secrecy through death, but the magistrate confidently insists she cannot kill him. He declares his existence will survive forever within Lord Capet's hands regardless of bodily destruction. Yet Mr. E's energy begins disintegrating spontaneously before Wu can interrogate him further. Wu identifies Capet's self-destruct program, while Mr. E offers one final, supposedly interesting revelation. The dissolving magistrate proclaims his own destruction eternal glory performed for Lord Capet. His remaining body erupts into bright digital flames as Wu and Lee watch in silence. Lee admits their victory feels strangely like defeat after Mr. E's ominous final words. And Wu urges securing another energy source before the self-destruct warning brings Capet. Elsewhere, Capet activates a control display while Jiang Pinger stands silently nearby inside his office. Capet reels from sudden feedback, clutching his forehead as the stolen backdoor affects him, and Jiang rushes forward with apparent concern before he silently signals her to stop. Capet calmly explains that thieves stole the backdoor previously guarded by Mr. E, making Jiang loudly demand the culprit's identity while privately celebrating her teacher's success. She notices Capet somehow knows events he never witnessed and appears pleased by the theft, and he correctly guesses her question, amused rather than angered by losing the program. Capet displays Mr. E's final transmitted image, revealing the combined skill used against him, then identifies it as an ability originating outside Lanch, leaving Jiang theatrically astonished. Capet explains 9874 called Lee an informant, yet their records show no prior interaction, while official information says Zhao assassinated 9874 and the accompanying man also died accidentally. Therefore, he asks what resurrected outsiders would return seeking his carefully protected backdoor, and calls the two hosts heavenly gifts perfectly suited to completing his immortality plan. When Jiang remains confused, Capet prepares to explain the planetary crisis she supposedly does not understand. He discovered Lanch's irreversible energy exploitation decay young and created the energy value system, which harvests citizens' emotions as energy to sustain the weakening planet and prolong lives. However, repeated manipulation gradually made citizens emotionally apathetic and increasingly difficult to stimulate, so Capet raised Zhao, Jiang, Mr. E, and Kiltz to control society's major sectors. Jiang suggests public control, but Capet dismisses ordinary people as short-sighted and needing superior leadership. He believes resurrected 9874 and Lee could provide a new method to revive Lanch. Jiang outwardly offers service while inwardly panicking that Capet is egotistical and monitoring everything. Jiang asks whether she should arrest the outsiders, but Capet says preparations are already underway. Before an emergency display shows a rampaging monster attacking guards elsewhere inside the complex. The newly formed armored Cud unleashes crossing energy slashes through the defending security squad, piercing multiple guards through their cores and dropping them screaming across the corridor. Xiao Nian and Xiao Hua secretly celebrate their level 1 Cud, expecting it to pressure Capet. Jiang debates fleeing to protect her cover or exploiting the chaos to help Wu kill Capet, then outwardly recommends immediate retreat while privately considering this assassination opportunity to assist her allies. Capet rebukes her lost composure, declaring that no mere bug can frighten a lion. As the Cud attacks, Capet calmly turns his back and issues the command lock. A luminous geometric cage instantly immobilizes the massive creature directly behind its unbothered target, and Capet follows with the single absolute order erase against the helpless attacker. His authority disintegrates the Cud and nearby bodies into immense streams of scattered energy. Jiang and the watching red team stare in shock at Capet's effortless annihilation. Standing amid the vaporized remains, Capet begins reminding them who controls this world's laws, then declares himself God, demonstrating power far beyond either team's current expectations inside Lanch itself. Capet says Kiltz will return with both anomalies while they purge every suspicious presence. Alarmed, Jiang asks what he means by clearing the surroundings before Kiltz returns. Capet begins checking everyone's data, intent on eliminating all other outsiders as troublesome bugs. Jiang realizes the scan prevents warning Wu and could expose her own false identity. Trapped beside Capet, she silently apologizes that teacher must now survive without her help. Wu refuses to undo the remaining family hypnosis as they leave DreamWorks' ruined entrance. She calls the enthralled civilians valuable combat power, making principled Lee compare her to Mr. E, and argues energy control alone is insufficient without enough followers to compete in quantity. Because Capet surely hides reserves beyond public values, refusing this advantage would doom them, but Lee abruptly snatches the eye-shaped backdoor fragment before Wu can use its authority. He declares a good man never uses others, while Wu demands the leverage back from him. Wu proposes taking control herself as a win-win, preserving friendship and completing the mission. Their quarrel is interrupted by a flamboyant executive arriving in a red sports car, who claims the stolen backdoor, activates employee attendance, and awards KPI points for capturing both hosts. Waves of suited workers rush forward after their boss promises double year-end bonuses. Wu kicks one attacker away while insisting righteous people cannot cooperate with evil. Lee counters that mission success requires maximizing every advantage, dropping another employee with one kick, but Wu says necessity never excuses harming others as their delighted enemy watches the dispute. She blocks an incoming punch with her baton, promising to demonstrate a better method, while Lee activates impenetrable jade body and reconstructs his muscles for independent combat. He releases an expanding green shockwave, declaring he can win without exploiting innocent people. Then drives a reinforced fist directly into one employee's face at close range. Another suited fighter is hurled backward as Lee tears through the surrounding workforce, before Lee unleashes a rapid combination against the red-suited enforcer guarding the executive, and finishes with a massive rising kick that launches the man high across the arena. Lee's brutal follow-up kick drives the red-suited enforcer headfirst across the shattered arena floor. He then catches another employee and smashes his head into the first fallen man's face, while two more workers are launched away as Lee dismantles their overwhelming numerical advantage. Panting after the barrage, Lee lands beside Wu while the red-suited executive lies crumpled behind, then proudly calls this a good man's determination, earning restrained approval from Wu. Yet strange laughter from the defeated executive immediately makes both hosts turn back in suspicion. As the battered man catalogs 128 light injuries, 72 severe wounds, and 3 fatal injuries, Lee protests that he never struck the man's head. Questioning why the executive sounds stupider but still smiling, the executive promises to reward Lee for causing him such catastrophic harm. He opens his shirt to reveal a stock market display glowing directly across his chest, while nearby workers panic that Boss Jai's condition means all of them are financially finished. Red salary cut notices instantly appear over employees, threatening repeated 50% penalties for their failure, and they absorb the executive's injuries, collapsing and screaming as wounds transfer into them. Wu and Lee finally understand the executive redistributed every injury instead of surviving through toughness, as the restored man identifies himself as Kiltz, Company A's president, and unveils hedging risk. Kiltz announces his turn with serene confidence, completely erasing the damage Lee inflicted, then orders the terrified workforce to bind both hosts within 5 minutes under looming pressure. A performance assessment grants employees doubled movement speed and defense until they seize their targets, and empowered workers charge, but Wu demands whether Kiltz truly refuses surrendering Capit's backdoor. Lee tries awakening the controlled employees, insisting the hosts came to rescue rather than hurt them. The employees reject Lee's warning, insisting nobody controls them and demanding he surrender willingly, so Lee dodges their rush and asks why supposedly free people protect such a villain. One worker admits rebellion could erase their remaining energy, leaving their families hungry after earlier punishment, while another tearfully condemns Lee's idealism as selfish nonsense insulated against their brutal consequences. The workers admit everyone wants heroism, yet survival in real life demands obedience, and their desperate argument shakes Lee, who cannot reconcile human dignity with coerced submission. Wu discreetly injects him with a blue vial and reminds him he still has choice, but as employees restrain Lee, he asks whether Wu truly believes they can rescue everyone. Wu answers that people save themselves, while heroes create the opportunity they desperately need, inspiring Lee to erupt again and blast surrounding workers away with renewed jade body strength. Wu prepares a green injection while ordering Lee to think beyond his rigid principles, and Lee fixes her with a stern gaze, warning Wu not to break the promise. Clutching the eye-shaped backdoor, Wu reacts playfully as a more audacious strategy takes shape, then asks whether Company A is hiring her unusual friends while Kiltz threatens unpaid salaries. Mistaking her proposal for surrender, Kiltz eagerly welcomes new members into his corporate machine, but Wu leads Mr. E's family forward and cheekily claims the company presidency herself. Kiltz calls her greedy and threatens she will die before ever assuming his position, prompting both leaders to launch assembled forces while trading boasts about whose luck ends first. The two crowds collide in a violent eruption of pink energy and flying bodies, as Kiltz suddenly charges through the chaos toward Wu, startling both hosts with his intervention. A vast green data wave sweeps over DreamWorks, forcing Wu and Lee to halt mid-battle. Kiltz recognizes Capit's outsider investigation and wonders what power merits the ruler's personal attention, then pauses hostilities and considers recruiting their otherworldly strength to help him overthrow Capit. Elsewhere, Capit runs the scan beside nervous Jiang while another blonde subordinate monitors results, and Jiang asks whether Capit distrusts his loyal follower, privately panicking her disguise is broken. Capit assures her he merely checks everyone, regardless of whether obvious abnormalities appear. While unable to escape, Jiang secretly draws a green pistol and resolves to strike first. Capit calmly isolates an anomalous data signature among the streaming red and green code. As Jiang finally aims her weapon and fires, abandoning caution to protect Wu from discovery, but Capit exposes two arriving outsiders connected to Zhao Jiangsun's death, leaving Jiang unexpectedly uncompromised, and she silently celebrates that her cover survived as the newcomers become Capit's targets. Capit assigns their execution to Jiang, presenting the order as an apology for doubting her, so Jiang thanks him politely while leveling her pistol at two wary young female intruders. Inwardly, she panics because she has never killed anyone and sees them as children, while Capet withdraws and leaves the confrontation entirely to his supposedly loyal subordinate Jiang. He wants their otherworldly powers tested against Jiang, his strongest subordinate titled Death Apotheosis, then mockingly asks whether visibly tense Jiang can contain her excitement for the battle. Jiang delivers a murderous threat while inwardly begging the girls to surrender because she cannot fight. But both intruders judge Jiang unimpressive while agreeing her reputation demands careful tactics. The masked maid makes the first move, prompting Jiang to fire her green energy pistol. Xiao Nian bursts past Jiang's opening gunshot and closes distance before she can recover, making Jiang realize the assault could expose her deception and kill her borrowed body. Spotting apparent vulnerability, Nian summons Fury Bodhai and drives its enormous fist toward Jiang. But Jiang's body moves unconsciously, delivering a sudden kick that catches Nian completely unprepared. Shocked, Jiang realizes the borrowed form possesses automatic combat instincts beyond her own experience, concluding its previous owner was an assassin whose muscle memory now directs the pursuit. Those instincts seize control again, launching Jiang into another precise strike despite her internal panic. Before Jiang manifests a massive translucent energy fist that crushes Nian's attempted counterattack. Furious at being toyed with, Nian expands Fury Bodhai into a colossal golden striking form, but Jiang answers with an energy blade, splitting the giant fist before Capet's amused gaze. Capet observes Jiang can control nearly 20% of all energy across the world and views the outsiders as heaven-sent resources for completing his secret eternal life plan. Nian recognizes Jiang can distort space, leaving conventional attacks at a severe tactical disadvantage, then orders Xiao Hua to cutify Jiang into a hundredfold monster capable of killing Capet. Xiao Hua activates animism and accesses Jiang Pinger's hidden cutification state despite her disguise, as a system panel identifies Jiang and opens direct control over her dangerous transformation level. Xiao Hua reaches toward the cutification control, preparing to force its value upward. But sensing catastrophe, Jiang lunges with an energy blade before Hua completes the adjustment. Jiang's slash tears through the maid's body, yet Hua invokes her as their strength, leaving Jiang frozen after the bloody strike while Nian watches and wounded Hua remains standing. Yet no transformation occurs, surprising Jiang and leaving both red hosts staring in disbelief. Capet correctly reads their reaction, concluding Xiao Hua's intended effect on Jiang mysteriously failed. While Hua protests that cutification was pushed fully to maximum without producing anything, Nian wonders whether Jiang is another transmigrator, but detects no expected yin-yang reaction. Capet assumes only Nian possesses useful powers and orders Jiang to kill Hua while capturing Nian, so Jiang obeys outwardly but silently urges the red hosts to reveal another countermeasure immediately. Bloodied Hua refuses being called trash, while Nian steadies the deeply distraught brother. As Jiang swings her blade deliberately aside, attempting to fake a lethal attack, an enormous blue energy fist nevertheless slams both siblings together, ruining Jiang's planned miss, and blood spills from Nian's mouth as Hua catches the sibling and cries the name. Hua's humiliation and fear ignite a fierce red mark across the maid body's chest, while Capet impatiently orders Jiang to kill the useless boy immediately instead of delaying. Jiang apologizes while despairing that maintaining her murderous facade is impossible without Wu, then lowers her cap and silently calls for teacher as pressure closes around her. An unexpected familiar voice criticizes Jiang's slow execution, suggesting her hoped-for rescue has arrived, as Kiltz enters with apparently captured Wu and Li, presenting both outsiders directly to Capet. Overwhelmed, Jiang raises her blade and angrily shouts Kiltz's name across the chamber. But Wu's subtle wink prompts reconsideration because teacher would never surrender without a calculated plan. As Kiltz approaches Capet with both hosts, Jiang wonders whether the capture serves Wu's strategy. Earlier, Kiltz proposed negotiations after deciding their power might help him eliminate Capet. In the flashback, Li rejects surrendering, but Wu coolly invites Kiltz to continue his proposal. Kiltz explains the hosts forced Capet into his first worldwide investigation since taking energy control, though Wu remains unimpressed and bluntly demands that Kiltz reach his actual point. Kiltz offers his own backdoor as proof of alliance, knowing the hosts seek Capet's vulnerability, and Wu asks what service he expects while Li grips the displayed control fragment. Kiltz reveals his real objective: help him seize control of Capet rather than merely escape. Li questions how Kiltz could challenge their target after surrendering the crucial backdoor, but Kiltz says direct confrontation is unnecessary because he discovered one of Capet's hidden secrets. Controlling that secret, he promises, will ensure victory against the supposedly untouchable ruler, though Wu counters that such certainty means Kiltz should need no assistance from them. Kiltz playfully rejects her conclusion, raising one finger before revealing the remaining condition. He needs Wu and Li to restrain Capet for precisely 30 uninterrupted seconds, claiming that single opening will let him take Capet down through his secret method. Back in the chamber, Kiltz marches his bound allies forward while Li loudly performs resistance, and Capet praises Secretary Kiltz for completing their capture, apparently accepting the deception. Kiltz bows like a reliable subordinate as Jiang anxiously wonders what teacher truly plans. While watching from behind, Nyan and Hua notice something concealed among the captor's movements. Wu and Li shield Kiltz from view as he secretly clasps a glowing orange control sphere, making Nyan realize all three joined forces while Kiltz maintains perfect deference toward Capet. Li suddenly surges forward, snapping his restraints as red energy lines twist around Wu. Li lunges and pins Capet against the chair, prompting him to accuse Kiltz of betrayal. Kiltz claims Capet placed the weapon in his hands by distributing fragments of supreme authority, then begins absorbing Capet's energy and boasts complete takeover requires only 30 seconds. Wu confirms why they must hold the ruler while Kiltz laughs through the transfer, and Jiang expects easy victory, but Nyan bitterly suggests the red team should surrender. Xiao Hua rejects surrender absolutely, refusing to abandon the mission despite their disadvantages. While Jiang notices Wu remains grim as Capet prepares to counter the renewed assault, Kiltz reveals every energy reservoir has a fixed upper limit, discovered after Capet shared authority, and says backdoor stored Capet's overflow while secret exploitation raised Kiltz above the weakened ruler. Wu and Li grow suspicious because Capet offers no meaningful resistance to the takeover, as Kiltz proclaims Lanch ready for new management while stolen energy floods his body. Xiao Nian sends Fury Bodhai crashing toward Capet, claiming the target for the red team, but Jiang realizes she relaxed too early and prepares to enter the converging battle. Determined to support Wu, Jiang rushes forward despite dangerous powers filling the chamber. While Xiao Hua tries stopping her with a shaky death threat Jiang finds completely unconvincing. Jiang urges the younger-looking host to surrender, but Hua answers with unsettling laughter. As Capet catches Nyan's enormous golden fist bare-handed and contemptuously calls the attack boring, he then deliberately unleashes all remaining energy, inviting Kiltz to absorb the overwhelming flood. The massive transfer engulfs Kiltz in blinding red-white power, instantly shattering his confidence, and a gigantic energy sphere expands around Capet as every host stares upward in alarm. Kiltz steadies himself, boasting his body can contain over 100 million energy points. While Wu, Li, Jiang, Nyan, and Hua respond with stunned silence instead of fear. Mistaking disbelief for intimidation, Kiltz demands everyone acknowledge the scale of his power, but Nyan calls him pathetic as stolen energy inflates Kiltz into an enormous bloated mass. Capet remarks 100 million only exceeds his ancient strength and declares himself fundamentally abnormal, proclaiming godhood beyond worldly conventions and promising to lead Lanch into a new era. The terrified Kiltz finally asks how far Capet's real energy capacity actually extends, and Capet casually answers that he stopped counting after his reserves passed 1 Zhao. Kiltz floats helplessly overhead, swollen beyond recognition by energy his body cannot contain, while Capet immobilizes Wu and Li completely before measuring his own overflowing strength. With a finger snap, he chooses the assembled outsiders as targets for his experiment, causing trapped energy to erupt through Kiltz's bulging body in multiple incandescent spikes at once. A blinding explosion fills the chamber, forcing everyone below to shield themselves from annihilation, as Jiang's terror drives her cutification index sharply upward, reaching 90% amid the blast. Kiltz becomes the core of a roaring golden detonation that tears through the control complex, and panicked guards flee while the expanding fireball consumes corridors far beyond the chamber. A colossal energy beam erupts from the tower into space and strikes the distant planet, before smoke clears to reveal every host scattered across rubble while Capet remains standing. Capet pins Nyan underfoot, impressed she survived a blast carrying more than 1 Zhao, but a sudden impact from behind reveals another combatant also survived the catastrophe. Xiao Hua manifests a towering crimson cud, demanding Capet remove his foot from Nyan. Capet hears another furious insult behind him and turns, surprised by the speaker's survival, then recognizes Jiang approaching with drawn blade and wonders whether she transformed too. Black-eyed Jiang claims exclusive vengeance against the man who dared injure her beloved teacher, while Jiang and Hua charge simultaneously, each threatening to kill Capet before the other. The two enraged attackers converge as Capet stands relaxed between their competing claims, raising a blue spherical barrier and calling their decision to challenge him unforgivably stupid. Even mid-attack, Jiang and Hua continue arguing over who gets to fight the ruler, while their rapid blows hammer Capet's barrier from opposite sides and spread deep cracks. Capet's confident smile turns curious as the combined pressure finally catches his attention, while Wu and Li wonder who Jiang really is and how she became so powerful. Nyan warns Hua that sustaining the reckless barrage will lead directly to death, then shouts again that her brother will die if the violent assault continues. Jiang and Hua unleash simultaneous finishing blows, shattering the blue barrier around Capet, and their converging strikes erupt into another golden explosion that throws wounded observers backward. Li celebrates their apparent success while Wu studies the smoke with guarded suspicion. And Nyan asks whether that explosion truly finished Capet, sharing the other's uncertain relief. Unharmed, Capet emerges holding Jiang, dismissing both attacks and reconsidering whether they deserve study, saying their worth for his perfect plan remains undecided before stomping Hua's crimson body. Coughing blood, Hua collapses as distraught Nyan rushes forward crying for her brother. Hua insists on continuing, but Nyan warns the skill's side effects make further fighting impossible. Protecting her brother, Nyan formally concedes the mission and asks their system for extraction, while the blue system mascot appears as she desperately repeats her request for evacuation. Before escape activates, Capet drives a sharp energy blade straight through Nyan's torso, and bloodied Hua catches the collapsing Nyan, repeatedly calling the sibling's name in horror. Dying Nyan urges her brother to flee while digital fragments spread across the borrowed body. But Capet intercepts their retreat, leaving Hua screaming helplessly as Nyan fades before him. He denies permission to leave while Nyan's virtual body disintegrates into blue data, and Jiang struggles in Capet's grasp, realizing their final usable backdoor has been spent. Wu's system estimates Capet near life level 4, making normal backdoor competition completely impossible. Wu admits another much riskier option exists, frustrating Li because she concealed it until now. Then whispers the method privately and warns Li that learning it may get him killed. Meanwhile, Capet chokes Jiang and laughs that the outsiders have exhausted their entire challenge. As enraged Hua charges again, demanding Capet return the gravely wounded sister immediately. Capet effortlessly catches Hua's fist and mocks the recklessness of attacking from such disadvantage, but crimson energy spreads beneath them as Hua's power mutates into a deadlier state. Through the surging blood-red aura, Hua repeats the demand with absolute murderous resolve, while Beastmaster's second skill, Bloodthirst Berserk, enlarges Hua's crimson avatar into a gigantic monster. The Berserk beast roars and crushes its enormous fist directly into Capet's body, and the collision blasts Jiang aside while forcing Capet backward across the shattered platform. Wu catches Jiang before she crashes into rubble, bringing the exhausted student safely against her chest. As Jiang apologizes for failing to help, ashamed despite everything endured under Capet's scrutiny, Wu reassures her she already accomplished enough and gently takes responsibility for the remainder, while both watch Hua's berserk monster batter Capet's reconstructed blue barrier across the ruins. Jiang fears Wu's hidden method requires self-sacrifice like Hua's increasingly suicidal assault against Capet, then blames her own weakness as black cud markings spread further across her face. Capet dismisses Hua's struggle as useless, blocks another punch, and blasts the monster backward. The strike costs Capet 10,000 energy points, yet he boasts his reserves make him immortal, while Hua continues attacking and Capet declares nobody can kill him while energy remains. Wu challenges that claim by asking what happens when his energy supply is severed, making Capet notice Wu and Li behind him, calmly activating their prepared countermeasure. He calls energy severance the century's dumbest joke, but Wu calmly asks whether it is. Green data streams suddenly flash across Capet's eyes, replacing mockery with genuine shock as his colossal reserves disappear uncontrollably while digital code coils around his body. Li praises Wu's ruthless reversal, while she names the strategy overturning the boat, and Capet stares at his draining hand, demanding an explanation for their impossible interference. Li reveals they earlier broadcast Capet's grandiose speech to every citizen throughout Lanch, and shocked Capet collapses beneath Hua's renewed blow as his virtual energy foundation destabilizes. Wu explains Mr. Ian Kiltz revealed the weakness, surprising Jiang that teacher inferred it, while Jiang remembers Capet's pompous rhetoric and concludes his Chunabu nature enabled the trap. Wu reveals she exposed the truth so citizens could choose whether to remain manipulated. Their enraged rejection leaves Capet vulnerable, allowing Hua's crimson beast to pummel him mercilessly. Jiang hesitates over the mission, but Wu insists survival matters more than completing their teacher's objective. The blood beast grips battered Capet, who unexpectedly compliments their clever public exposure strategy. Yet a quadrillion-point deduction only leaves Capet kneeling briefly before his hidden countermeasure activates. He unveils an enormous mechanized combat form, calling it his never-before-needed trump card. Newly empowered Capet sends Hua's multiform beast crashing through the shattered arena violently. Wu, Jiang, and Li stare as armored Capet stands over the roaring monster. Capet charges a colossal arm cannon and condescendingly prepares to explain his surviving power, firing into Hua while revealing that citizen energy was never governed by merely superficial software. Riddled with blast holes, Hua remains upright, prompting Capet to praise the monster's toughness. Wu realizes Capet secretly implanted something physical within every citizen beneath the visible system. Smirking at her deduction, Capet raises his glowing cannon for another devastating shot. He explains emotional energy still enters him physically even after citizens disconnect from the outer layer. Consequently, their furious backlash has made Capet stronger than ever while Hua lies defeated. Capet coldly thanks Wu for provoking the population and empowering his concealed biological network. Facing the towering armor, Li jokes about dying together while Wu declares they will survive. Capet aims his cannon at them, promising their deaths will be delayed only briefly. The weapon erupts in a huge blast, forcing Wu and Li to scatter separately. Capet relentlessly tracks their escape with the charged cannon, refusing to let either flee. Wu lands a sword strike across Capet's armored head, but he dismisses it as useless. Capet repels her with a spherical barrier, hurling Wu helplessly across the ruined chamber. Jiang and Li converge beside Wu, prompting Capet to mock the ant's coordinated assault. Capet throws simultaneous giant punches toward Li and Jiang as both charge from opposite sides. Li catches one mechanical fist while Jiang slips across the other enormous arm. Clinging to Capet's armor, both attackers restrain his arms despite his confident mockery. Li activates Golden Pagoda's second form, transforming Capet's energy body into tangible matter. His massive armor falls away as Capet realizes his existence has fundamentally changed form. Wu explains their home field disadvantage requires turning Capet into something their abilities can control. She draws on Li's change matter structure and Jiang's cutification through learnable skill links. Wu fuses them with endless knowledge, forcibly cutifying the newly materialized Capit immediately. Capit collapses into a tightly coiled red cocoon as all three hosts recoil. Lee nervously asks whether it worked, and Wu orders the system to extract Capit. The mission declares Capit dead and gives Wu and Lee 10 seconds before departure. Delighted, Lee praises Wu's insight that complete cutification is functionally equivalent to death. Seconds later, the system detects a level 4 undead Cud born with 9 seconds remaining. Wu and Li suddenly stare past confused Jiang, whose body becomes the apparent danger's focus. A sinister crack opens across Jiang's abdomen while she looks down in bewilderment. The reborn undead Capit materializes directly behind Jiang, catching her completely unaware again, then suddenly reveals a bloodied blade-like arm after stabbing through her from behind. Capit grins with undead pressure as countdown drops to 8 seconds before extraction. With Jiang collapsed nearby, sword-wielding Capit turns toward Wu and Li for another attack. The system mascot urges flight, but trembling Li admits the crushing aura prevents immediate escape. Wu recognizes pressure far surpassing the previous Cud, leaving both hosts almost immobilized. Capit presses his blade against Wu's throat while she wonders whether everything ends here. He suddenly swings the weapon, committing to a finishing cut before extraction arrives. Blood sprays across Lee, who stares in shock and calls desperately to his brother. Yet Hua's crimson claw punches through Capit first, interrupting the fatal sword strike. The surviving blood beast curses Capit and attacks again from directly behind him. Multiple crystalline spikes burst through Capit's torso as Hua tears his undead body apart. Capit's fragmented corpse twists into a digital vortex, refusing to remain destroyed permanently. Lee briefly celebrates their kill, but dark fragments continue gathering around Capit's remains. With 7 seconds left, black tendrils rebuild Capit's severed limbs around the swirling core. Hua roars defiantly and drives another massive fist toward the regenerating undead vortex. The mascot warns Wu that level 4 Cuds are nearly immortal and far beyond her strength. Lee demands another plan, while Wu prepares Mind's Arc to force her paralyzed body forward. Wu activates Mind's Arc, using intense mental stimulation to override the undead pressure. The awakening reveals an unexpected sensation, making Wu pause before attempting her desperate charge. Hua carries wounded Jiang into the swirling darkness as crimson limbs shield her body. Watching the peril, two system mascots decide they must intervene and rescue everyone. Wu rushes toward the vortex while one mascot questions whether this exhausts her potential. Undead Capit emerges intact inside the purple swirl, calmly facing Wu's approaching challenge. Injured companions brace themselves while Li laments dying before preserving his family's lineage. Wu says hope remains, revealing that her system has already unlocked an entirely new skill. With 6 seconds remaining, Wu identifies her settled reward as the Level 2 Pilgrim title. She targets the mascot's learnable allocate skill, proposing an even more dangerous combination. Wu demands the escape method she overheard the mascots discussing during the crisis. She seizes allocate through endless knowledge and orders its reluctant owner to surrender it. Learning allocate can temporarily multiply host potential despite severe side effects. Wu accepts the risk. Wu links Hua's bloodthirst berserk with Li's golden pagoda to amplify power while suppressing backlash. She adds Jiang's cutification as the final component, drawing every surviving ally into allocate. Dark purple energy engulfs Wu, breaking her borrowed body's silhouette into floating fragments. Wu emerges as a towering long-haired warrior surrounded by banners and spear-tipped streamers. Black markings cover her transformed face as she silently focuses on undead Capit. The completed Level 2 Pilgrim form stands ready with 4 seconds remaining before extraction. Hua and Li stare in astonishment at Wu's overwhelming, newly allocated transformation power. Even Capit falls silent, carefully studying the formidable opponent now advancing toward him. Wu charges and catches Capit's spear strike barehanded, stopping its momentum completely with one hand. Their exchange detonates repeated shockwaves through the ruins as only 3 seconds remain. With 2 seconds left, Wu drives a powerful straight punch toward Capit's face. Capit's block stops Wu's punch at 1 second, leaving their final exchange deadlocked. Extraction reaches 0 as Wu vanishes mid-attack, leaving Capit swinging through dissolving talismans. Capit turns in disbelief while an afterimage of the departing host fades behind him. Stranded among floating debris, undead Capit screams furiously as his opponents escape successfully. Inside Extraction Tunnel, Li carries exhausted Wu and excitedly praises his final transformation. Wu's original black-haired form coughs blood violently and collapses unconscious across Li's shoulders. The mascot says Wu's mind and body are collapsing, preventing return to killing in tent space. To save him, they must immediately enter another mission world where system transfer can heal hosts. Realizing she revealed forbidden information, the fox-like mascot abruptly covers her mouth nervously. She tells Li not to worry while he carries Wu deeper through the dimensional tunnel. The next world opens on green-skinned beastmen demanding a horned prisoner's public execution. The mascot calls it an undeveloped orc civilization where Wu should easily escape, receiving no answer. She discovers the newly transferred horned body unconscious, despite surviving a level 4 Cud. Narration explains a technological accident transformed Earth's animals into intelligent beastmen long ago. The empowered animals rapidly overthrew humanity, reversing centuries of exploitation and imprisoning their former masters. Humans consequently became pets and playthings serving beastmen throughout their newly ordered society. Continued oppression inspires surviving humans to organize resistance and assassinate beastmen rulers from shadows. Wu's third mission requires protecting Rikosa, the beastmen leader, from approaching human assassins. The horned host finally awakens in bed, relieved his body remains intact after the guillotine. The mascot ominously agrees he remains intact for now, hinting further bodily danger lies ahead. Wu asks who rescued him, recalling the guillotine blade stopping above his neck. Memories reveal his host loved human pets and helped them flee, earning execution for betrayal. A tiger guard halted the blade under direct orders from the beastman princess. Cowed by royal authority, the reluctant executioner obeyed while spectators questioned the princess's intervention. The mascot explains the princess admired the host's face and chose to take him inside. A white-haired cat doctor enters the bedroom, startling Wu as the door creaks open. Holding a syringe, she expresses surprise that Wu awakened before the scheduled operation. Wu suspiciously asks what procedure she intends while the doctor inspects her needle. The doctor explains males entering heat must be sterilized before safely serving the princess. Wu threatens her and catches the injector against his wrist before sedation can begin. The mascot gleefully teases that Wu is about to lose his most precious masculine part. The doctor freezes as Wu effortlessly redirects her syringe and prepares a sharp counterattack. Wu coolly declares she will undergo sterilization instead, flicking the needle from his fingers. The projectile streaks past the startled doctor's face with blazing precision toward another target. A cry erupts behind the curtain after the tiny needle lands out of sight. An enraged tiger guard crashes into the room, charging Wu with a raised injector. His explosive strike demolishes the bed, but Wu springs clear before impact lands. The guard pursues with twin blades while Wu evades across the shattered bedroom floor. Wu invokes his newly unlocked apprentice second skill, forming a glowing circular gesture. Boundless Sea of Knowledge. Circle Bend redirects the tiger's charge and momentum helplessly aside. The doctor halts the tiger, revealing he was the guard who saved Wu from execution. Wu studies the halted blade and silently reassesses the strange alliance surrounding his host. The tiger immediately kneels before Wu, while the watching mascot's eyes glow ominously red. He apologizes to the princess for failing to kill Wu despite attacking with full force. Reading his collar inscription, Wu identifies the disguised doctor as Fox Princess Lillian Stardew. Lillian sheds her medical gown, revealing elegant royal clothing and praising Wu's quick recognition. Wu asks why she ordered his rescue before arranging another attempt on his life. Lillian sensed elite killing intent around him and tested whether he could become her assassin. When Wu refuses to murder for her, he sweeps his blade forward in defiance. Lillian activates hidden blades inside his collar, proving she can kill him remotely. Wu finally understands the collar contains a concealed execution mechanism controlled by the princess. Lillian demands obedience to preserve his body, and Wu reluctantly asks whom she wants dead. Her answer is chillingly simple. Lillian wants her own father assassinated by Wu. Wu realizes her father is Rikosa, the very beastman leader his mission must protect. The mascot delights at forcing its killer to assassinate his assigned protection target. Disguised as a horned priest, Wu approaches Rikosa during the Beastman Liberation Day ceremony. Wu grips his robe, deciding he must kill Rikosa because disobedience means immediate death. His expression hardens beneath ceremonial headwear as he resolves to complete Lillian's command. A guarded stone causeway leads across bright water toward the isolated ceremonial platform. Two dog soldiers block Wu at the bridge, crossing weapons against his passage. Wu and entourage cross the bridge toward Rikosa, with Lillian and the tiger guard behind. Rikosa raises his arms, proclaiming October 4th the day beastmen were reborn by God. Assembled beastmen roar that they rule the world and humanity can never abuse them again. The tiger presents a gagged, red-haired human woman, instructing disguised Wu to perform the sacrifice. Wu recognizes the captive immediately, his shock revealing their connection to the observing tiger. The tiger asks whether Wu knows her, watching his response for any hesitation. Host memories identify the prisoner as his cherished human pet and secret lover. Wu argues Liberation Day requires no human sacrifice, hoping to spare the captive. Lillian counters that humans began this cruelty, justifying beastmen's revenge through identical treatment. The tiger threatens Wu's former lover unless he properly completes Lillian's assassination mission. Wu silently launches an approaching attacker skyward with his staff before anyone can react. Recalling their earlier duel, the tiger realizes Wu previously restrained himself as Lillian shouts about assassins. Wu suddenly knocks Lillian aside with his staff, removing her from the attacker's path. Panda guards charge across the bridge while Lillian tumbles nearby and Wu braces defensively. The armored pandas roar and rush him together, confident their numbers will overwhelm one priest. Wu thrusts his golden staff into the lead panda's breastplate, stopping the charging formation. The panda discovers his armor has somehow vanished, leaving him exposed and completely confused. Wu reveals the stolen armor gathered around his arm and declares where it went. When the panda demands its return, Wu casually agrees and aims his staff forward. Wu activates his apprentice second skill, wrapping the panda in chains as armor returns forcefully. His 100 cultivation technique wraps every panda guard together inside tightening layers of heavy chain. Other soldiers rush past the captured pandas, shouting that everyone must protect Rikosa. Wu answers with Thousand Mace, blasting the entire reinforcement squad away from the causeway. Most guards splash into surrounding water, but Rikosa charges Wu personally with twin blades. Wu whips his golden staff sideways, meeting the Beastmen leader's incoming attack head-on. Rikosa catches the staff between crossed swords, locking both fighters in a powerful stalemate. Furious, Rikosa accuses Wu of being the human rebel's assassin sent to kill him. Wu denies human involvement and reveals the assassination order came from Rikosa's Beastman daughter. Naming Lillian Stardew, Wu drives his staff forward while Rikosa desperately parries the strike. Horrified, Rikosa demands why his own daughter would ever want him dead now. Earlier, Wu directly asked Lillian why she intended to kill her father Rikosa. Lillian explained human rebels attempted Rikosa's life countless times, thwarted only by Beastman instincts. She recently learned their finest assassin was coming, making Rikosa's death otherwise inevitable. Wu deduced Lillian wanted a public fake assassination to discourage humanity's repeated attempts. Lillian sadly confirmed this deception was the only solution she found for saving her father. Wu privately welcomed the plan because staging Rikosa's death matched his protection objective perfectly. Back in battle, Wu drives the hidden staff blade into Rikosa, alarming his mascot. He explains the retractable tip carries anesthetic designed only to render Rikosa unconscious. However, the mascot warns their staged assassination has unexpectedly transformed into genuine danger. A real assassin's projectile pierces Rikosa's back, turning the performance into an actual attack. Rikosa is rushed from ceremony into the palace infirmary after the genuine assassination strike. Wu credits his killer instincts and hosts Danger Sense for detecting the hidden attacker. The palace doctor reports Rikosa was stabbed through the heart and likely has little time. With 48 mission hours remaining, failure to protect Rikosa threatens Wu with 2 demerits. Wu studies the crisis and announces he may possess a method to save Rikosa. Lillian scoffs that even doctors failed, questioning how a professional killer could heal anyone. Wu argues Rikosa will otherwise die and asks permission to attempt his uncertain method. Lillian grants one chance but threatens to bury Wu alongside her father if he fails. Wu chains unconscious Rikosa to the bed, astonishing his mascot before beginning treatment. The mascot questions the restraints, unable to understand why Wu's life-saving procedure requires binding Rikosa. Wu says his wounds healed but weakness remains, requiring restraints against possible frenzy. He activates a stolen walker skill, bathing Rikosa's body in transformative golden energy. After treatment, Wu invites Lillian inside and claims her father's injuries are completely healed. Lillian approaches nervously, asking how Rikosa became something so frightening behind the doorway. Rikosa has transformed into a red-eyed berserk beast, roaring violently against his restraints. Wu calls him a berserker, explaining frenzy strengthens beastmen and rapidly heals severe injuries. The mascot recognizes obvious cutification, while Wu notes Beastman physiology accelerated healing during transformation. Lillian anxiously asks when her snarling father can safely return to normal again. Wu promises reversal after complete healing, then asks Lillian to discuss their next step outside. The mascot warns cutification is irreversible and fatal at maximum, doubting Wu can restore Rikosa. Wu admits he cannot reverse cutification and must find Jiang before Rikosa reaches maximum. The mascot mischievously wonders whether Jiang has somehow entered this mission world too. Wu tells Lillian the assassin remains dangerous, while she reveals every nearby suspect was imprisoned. He proposes letting the assassin's origami projectile itself guide them back toward its maker. Endless Knowledge identifies a razor-sharp paper crane, learnable transformation weapon folded for killing Rikosa. Wu copies return notice from an envelope, enabling the crane to return toward its owner. The animated paper crane flies through an open window, pulling Wu and Lillian after it. They follow it into palace dungeons where every ceremony suspect waits behind iron bars. The crane enters the cell holding Tiger Guard and Wu's pleading red-haired former pet. It suddenly strikes the tiger's armor, making him accuse the woman of harming Rikosa. Panicking, the tiger insists someone framed him and begs Lillian to believe his loyalty. Wu grabs him and implies the evidence clearly identifies the person who attacked Rikosa. Then Wu points directly at the red-haired woman, declaring her the actual assassin. She protests that Wu saved her earlier and Beastmen merely recaptured her for sacrifice. Lillian objects that the returning crane first chose the tiger, contradicting Wu's accusation. Wu explains only the true owner can fully control it, allowing last-second misdirection toward others. Lillian calls this speculation and demands stronger evidence before condemning the human woman. Wu notes Rikosa's attacker emitted no murderous aura, then confirms the tiger cannot hide his own. The accused woman begs Wu not to label her an assassin from uncertain guesses. Wu compares her role-playing behavior to another manipulator recently encountered, recalling Yu Lion. Wu attacks Fei Ran with paper blades, inviting Miss Raider to die and prove her innocence. Fei Ran calmly blocks the intersecting blades before her face, finally abandoning the helpless facade. She reveals her Raider identity, regretting Wu's interference and declaring the Sentinel her new target. Lillian asks what Raider and Sentinel mean, but Wu postpones explaining until after battle. The mascot warns Wu cannot spare time fighting Fei Ran while Rikosa remains endangered. A system alert shows Rikosa's cutification already at 97%, shocking Wu with its speed. Fei Ran fully manifests as the raider, surrounding herself with orbiting paper weapons and a book. The Tiger Guard roars and charges through the paper swarm, attempting to shield Wu and Lillian. His armored strike collides with the cranes, but their sharpened edges tear through his defense. Fei Ran explains her folded paper is 200 times harder than steel, making resistance useless. Paper cranes encircle Wu's group from every direction, forcing them together beneath Fei Ran's barrage. Rikosa's cutification climbs again to 98%, leaving Wu trapped between two escalating crises. Wu deploys Golden Pagoda, sheltering Lillian and the tiger inside its law-altering golden barrier. Fei mocks Wu as weaker than expected, assuming his condition prevents him breaking through her cranes. Wu answers by activating 100 refinements, manipulating the collar mechanism Lillian previously used against him. He charges through the surrounding paper swarm while Fei watches confidently from behind her book. Fei suddenly discovers Wu has transferred the deadly control collar around her own neck. Lillian realizes Wu never feared her threat, and he orders her to activate the mechanism. The collar clamps shut and deploys concealed blades around Fei's neck, apparently sealing her defeat. Unshaken, Fei reveals Wu's current body is also made from paper, exposing his vulnerability. Wu realizes Fei is a paper figurine, explaining why she produced no detectable killing intent. A violent impact hurls Fei backward against Wu's golden barrier before she can exploit him. Wu, Lillian, and the tiger tumble aside as the unexpected attack overturns the confrontation. Rikosa's cutification reaches 99%, making Wu fear the protection mission will completely fail. A gigantic clawed hand suddenly erupts through the dungeon floor amid shattered stone. Fei grabs the tearing limb in confusion, unable to understand the new attacker's arrival. Fully transformed Rikosa bursts upward like a raging beast and lunges directly toward Fei. Rikosa seizes the paper assassin and smashes her brutally into the dungeon wall. Wu stares at the Berserk King and wonders why Rikosa has reached them. Jiang Pinger appears beside another system mascot, cheerfully saying she follows her teacher everywhere. Jiang identifies Fei as Wu's enemy and commands the controlled Rikosa to crush her. Pinned against the wall, Fei demands Jiang's identity and asks how she controls Cuds. Rikosa answers with a furious roar, raising his fist for another overwhelming strike. His enormous punch crashes into Fei, pulverizing more stone around her paper body. The blow launches Fei through the broken wall toward an opening glowing blue beyond. Rikosa swats aside a paper remnant while Fei prepares another method of escaping. Fei transforms into a giant paper bird, threatening to return with an army against Wu and Rikosa. With Rikosa reaching 99.9% cutification, Wu urgently asks Jiang to restore him. Jiang calmly reaches toward Rikosa as the system flashes its final critical warning. Her control abruptly reduces Rikosa's cutification to 50%, pulling him from destruction. Jiang continues lowering Rikosa's cutification to 10%, astonishing Wu with her precise control. Restored Rikosa addresses gathered beastmen from across the water while Wu and Jiang observe. Wu asks Jiang how she located him after following him into another mission world. Jiang sensed someone being artificially cutified and followed the familiar energy toward Wu's prison. Rikosa proclaims humanity's era finished, declaring beastmen will rule forever with humans enslaved. He argues that humanity's attempt to overthrow Beastman rule through assassination demands retaliation. Rikosa orders every human killed, and the enraged Beastman crowd roars its approval. Jiang cannot reverse natural cutification across the army, advising Wu to suppress their murderous intent. Countless Beastmen begin cutifying, and the mascot warns Wu must prevent war or fail. Night descends over the forest as both sides prepare for their approaching confrontation. Fei maps Rikosa's guarded tent for the human army, planning their nighttime assault. She identifies Wu's awakened priest host as their greatest obstacle, expecting him beside Rikosa. Human army leader Zheng Ren calmly suggests Fei's assumption about Wu is mistaken. Zheng reveals the dangerous priest is not currently guarding Rikosa's position at all. Wu steps into the human commander's camp and casually greets Fei again before their attack. Wu reveals a cage containing captured paper cranes when Fei demands how he found them. Fei recognizes her cranes and angrily questions why Wu possesses one of them. Wu secretly placed a destination letter inside the crane, ensuring its eventual automatic return. He attached return notice afterward, letting the homing crane guide him directly to Fei. Delighted by the confrontation, Fei opens her book and attacks Wu before marching on Rikosa. Zheng observes Wu arrived alone and doubts the priest came merely to surrender his head. Wu confirms he offers them a head, but confidently clarifies it will not be his. He reveals Rikosa's bedroom escape route, advising assassins to ambush the king after his return. Zheng questions waiting because Rikosa intends to lead tomorrow's attack against the human city. Wu calls direct battle hopeless and urges Zheng to prioritize evacuating every human civilian. Zheng suspects a Beastman trap, but Wu argues Rikosa needs no deception to annihilate humanity. Zheng lets Wu depart, reasoning any betrayal would expose the ambush and cost Rikosa's head. The mascot anxiously asks whether Wu's proposed plan will deliberately allow Rikosa to die. Wu dismisses Rikosa's fate beyond the countdown entirely, with 19 hours still remaining. Wu adds that he has already acquired the decisive item capable of stopping this war. Daylight finds the massive Beastmen army assembled before the fortified human city's closed gates. Wu questions why such an advanced civilization abandoned firearms and now fights using cold weapons. Rikosa explains stronger Beastmen destroyed advanced technology after conquering humanity, preventing its use against them. Before attacking, Rikosa loudly demands the humans surrender immediately in exchange for their lives. The silent battlements provide no answer while Beastmen troops wait tensely beneath the walls. Rikosa orders his archers to fire, unleashing the opening volley against the fortified city. A dense rain of arrows arcs high above the walls and descends inside. Receiving no surrender, Rikosa commands his strongest soldiers to smash through the main gate. A sudden explosive counterattack blasts the charging Beastmen away before they reach the entrance. Armored rhinoceros warriors tumble across the field, overwhelmed by the defenders' unexpected weapon. Rikosa summons winged scouts to investigate the city and locate its concealed human defenders. The aerial scouts survey streets and rooftops, then report that the entire city stands empty. Baffled by the successful evacuation, Rikosa angrily demands where all the humans are hiding. Although the mascot celebrates Wu's plan succeeding, Wu detects an exceptionally powerful killing aura. Rikosa and the surrounding Beastmen suddenly look skyward as threatening shadows gather overhead. Human soldiers descend riding giant paper cranes, catching the exposed Beastmen army completely by surprise. The airborne formation surges downward through the sky, scattering paper wings and incoming projectiles. Deadly arrows rain into the Beastmen ranks, piercing numerous soldiers before they can react. Winged Beastmen archers launch a furious counter-volley upward against the human aerial fighters. Nearby cutification values exceed 90%, confirming Faye secretly engineered this ambush to prolong war. The mascot explains Raider and Sentinel oppose each other, while Wu concludes only Jiang can intervene. Wu fires a bright signal flare above the battlefield, summoning Jiang to stop the war. Airborne human archers press their assault as Beastmen arrows streak dangerously around their paper mounts. Faye opens her book and conjures an enormous folded paper barrier before the riders. The broad paper shield absorbs countless Beastmen arrows, protecting the advancing human formation. Human archers aim through shifting silhouettes in Faye's barrier, targeting the winged Beastmen defenders. Faye's enormous sheet rearranges into marked sections, redirecting the exchange across the sky. The coordinated volley pierces multiple winged scouts, sending wounded Beastmen falling from their positions. Larger ground troops collapse beneath the continuing human bombardment as paper riders descend behind them. Human archers keep firing from above while scattered Beastmen struggle among mounting battlefield casualties. Jiang praises Faye's power and decides they can kill Rikosa directly upon the battlefield. Faye expects Rikosa's death to maximize Beastman killing intent and produce enormous numbers of cuds. Lillian explains airborne human archers dominate the field, preventing Beastman soldiers from approaching them. She orders a mole Beastman to tunnel underground and rescue her surrounded father. Wu objects that even the fastest tunnel cannot beat the human archers' continuing arrows. Lillian tearfully admits she cannot devise another method of saving Rikosa from the barrage. Wu reluctantly proposes one extremely dangerous possible solution, immediately drawing Lillian's desperate attention. Lillian accepts any risk rather than helplessly watching her father die beneath human arrows. Wu decides to unleash his berserker friend, trusting Jiang's Cud form to disrupt everything. Jiang raises his hand and begins issuing another command to the hovering human archers. His order breaks amid confusion as paper-mounted fighters struggle and shout to be released. Transformed Jiang charges onto the field in crimson Cud armor, terrifying the watching human commander. Faye directs the aerial soldiers to follow her and rescue Jiang from Jiang's chaotic assault. Watching Jiang overwhelm the formation effortlessly, Lillian marvels at the berserker's extraordinary strength. Lillian then remembers Wu's warning and asks what specific danger accompanies Jiang's transformation. Wu hesitantly explains that once the berserker loses control, she cannot reliably identify anyone. Jiang's sweeping tail indiscriminately strikes across Rikosa and Jiang, treating both leaders as targets. The two commanders crash together violently as Jiang's berserk attack forces enemies into collision. Lillian races toward her endangered father while Jiang continues rampaging through both armies. Jiang recalls questioning why Wu ordered her to attack Rikosa despite his protection mission. Wu explained that protecting Rikosa requires humanity abandoning assassination, yet centuries of hatred block peace. His fastest solution is creating one common enemy whom neither humans nor beastmen can defeat alone. Jiang admiringly assumes Wu will become that villain and endure both races' hatred himself. The astonished mascot interrupts Jiang's praise, insisting she has completely misunderstood Wu's intention. Wu bluntly reveals Jiang, not himself, will serve as both armies' shared enemy. Jiang panics that she is too weak to fight humanity and beastmen simultaneously. Wu argues Jiang only feels weak because she has not yet transformed into her Cud. The mascot explains Jiang lacks killing restrictions and her transformation will not affect mission scoring. Wu swats the protesting mascot away, ordering the childlike system to stop interrupting adults. Wu asks whether Jiang will willingly become the villain to establish peace between both species. Back in the battle, transformed Jiang confirms she accepts Wu's burden and confronts Rikosa. Beastmen rally to defend their king while airborne humans charge to protect Zheng Ren. Both armies abandon fighting each other and converge upon Jiang, loudly demanding her death. Jiang kicks a charging beastman aside, knocking his heavy weapon away with effortless force. A turtle warrior spins his armored shell through nearby attackers, joining the assault against Jiang. Jiang meets a leaping porcupine beastman with a brutal punch directly into his torso. Her relentless counterattack throws multiple paper-mounted human fighters from the sky around her. A tremendous impact buries Jiang inside a shattered crater, briefly halting her rampage. Jiang grimaces among the debris as a dark, crawling mass begins surrounding her position. Countless rats swarm over Jiang's armored body, biting and restraining the common enemy. The mascot warns Wu that Jiang will die unless he supports her incomplete cud body. Wu calmly asks whether the mascot has ever played with a spinning top. The exasperated mascot protests that Jiang's mortal danger leaves no time for games. Wu activates Walker's whipping horse, whose lash accelerates struck objects by 100 times. His whip snaps across trapped Jiang, instantly launching her into violent rotational motion. Jiang spins rapidly inside the rat swarm, striking attackers through a blur of repeated afterimages. The accelerated rotation erupts from the crater, scattering rats and debris high into daylight. Freed from the swarm, Jiang charges again toward Rikosa and Zheng Ren at full speed. Jiang lowers her body and accelerates straight toward the leaders with renewed murderous focus. An octopus beastman interposes his enormous head and tentacles before the approaching Jiang. The octopus sprays a thick cloud of black ink directly across Jiang's path. Blinded and pierced by projectiles, Jiang becomes surrounded again by charging beastmen warriors. Wu extends a guiding thread from his fingertip, searching the battlefield for another learnable solution. Endless knowledge identifies a fallen bat beastman's echolocation, which remains available for learning. Wu activates Walker's introduction board, temporarily teaching Jiang the newly acquired echolocation skill. Jiang emits concentric sound pulses, mapping every attacker around her despite the obscuring ink. Guided by echolocation, she dodges converging weapons and counters the surrounding beastmen accurately. An airborne human fighter launches a ringed cutting attack toward Jiang from above. The projectile tears through Jiang's armored shoulder, severing her arm in a burst of blood. Wu learns gecko limb regeneration and teaches it to Jiang, beginning restoration of her injury. Jiang's missing hand rapidly regrows, restoring her ability to continue battling both armies. She sees beastmen and humans closing from every direction and prepares another counterattack. Fighters from both armies pile onto Jiang together, briefly burying her beneath their combined assault. Wu copies a pufferfish beastman's explosive response, triggering a shockwave that blasts Jiang's attackers away. Rikosa and Zheng stare anxiously, wondering how anyone can defeat such a powerful monster. Lillian reminds Wu that Jiang is his friend and begs him to stop her rampage. Wu replies that humanity and beastmen working together remains their only possible method. Rikosa and Zheng exchange a wary silence, each recognizing the necessity of cooperation. The rival leaders shake hands, declaring a temporary truce for their respective people's survival. Both commanders order their armies to stop attacking each other and focus entirely upon Jiang. Rikosa and Zheng jointly command everyone to fight the common monster before resuming hostilities. The mascot congratulates Wu after seeing his strategy finally unite humans and beastmen. Fei sees cutification remaining above 80% and laments losing an imminent mass transformation. She watches Jiang scatter both armies and wonders why this unexpected cud ruined her scheme. Fei recognizes the cud's connection to Wu's earlier companion and suspects deliberate interference. With 30 minutes remaining, Fei vows she cannot allow her raider mission to fail. Fei manipulates the renewed fighting through her book, subtly redirecting a human attack. The startled human soldier's blade plunges into a reptilian beastman instead of Jiang. The accidental victim collapses bleeding while nearby fighters stare at the apparent betrayal. Enraged beastmen denounce the human backstab and charge before anyone can explain Fei's deception. The horrified human insists the beastman moved into his sword and denies betraying anyone. Furious beastmen ignore his explanation and charge, shouting that every human should die. Human soldiers immediately retaliate against the enraged animals, instantly reigniting the species war. Cutification throughout both armies reaches 99.9%, impressing Wu's mascot with Fei's ruthlessness. Surrounded by nearly complete transformations, Fei confidently declares herself the certain mission victor. Without warning, multiple cutification readings abruptly collapse from nearly complete to 50%. Fei cannot understand why the two armies' murderous progression suddenly drops so dramatically. A shaken human questions whether Jiang truly came intending to kill everyone present. He asks why a wounded beastman saved him despite their supposedly irreconcilable hatred. The beastman answers that during their shared battle, he instinctively considered the human his comrade. The human realizes their cooperation proves people and beastmen can regard each other as comrades. Jiang dives toward a fallen polar bear, continuing to threaten fighters from both sides. Her violent attack tears into the bear, covering his white fur with blood. A human warrior throws himself between Jiang and the beastman, taking a devastating wound. The astonished polar bear supports the bleeding human and asks why he intervened. The dying warrior rejects unequal lives, explaining he saved the bear because both matter. He firmly declares human and beastman lives equally important, solidifying their unexpected bond. The polar bear hurls his wounded comrade away from Jiang's next strike, protecting him in return. Across the battlefield, humans and beastmen begin shielding one another while jointly resisting Jiang. Faye cannot comprehend why former enemies now sacrifice themselves for each other's survival. With barely 5 minutes remaining, Faye abandons understanding the change and rushes to kill Rikosa. Faye launches a direct paperblade assault toward Rikosa and Zhang before her countdown expires. Zhang intercepts her advance and demands whether Faye has forgotten the purpose of their mission. Faye swiftly avoids his sword and insists her objective has always remained completely unchanged. She loudly declares killing Rikosa her mission while preparing another decisive paper attack. Lillian screams for her father as Faye's final strike appears certain to reach him. Faye suddenly notices her own paper, responding incorrectly before the supposed killing blow. A large sheet of folded paper materializes across Rikosa's chest and shields him. Wu descends using copied paper wings, revealing his own paper now protects the king. Astonished, Faye demands to know when Wu managed to steal her signature ability. Wu reveals last night's negotiations merely disguised his dangerous attempt to copy her power. He says obtaining Faye's ability gave him the decisive instrument needed to end this war. Faye unleashes more folded blades, mocking Wu for believing copied skills can defeat their original owner. Wu surrounds himself with massive paper panels and prepares a more elaborate trap against her. Admitting copied power alone is insufficient, Wu smiles because Jiang still supports his strategy. Jiang launches a charging bull beastman upward, interrupting Faye's aerial assault from below. The massive bull crashes into Faye, exploding into fluttering scraps of folded paper. Faye examines the fragments and realizes the supposedly living beastman was only a paper doll. She deduces every heroic sacrifice between humans and beastmen was staged using Wu's copied dolls. Wu calmly confirms the elaborate deception and announces Faye's raider mission countdown has already expired. Faye glares furiously as the failed raider mission begins forcibly extracting her from the world. Disintegrating into paper fragments, Faye promises to hack Wu into pieces when they meet again. Faye's airborne paper mounts dissolve simultaneously, dropping their startled human riders from the sky. Jiang also enters a red extraction beam while survivors cautiously rise around her. Humans and beastmen openly celebrate together as the terrifying common monster finally disappears. Once Jiang vanishes, suspicious fighters immediately turn their weapons toward the other species again. Departing, Jiang observes that this renewed hostility unfolds exactly as Wu previously predicted. Earlier, Jiang asked whether humans and beastmen would resume fighting after their common enemy left. Concerned about lasting peace, she wondered whether anything could prevent their inevitable renewed conflict. Wu reassuringly patted Jiang's head and told her that she need not worry anymore. Both armies now face each other tensely, surrounded by lingering shadows of shared fear. Rikosa abruptly orders every beastman to abandon confrontation and return to their kingdom. Lillian asks why her father did not exploit the moment to eliminate humanity. Rikosa says beastmen still need humans because the common monster supposedly will return again. Elsewhere, an ambulance races through nighttime traffic toward a hospital, beginning Wu's next crisis. Wu awakens inside a black-haired patient hemorrhaging badly while his mascot mocks another unlucky arrival. A masked vampire surgeon promises to stop the host's dangerous bleeding immediately inside the ambulance. Revealing vampire fangs, the surgeon jokes that draining every drop would certainly end hemorrhaging. The mascot laughs at his macabre humor while the vampire opens his mouth and howls. Wu activates endless knowledge on a steel restraint tube, learning how to harden his body like iron. The vampire bites Wu's hardened neck, but his reinforced skin resists the surgeon's fangs. Recoiling from the iron-hard skin, the vampire surgeon asks whether Wu is secretly a mage. Wu sits upright and concludes his latest transfer placed him inside a fantasy world with vampires. The mascot calls this assignment unusually strange and urges Wu to read its conditions first. The 2 vs 1 mission requires finding whoever creates CUDs and stopping an unspecified opposing party. Wu notes that unlike earlier 1 vs 1 or 2 vs 2 assignments, this mission creates a 2 vs 1 advantage. The mascot warns numerical advantage means the system judges their side gravely disadvantaged and is compensating accordingly. Wu suspects inhabiting a critically wounded body explains why the system considers his team disadvantaged. The mascot confirms and orders Wu to locate teammates quickly before confronting the lone raider. The ambulance vampire dismisses Wu's system conversation as hallucination caused by blood loss or head trauma. Wu seizes the frightened vampire's collar, refusing to tolerate mockery while demanding immediate answers. Wu questions why a vampire hides in an ambulance and steals blood from helpless patients. The surgeon explains vampires hide because numerous hunters and their natural enemies roam outside. Ominous howls echo around the hospital, announcing nearby creatures beneath the full moon. The terrified surgeon identifies the howling creatures as werewolves, the natural enemies he feared. The surgeon explains human blood rapidly heals vampires, confirming familiar supernatural rules operate here. Wu offers to spare the surgeon if the vampire transforms him into one too. After a terrified pause, the surgeon accepts while Wu declares he will stop restraining himself. The vampire sinks his fangs into Wu's neck, beginning the requested supernatural transformation. Hooded observers watch the ambulance outside the hospital, suggesting hostile hunters already surround Wu. Wu discovers the wound still refuses to heal despite the surgeon's supposedly successful vampire infection. The surgeon explains fledglings must drink human blood before their transformation and regenerative powers fully awaken. Needing a victim quickly, Wu asks whether the ambulance driver is an ordinary human. The surgeon panics and reveals their driver is another vampire, denying Wu an easy meal. Wu orders the vampire driver to park near a chaotic district where humans gather. Beneath a full moon, injured Wu enters a deserted alley hunting blood and potential enemies. A knife-wielding mugger secretly follows Wu through the alley, mistaking him for helpless prey. The mugger threatens silence and demands Wu's money while concealing a knife behind him. Wu effortlessly steals the mugger's wallet, calls them comrades, and asks him not to disturb peace. Confused by the sudden reversal, the mugger asks whether Wu is another robber too. Wu agrees he is taking something, but ominously clarifies that he does not want money. Vampire fangs extend from Wu's mouth as he declares his true prize is fresh blood. Wu drains the mugger, making the mascot finally understand why he deliberately sought vampirism. The mascot explains drinking heals Wu, but the blood sent simultaneously attracts vampires' natural enemies. A hulking werewolf appears on the rooftop, silhouetted against the enormous full moon. The werewolf roars and dives from the roof, charging straight toward Wu's position. Wu calmly welcomes the arriving enemy while taking the mugger's knife beside his unconscious body. Wu launches first, swinging the stolen blade upward as the werewolf lunges into range. The werewolf meets Wu's attack head-on, driving a massive fist through his guarded approach. Wu withstands the crushing collision at close range while the werewolf snaps its enormous jaws. Wu catches the werewolf's open jaws with steel-hardened forearm and redirects its charging body. Using its momentum, Wu flips the enormous werewolf overhead and smashes it into the pavement. The mascot praises Wu for hardening his arm into steel quickly enough to prevent a bite. Wu reveals the fangs penetrated even his reinforced arm, leaving scratches and dangerous venom behind. Wu realizes wolfsbane poison will spread once his concentration can no longer sustain hardening. Determined to survive, Wu raises the stolen knife and prepares to kill the immobilized werewolf before weakening. A new tiger mascot interrupts, revealing Chin Cola, the attacking werewolf, is Wu's assigned teammate. The system announces the blue team assembled after Wu and Chin finally encounter each other. Wu angrily demands an explanation because his supposed teammate attacked him without any recognition. Wu's mascot likewise confronts Chin's system, questioning why another sentinel attacked its own host. Chin's mascot explains a mysterious witch hypnotized him into believing he belongs with the raiders. Wu enters Chin's mind through Mind's arc, eager to inspect whatever the witch implanted. Inside Chin's memory, a beautiful witch in black approaches his ordinary human form beneath blossoms. The young Chin Cola looks up from his drink, instantly captivated by the mysterious stranger. One flirtatious glance overwhelms Chin, sending his drink spilling while hearts cloud his judgment. Chin declares love at first sight as the black-clad witch walks casually away. Chin's mascot flicks away an intrusive insect and mocks his infatuated host for looking foolish. The mascot says the witch hypnotized Chin with one glance and likely serves as raider. Chin, a level 3 yin-yang envoy, suddenly uses berry into ground to immobilize Wu. Wu's mascot urges him to dodge, but Wu realizes avoiding this mental attack is impossible. Dark veins spread from the bitten forearm, confirming wolfsbane poison has already entered Wu's circulation. Wu coughs blood as the spreading poison invades his body and rapidly worsens his condition. Despite weakening, Wu explodes from berry into ground, shattering the surrounding pavement with brute force. Wu asks the penalty for killing a teammate, prompting his mascot to anticipate achiever skills. Chin's alarmed mascot reminds Poison Wu that the werewolf remains his assigned teammate. Wu raises the knife and impatiently demands a direct answer before Chin attacks again. The system says killing teammates carries no penalty beyond losing assistance, so Wu abandons restraint. Achiever's eye reveals every object within 1 kilometer, letting Wu track Chin's incoming charge. Wu activates the Achiever's second skill while his knife hand ignites with orange power. Achiever's hand teleports Wu's hands anywhere within 1 kilometer, placing his blade against Chin's throat. Chin's terrified mascot urges him to awaken before Wu's precise attack kills him. Wu's teleported knife strikes the charging werewolf, making Chin roar as the blade penetrates. Chin's neck bleeds black fluid while orange energy continues burning around the embedded strike. Wounded Chin staggers away while poisoned Wu remains trapped among shattered stones with his knife. Chin retaliates with sudden force, launching Wu high into the night sky above the crater. As Wu approaches fallen Chin, the mascots warn killing him would make victory nearly impossible. Wu challenges them to explain how Chin apparently caused nearby people to cutify. Chin's mascot insists the hypnotized sentinel never deliberately cutified anyone during his earlier encounter. Wu counters that system warnings erupted immediately after he heard Chin's werewolf howl. Cornered by vampires, Chin transformed and howled, unintentionally triggering their cutification instead of retreat. Wu asks whether the witch was present during Chin's vampire encounter, seeking a link between incidents. Through Mind's arc, Wu examines Chin's memory of vampires surrounding the fallen werewolf. Chin had transformed into a werewolf and confronted the vampire leader before his pack. The leader urged vampires to unite because Chin threatened every vampire equally as shared prey. Chin raised his head and unleashed the powerful howl that drew every vampire's attention. The vampire's eyes blackened and reddened before they rushed Chin together under cutification's influence. Back in the alley, Chin's mascot asks whether Wu discovered why the vampires transformed. Wu says one recurring detail appeared both during Chin's hypnosis and the vampire's cutification. Wu identifies the common factor as worker bees now hovering throughout the alley around them. One bee stings the drained mugger's neck while he lies unconscious on the pavement. The system instantly warns the mugger's cutification has reached 60% after the sting. The awakening mugger growls painfully as violent intent floods his mind and body. With Chin recovering behind Wu, the cutifying mugger grabs a stone and attacks from behind. Wu reacts instantly, turning and throwing his stolen knife directly at the attacker. The transformed mugger catches the spinning knife bare-handed, showing heightened reflexes and strength. Wu counters with a sweeping kick that launches the cutified mugger backward through the alley. Wu uses a red energy tether to pull one suspicious worker bee within reach. Endless knowledge reveals worker bees collect killing intent and inject it into anyone they sting. Wu confirms the bees cutified both Chin's vampire attackers and the recently stung mugger. After subduing the mugger, Wu kneels beside him while both mascots absorb the revelation. Chin's mascot asks whom Wu addresses because neither system can perceive any outsider. Wu warns unseen listeners remain nearby even when others cannot visually detect them. The black-clad witch drops her stealth spell, asking how Wu saw through her concealment. Wu explains nectar-collecting bees lingering where no flowers grow made their hidden master obvious. Suspicious, Wu used Achiever's eye to inspect everything throughout the surrounding 1-kilometer area. The scan revealed an anomalous presence concealed among the hovering swarm, exposing the witch. Wu demands why she cutified vampires against Chin after already placing his teammate under hypnosis. The witch admits she used those attackers to test whether Chin possessed enough strength to fight Wu. Confident Chin is eliminated, the witch expects a quick victory and dreams of sunbathing afterward. She notes Chin lies seriously wounded while poisoned Wu has lost his healing ability. Wu hides the knife behind his back, teasing that he would enjoy seeing her sunbathe. Wu activates Achiever's hand for another surprise strike, reminding her that night still surrounds them. The witch catches his teleported wrist, explaining her host possesses 3 powerful magic spells. Her first revealed spell transforms night temporarily into brilliant daylight beneath an artificial sun. Sudden sunlight burns Wu's vampire body and disintegrates the teleported hand carrying his knife. Smiling triumphantly, the witch names her devastating supernatural daylight spell Illusory Day before scorched Wu. Smoke rises from Wu's scorched body as he crouches helplessly beneath the false sunlight. Through the agony, Wu haltingly remarks that werewolves are not afraid of something. The witch steps close and mockingly asks Wu to finish explaining what werewolves do not fear. Suspecting a lure for Chin's ambush, she warns Wu that such deception cannot fool her. Wu finally states werewolves do not fear sunlight, hinting Chin can move freely now. The witch repeats this fact skeptically, still failing to notice the danger approaching behind her. She dismisses the warning because unconscious, gravely injured Chin should remain incapable of rescuing Wu. The witch turns away as a huge werewolf silhouette rises directly behind her under daylight. Awakened Chin catches the startled witch from behind, pinning her against his massive body. Shocked, the witch demands how Chin awakened after appearing completely unconscious moments earlier. She invokes authority as Chin's master and orders him to release her immediately. Illusory Day fades back into moonlit night while the witch realizes her hypnosis no longer works. Wu reveals he broke Chin's hypnotic conditioning long before staging the apparent killing attempt. After reading Chin's memory, Wu suspected the witch's hypnosis depended on something physical. He noticed Chin became hypnotized only after a worker bee stung him during their meeting. Achiever's eye examined Chin's body during their battle and confirmed Wu's hidden suspicion. The same scan also exposed the nearby witch as the concealed raider controlling those bees. Wu deliberately made his teleported knife strike look like a lethal attack against Chin. Secretly, the blade extracted the buried bee stinger, restoring Chin's sanity and breaking control. The cornered raider asks how Wu and Chin coordinated this deception without her noticing. Wu reminds her teammates possess private communication channels, then advances with his knife ready. The raider suddenly calls Wu teacher and reproaches him for hurting his lovely students. Startled, Wu first suspects Jiang Pinger, then firmly denies the witch can be his student. Recognizing Wu's tone, the witch wonders whether her favorite toy also entered this mission world. Wu finally recognizes the witch's mannerisms and demands whether she is truly Yu Lion. The system confirms the raider's personality tag as Yu Lion and her title as Queen Bee. Wu's mascot realizes the new raider is the innate host originating from their original world. Multiple nearby cutification warnings suddenly appear at 50%, interrupting Wu's confrontation with Yu Lion. Wu turns suspiciously toward Yu Lion and asks whether she caused another mass outbreak. Yu Lion calls mass cutification her mission objective as every reading accelerates toward 90%. Qin holds Yu Lion restrained while Wu wonders why the cutifying victims are approaching. A terrified crowd races down the alley toward them, forcing Wu to question their identities. Wu recognizes the frightened vampire surgeon from his ambulance among the people rushing closer. The surgeon screams for everyone to run because an approaching monster is hunting them. Qin's mascot wonders why nearly complete cuds flee fearfully instead of becoming aggressive and fearless. Wu asks the fleeing surgeon whether the pursuing monster is another vampire or werewolf. Still running, the surgeon rejects both possibilities and desperately looks toward the sky. He identifies the descending female warrior as a hunter specializing in supernatural extermination. The hunter swings her enormous blade, sending a sweeping strike through the clustered fugitives. Every affected victim instantly reaches 100% cutification as Wu watches the cascading warnings. System panels immediately declare each newly completed cud eradicated following the hunter's overwhelming slash. The mascot realizes the mission became 2 versus 1 because their designated objective possesses extraordinary combat power. Wu cautiously faces the blue-haired swordswoman after her massacre and demands to know her identity. The swordswoman rests her blade across one shoulder and identifies herself as Silver Hunter. Silver Hunter supplies his actual name, identifying himself to Wu as Feng Royu. Enchanted Qin drools over Feng's appearance and welcomes death from such a beautiful woman. Offended Feng angrily reveals he is male, instantly and completely shattering Qin's romantic fantasy. Qin recoils in comic horror after realizing the beautiful hunter he admired is actually male. Feng draws his gleaming blade and threatens to castrate the lecherous Qin later. Turning toward Wu, Feng points the blade and calmly prepares his next supernatural execution. Feng reveals his family's silver blood while deliberately cutting open his own wrist with the blade. Feng explains his silver blood restores self-healing abilities in vampires poisoned by dangerous werewolf bites. Yu Lion impatiently addresses Feng Royu and demands he finish dealing with their enemies. Feng admires the moonlight while extending his glowing blade, eerily ignoring Yu Lion's urgency. He declares his desire to turn everyone present into the most beautiful possible corpses. Wu privately tells Qin they will cooperate through their secure teammate channel during the coming fight. Wu ignites another teleported hand with Achiever power, launching their coordinated offensive against Feng. Yu Lion warns Feng that Wu's hand can strike suddenly from anywhere within range. Feng abruptly swings his great blade at Yu Lion, who questions whether he has gone insane. Wu's flaming teleported hand materializes beside Yu Lion just before Feng's blade reaches her. Feng's sword pierces Yu Lion despite Wu's nearby hand, leaving her doubled over in agony. Qin activates Bury into ground beneath both opponents, collapsing the pavement into a deep crater. Feng immediately erupts from the collapsed earth, proving Qin's immobilization cannot contain him. Feng intercepts Wu's fiery teleported hand with his blade, slicing through the airborne attack. Feng slams his sword into the crater and commands the buried opponents to fall further. He unleashes Silver Cyclone, launching numerous blood-edged blades toward Wu and Qin from every direction. Wu grips his damaged arm and urgently warns Qin as spinning blades close around them. Multiple conjured knives strike Qin's werewolf body simultaneously, piercing his limbs and torso. Qin falls silent beneath the barrage as his battered werewolf form rapidly loses strength. Unable to sustain transformation, Qin collapses back into his chubby human host while Wu watches. Wu's mascot warns Feng outclasses them and orders Wu to retreat before dying. Wu sprints away, prompting Qin's furious mascot to accuse him of abandoning his teammate. Exhausted Qin tells his complaining mascot to stay silent while watching Wu disappear. Wu's fiery teleported hand suddenly grabs Qin from behind as a blade erupts nearby. The burning hand catches Feng's incoming sword inches from Qin's shoulder, preventing a fatal strike. After rescuing Qin remotely, Wu stops fleeing and faces Feng's extended blade across the alley. Yu Lion orders Feng to kill Wu as another sword whirls rapidly toward him. Qin watches the attack and believes Feng's overwhelming blade has finally ended Wu's resistance. Even Yu Lion looks surprised as Feng Royu pauses instead of finishing Wu. Feng draws the blade across his own palm, deliberately opening another bleeding wound. Feng holds the cut above Wu's mouth, letting drops of silver blood fall inside. Silver blood restores Wu's healing, extinguishing smoke and repairing his severely burned vampire body. Bewildered, Wu asks why Feng saved him, while Feng begins explaining a personal reason. Feng blushes and privately recognizes Wu as teacher, revealing a hidden familiar consciousness. Wu joyfully identifies Jiang Pinger inside Feng Royu and asks how she entered his body. Jiang says her consciousness awoke inside Feng and seized control when she feared for Wu. Yu Lion greets Jiang from nearby, delighted that her favorite toy has returned. Confused, Jiang asks who knows her, and Wu bluntly identifies the witch as Yu Lion. Jiang grips Wu's hand and volunteers to hold Yu Lion back while everyone escapes. Seizing Feng's blade, Jiang charges forward to confront Yu Lion at close range. Jiang slashes across Yu Lion's torso, forcing the queen bee backward during their clash. The powerful strike sends Yu Lion crashing across the broken pavement while Jiang keeps advancing. Yulian blocks Jiang's next sword swing and her eyes begin glowing blue. With a playful good night, Yulian activates another spell through direct eye contact. Jiang's green eyes widen as supernatural drowsiness suddenly overwhelms her borrowed body completely. Unable to resist, Jiang yawns heavily and collapses toward the pavement in a forced sleep. Yulian stands over unconscious Feng's body after temporarily suppressing Jiang's controlling consciousness. Queen Bee snaps her fingers, confidently ending the immediate struggle without further violence. Feng's original green-eyed consciousness awakens in confusion after Jiang suddenly relinquishes bodily control. Yulian explains a witch implanted another soul, which illusory pupil temporarily placed into deep sleep. Feng learns Wu and Qin escaped, while Yulian insists prolonging their hunt will be more entertaining. Later in a hospital room, embarrassed Qin begins confessing an alarming consequence from the battle. Qin cries that he became a eunuch, but the mascots dismiss the missing body part. Wu consoles Qin that only the borrowed host suffered and his original body remains intact. Qin worries Feng Royu is too powerful for either sentinel to kill successfully. Wu says killing Feng is unnecessary, leading Qin to suspect a recruitment strategy. Qin protests they know almost nothing about Feng and cannot identify what might persuade him. Wu notices a small paper crane entering the hospital and announces Feng's information has arrived. The paper crane lands beside Wu, who unfolds it into a secret written message. Qin asks who supplied the intelligence, and Wu provocatively answers Feng Royu himself. Wu's mascot explains Jiang Pinger secretly gathered the information while controlling Feng's body. Wu calmly confirms Jiang used her access inside Feng exactly as he planned. Before escaping, Wu privately asks Jiang to discover why Feng deeply hates vampires and werewolves. Jiang's note reveals vampires and werewolves killed Feng's father, creating his obsessive hatred. Night settles over an overgrown cemetery filled with weathered graves and leafless trees. Wu and recovering Qin enter the cemetery carrying shovels for an unexplained task. They locate Feng Royan's grave, confirming their target is Feng Royu's deceased father. Wu and Qin excavate the coffin under moonlight, working noisily between broken tombstones. Qin reluctantly continues digging while Wu watches from the edge of the opened grave. The opened coffin reveals Feng Royan's clothed skeleton resting quietly beneath crumbling soil. Wu orders Qin to remove the bones now that they have excavated the grave. Qin indignantly insists Wu alone dug up the grave, and the mascot supports his testimony. Wu questions their complaints until the mascot urgently warns someone is standing above them. Wu looks upward and discovers two figures, masked silver hunter Feng Royu and witch Yulian. Feng Royu angrily demands to know why the intruders are handling his father's bones. Nervous Qin claims he merely wanted to verify whether an adult skeleton contains 206 bones. Wu ignores the excuse and asks how their opponents located them inside the cemetery. Smiling, Yulian refuses to reveal her tracking method until some unspecified later time. Qin fears the enraged Feng will bury them beside his father for desecrating the grave. Wu orders Qin to follow their plan, opens a book, and promises to buy time. Wu launches numerous paper cranes at Feng while Qin prepares their hidden countermeasure. Yulian watches the attack from safety and casually asks whether Feng needs assistance. Feng swings his blade and tells Yulian merely to pray their enemies survive. Feng corners Wu inside the open coffin while Wu desperately clutches his defensive book. Wu braces the reinforced book against Feng's powerful downward sword thrust, scattering torn pages. Wu admits he cannot restrain Feng any longer and urgently signals Qin to hurry. Qin gathers his strength, dramatically swelling his borrowed human body as the battle continues. Qin casts Dead Revitalization, surrounding Feng Royan's remains with thick, dark supernatural smoke. Qin realizes Feng's hunter father somehow left behind the unmistakable skeleton of a werewolf. The revived wolf skeleton sits upright inside its coffin, surrounded by a violet aura. Wu orders Qin to ignore that startling mystery and immediately begin their next step. Feng pauses his assault and suspiciously asks what this supposed next step means. Qin activates soul transfer, drawing Feng Royan's awakened spirit from the skeleton into himself. While Wu blocks Feng's sword, Qin receives Royan's soul inside his motionless human host. Feng lunges to stab Qin's motionless host before the soul transfer can fully stabilize. Qin declares Feng's father now inhabits him and warns killing this body will scatter Royan's soul. Wu's mascot celebrates their plan succeeding, while Qin's mascot bleakly announces their failure. Wu wonders why Royan's first reaction upon seeing his son appears strangely hostile. Royan cutifies Qin's body and violently grabs Feng by the face with clawed hands. Qin's mascot cannot understand why the reunited father and son resemble bitter enemies. Royan addresses Feng as you were and demands an explanation for something done 3 years earlier. Feng coldly insists his mysterious actions merely followed the very teachings Royan gave him. Royan recalls praising Feng for exterminating descendants of the ancient sealed blood wolf. Proud Royan tells his accomplished son their family can finally retire from hunting. Feng surveys numerous dead vampires and werewolves, confirming his extermination campaign apparently succeeded. When Feng asks what comes next, Royan encourages him to enjoy an ordinary youthful life. Feng responds with silent tears, revealing how deeply his father's approval affected him. Sometime later, Royan secretly enters the Feng family ancestral hall with a flashlight. Inside the darkened hall, Royan discovers something that leaves him completely horrified and stunned. Royan finds Feng holding a heavy chain beside the hall's mysterious wooden enclosure. Feng calmly asks why his father unexpectedly visited the ancestral hall at this hour. Royan explains exterminated monsters recently returned, prompting him to investigate the sealed blood wolf. Royan grimly admits he never imagined what his disturbing investigation would ultimately reveal. Royan discovers Feng was using the chained blood wolf to create new vampires and werewolves. Feng explains his father taught him since childhood that hunters exist to kill vampires and werewolves. Feng argues hunters become purposeless without monsters, while newly created victims awaken with glowing eyes. The blood wolf hurls another infected human away as Royan watches Feng's operation in horror. Royan offers forgiveness if Feng immediately stops this vicious, monstrous, and self-defeating cycle. Feng refuses, confessing purposelessness felt unbearable and demanding Royan stop interfering with his calling. Royan angrily asks whether Feng intends to kill his own father for opposing him. Feng answers that Royan taught him never to kill humans, carefully preserving his justification. Feng releases the chained blood wolf, which lunges violently toward his defenseless father. The creature questions whether Feng will break the hunter's code by attacking another human. Feng coldly replies that after transformation, his father can no longer be considered human. Royan transforms into a werewolf and raises his sword against Feng during their fatal confrontation. Back in the cemetery, Yulian asks what Feng will do after learning the truth. Yulian assures Feng she has supported his side consistently from beginning to end. Royan denounces his unfilial son and attacks, determined to remove Feng for their family. Wu intervenes by projecting a fiery achiever's hand toward Feng as Royan charges. The blazing spectral hand passes through Feng's upper body, leaving a glowing wound behind. Cutified Royan seizes Feng from behind before the surprised hunter can fully recover. Feng brutally drives his sword backward through Royan's borrowed body while remaining trapped in his grasp. Despite the impalement, Royan clings to Feng as the hunter raises his sword overhead. A glowing triangular fragment remains embedded in Feng's chest after Wu's mysterious intervention. A black puncture opens in Qin's back as Feng attempts to break Royan's restraining hold. Feng repeats that following Royan's teachings requires completing the hunter mission regardless of family. He declares every monster must die and drives his weapon through Royan's borrowed body. Wu's blazing remote hand seize Feng's sword and prevent him from finishing the attack. Royan sinks fangs into Feng's neck while Wu controls both flaming hands from nearby. Feng boasts even stronger bites cannot matter because silver blood heals wounds instantaneously. Royan's cutified eyes flare brighter as murderous determination overwhelms Qin's borrowed werewolf body. Qin's body transforms fully into a towering werewolf and bites deeply into Feng's neck. The mascot predicts cutified Qin's increased combat power might actually prove sufficient to kill Feng. Feng collapses onto all fours as blood spurts from the unexpectedly serious neck wound. Wu smiles and announces their strategy worked exactly as he intended against the hunter. Royan's blue spirit suddenly rises from Qin's shocked werewolf body and begins dissipating. Feng remains kneeling while Qin regains control, leaving the mascots confused by Royan's disappearance. The mascot explains Yulian destroyed Royan's bones, dispersing his soul and ending Qin's cutification. Weakened Feng touches the fresh bite marks on his neck as poisonous pain spreads. Wu immediately grabs Werewolf Qin's arm and orders their team to flee the cemetery. Yulian calmly watches them retreat and warns that escape will remain impossible. She loudly asks whether Wu still wonders who secretly exposed their location to her. When Wu turns to ask who, Qin suddenly tackles him violently against the ground. Looming over the startled Wu, Qin bluntly reveals that he personally betrayed their whereabouts. Pinned beneath Qin, Wu asks how Yulian still controls him after removing hypnosis. Yulian explains Wu removed only the first layer of her carefully nested hypnosis. The deeper enchantment leaves Qin infatuated and obedient, imagining Yulian as irresistibly desirable. Wu smiles and calls having such a clever student every teacher's genuine nightmare. Yulian commands Qin to crush Wu's head beneath his enormous werewolf paw. Hypnotized Qin raises one massive foot and brings it down toward Wu's exposed face. Qin strains with malicious satisfaction, believing his master's command is moments from completion. Wu teleports both burning hands beneath Qin's paw and forcibly arrests its descent. Wu redirects the crushing force, throwing Qin backward as the werewolf laughs uncontrollably. Wu springs over the grave toward weakened Feng while Qin tumbles away behind him. Feng swings his sword at Wu and warns the approaching vampire is courting death. Wu bends beneath the blade and insists his approach is not a suicidal attack. A flaming hand shoves Feng forward, bringing the confused hunter directly against Wu's body. Wu reveals his true objective by kissing Feng directly, leaving the hunter completely startled. Qin reacts with embarrassed shock until furious Yulian orders him to stop Wu immediately. Qin obeys and launches his werewolf body toward Wu and Feng with claws extended. Still holding Wu close, Feng swings his blade backward toward the airborne Qin. The sweeping sword slices across Qin's attacking arm and knocks the werewolf aside. Qin retreats toward Yulian while Feng remains protectively beside Wu across the cemetery. Furious, Yulian demands whether Feng Ruoyu has suddenly lost his mind entirely. Zhangpinger confirms the kiss awakened her consciousness inside Feng, greeting Wu as teacher. The baffled mascot asks how Wu knew a kiss could awaken Jiang's sleeping mind. Wu recalls previously awakening cutified Jiang by kissing her and simply repeated that gamble. Wu's mascot jokingly suggests he should kiss Qin as well to remove the deeper hypnosis. Wu studies the crouching werewolf and silently considers whether such an unpleasant remedy is necessary. He briefly imagines kissing Chin's wolf muzzle, producing a comically romantic and horrifying vision. Wu rejects the idea, declaring Chin's rescue cannot justify such an enormous personal sacrifice. He admits Feng is male but says the hunter at least resembles a beautiful woman. Yu Lion interrupts by ordering hypnotized Chin to attack his teacher once again. As worker bees surround them, Yu Lion promises to force Feng's original consciousness awake. Wu warns Jiang to avoid every bee because another sting would restore Yu Lion's control. Jiang confidently tells him not to worry and raises Feng's sword against the swarm. Jiang claims Feng possesses the strongest body and sweeps countless bees away with broad slashes. Her sword fills the air with intersecting arcs, cutting every approaching worker bee apart. After eradicating the swarm, Jiang charges Yu Lion and declares the witch is next. Yu Lion remains calm and insists Jiang cannot kill her despite the incoming blade. Jiang's sword stops directly against Yu Lion's throat before delivering the decisive cut. Jiang strains in confusion, unable to understand why Feng's powerful body refuses her command. Yu Lion smiles beneath her hat while Jiang trembles and protests the body's disobedience. Gripping Jiang's chin, Yu Lion calls her a toy that naturally belongs under her control. Jiang notices a tiny puncture on Feng's neck and finally understands why the body stopped. An invisible worker bee had bypassed her sword defense and secretly stung Feng's exposed skin. Qin points after the fleeing vampire and urgently tells Yu Lion that Wu escaped. Despite Yu Lion standing behind her, Jiang smiles with relief that teacher reached safety. Yu Lion embraces Jiang from behind, calling her protective resistance disobedience deserving punishment. The witch grips Jiang's sword hand and begins planting another personal command inside her. Yu Lion promises that next time she will personally order Jiang to kill Wu. Later that night, a brightly lit vampire gathering fills a tall Gothic building. A muscular doorman stops Wu at the entrance and demands to see his invitation. Wu casually exposes his vampire fangs, offering convincing proof of membership without paperwork. The guard allows Wu inside, where elegantly dressed vampires mingle beneath colorful lights. Inside the crowded nightclub, wealthy vampires dance, drink, and flirt around the central bar. Wu settles at the bar and calmly drinks a full cup of fresh blood. He praises its freshness while the mascot complains Qin now works for their enemy. Wu explains that Qin's betrayal is exactly why he entered this club seeking help. He asks the bartender for a newspaper featuring guardian Feng Ruoyu on its cover. Hearing Feng Ruoyu's name makes every vampire in the nightclub recoil with immediate terror. The panicked crowd screams that Silver Hunter arrived to kill them and stampedes away. The bartender restores order by clarifying Wu only requested a newspaper featuring Feng. The mascot doubts terrified vampires could ever find courage to fight Feng beside Wu. Wu smiles over his blood and says whether the vampires will help remains uncertain. A bloodied vampire rushes inside shouting that someone dangerous has arrived, restarting the panic. The bartender raises Feng's newspaper and insists everyone has misunderstood the warning again. The wounded messenger clarifies that Feng never arrived, struggling to name the real attacker. A gigantic werewolf bursts into the club and sweeps a fleeing waitress violently across the floor. The rampaging werewolf charges through terrified, helpless patrons, scattering vampires throughout the nightclub. Wu's mascot urges him to flee before another werewolf bite ruins any chance against Feng. Instead, Wu calmly folds the newspaper into a sharp paper weapon while considering escape. Surrounded by injured vampires, Wu asks who would save them if he abandoned the club. The werewolf lunges toward him while the astonished mascot wonders when Wu became a saint. Wu hardens the folded newspaper into a gleaming blade and prepares for direct combat. He leaps above Qin's snapping jaws with one paper weapon raised for a counterattack. The beast curls defensively and swings a massive arm while Wu parries with twin paper blades. Wu catches the werewolf's charging paw against one narrow blade without yielding ground. Both fiery achiever's hands appear around its head, wrenching the raging werewolf sharply sideways. Wu combines remote hands and paper blades to lift the enormous beast off balance. The chain maneuver hurls the werewolf repeatedly across the club, leaving overlapping bestial afterimages. The beast crashes through a wall but quickly returns through dust, still facing Wu. The watching vampires finally join together and blast the werewolf bodily through an open window. Relieved club patrons sincerely thank Wu for protecting their lives from the werewolf. The patrons clarify a werewolf bite disables healing and effectively costs half their remaining lives. Wu raises his cup and suggests he may also save the endangered half they retain. A confused vampire asks what Wu means while he leisurely finishes drinking his blood. Wu displays poison bite wounds on his arm and explains a werewolf also attacked him. The vampires insist wolf poison permanently destroys their healing ability once wounds begin festering. Wu folds the newspaper while asking whether they have heard about a special remedy. Holding Feng's portrait before the crowd, Wu dramatically names the Feng family's silver blood. A vampire explains drinking silver blood restores healing even after werewolf venom, then questions Wu. Wu confidently confirms Feng Ruoyu previously gave him silver blood and restored his healing. The poisoned vampires conclude they must kill Feng and drink his blood to survive. One frightened vampire asks whether their weakened group can realistically defeat the Silver Hunter. Wu pours another drink and promises victory becomes possible only if they fight alongside him. Raising his glass, Wu asks everyone willing to risk half their life to join. The desperate vampires lift cups and enthusiastically chant about killing Feng and drinking silver blood. The mascot praises Wu's fortunate werewolf encounter for helping him establish authority among vampires. Wu lifts the folded newspaper and cryptically asks whoever claimed fortune caused everything. Noticing no blood stains after the battle, the mascot suspects the newspaper concealed Wu's trick. The mascot realizes Wu created a paper werewolf to frighten vampires into supporting his campaign. Wu schedules their attack for tomorrow night, while the mascot warns enemies will expect darkness. The mascot adds that vampires cannot operate during daylight either, apparently leaving no safe advantage. Wu unexpectedly agrees the mascot's objection is excellent and signals a solution already exists. The mascot shouts that every recruited fighter remains a sunlight-vulnerable vampire despite Wu's confidence. Wu opens Feng's newspaper and calmly says they possess assistance from an outside source. The newspaper announces a coming total solar eclipse, providing darkness during an otherwise unexpected daytime assault. The next day, Qin stands guard atop the Feng Ancestral Hall beneath bright sunlight. The moon begins covering the sun, steadily darkening the sky above the target building. Qin watches the approaching eclipse and announces the predicted moment has finally arrived. One fiery achiever's hand suddenly materializes behind Qin and taps his shoulder without warning. Qin turns in surprise as the remote hand disappears into sparks before his eyes. A second enormous flaming fist slams Qin from behind, catching the werewolf completely unprepared. As Qin flies from the rooftop, Wu and the vampire strike force announce their attack. Wu checks his watch and warns totality gives them only 300 seconds to finish. The vampires quickly subdue fallen Qin, but Wu orders them to bring the werewolf along. Confident vampires marvel that their carefully timed assault has proceeded smoothly from the beginning. When someone asks where Qin went, an unseen blow suddenly strikes a vampire's face. The invisible werewolf rushes through their formation, punching another confused vampire violently backward. Rapid invisible attacks scatter the entire group while Wu's mascot watches the chaotic ambush. The mascot realizes Yu Lion strengthened Qin with invisibility magic before positioning him as guard. Wu closes his eyes and activates a perception ability called Eye of the Oracle. With glowing eyes reopened, Wu scans the area and demands Qin's concealed location. The mascot uses battlefield experience to conclude invisible Qin must currently be hovering directly overhead. Qin suddenly grabs Wu's ankle from below, revealing his hidden position before the vampire can respond. Elsewhere, sustaining invisibility exhausts Yu Lion, but she refuses Zhang's warning to stop. Qin approaches the isolated pavilion and respectfully addresses Yu Lion as master once again. Qin leads Wu and several vampires forward, announcing that Wu surrendered himself voluntarily. Yu Lion praises Wu's cunning decision to attack during the conveniently timed solar eclipse. She explains owning a press agency made her daily newspaper reading reveal his likely plan. Wu rubs his forehead and dryly concludes Yu Lion is too intelligent for anyone's good. Qin asks whether to kill Wu immediately, but Yu Lion says Feng already accepted another arrangement. Yu Lion intends to execute Wu only after Jiang's consciousness awakens inside Feng again. Without warning, Qin roars and raises his claws against the startled Yu Lion. Wu breaks formation and leads the gathered vampires rushing past Qin toward the pavilion. Multiple vampires surround weakened Feng inside the columns, closing every available escape route. The attackers suddenly collapse into a tangled heap amid expanding clouds of dust. Meanwhile, Qin pins Yu Lion by her throat, hissing directly into the witch's face. Shocked, Yu Lion asks how Qin possibly broke the hypnosis spell controlling him. Wu smiles and calmly admits he never removed Yu Lion's hypnosis from Qin. The trapped witch demands why Qin now follows Wu's commands despite remaining hypnotized. Wu reveals he copied Yu Lion's ability and overlaid her hypnosis with his own. The remaining vampires surround Feng and unleash a simultaneous energy blast inside the pavilion. Feng survives the combined blast and rises through smoke, sword ready among fallen vampires. The Silver Hunter unleashes a sweeping counterattack that cuts through the remaining assailants. Feng's blade slams across Qin's werewolf body and drives him away from Yu Lion. Feng immediately pivots and launches himself toward Wu with his sword raised overhead. The wounded hunter closes the distance rapidly, extending his blade directly toward Wu. Wu catches Feng's sword with a paper blade while hidden flames approach the distracted hunter. Wu reveals Feng attacked only a decoy as several blazing achievers' hands surround him. The remote hands strike Feng simultaneously from multiple directions, piercing his torso and limbs. Yu Lion warns killing Feng will also kill Jiang, hoping to stop Wu's assault. Wu ignores the warning and commands Qin to perform their prepared final maneuver. Yu Lion anxiously demands whether Wu truly cares nothing about Jiang Pinger's life. Qin's technique draws Jiang's glowing spirit upward from Feng's fallen body before the astonished Yu Lion. The liberated spirit flies toward Qin as his resurrection technique gives Jiang an independent form. Exhausted from the resurrection, Qin addresses Wu while steadying his aching werewolf head. Wu and Qin briefly celebrate completing the dangerous separation without sacrificing Jiang's consciousness. Qin urgently warns Wu that they must escape before the temporary eclipse ends. Wu calmly refuses, insisting enough time remains to finish the mission's true objective. A blazing achiever's hand descends as Wu declares he still intends to kill Feng Ruoyu. The enormous flaming fist crashes downward, engulfing its target beneath an explosive wave of fire. Totality ends, and returning sunlight ignites the surviving vampires while Wu and Qin remain inside the pavilion. Wu checks his watch and realizes the supposed eclipse ended with 60 seconds remaining. Looking skyward, Wu cannot understand why direct sunlight returned substantially earlier than predicted. Yulian smiles triumphantly and asks whether Wu has finally understood her deception. She reveals her press agency fabricated the eclipse report and distributed newspapers specifically to lure him. Already burning beneath the restored sun, Wu asks how Yulian simulated totality convincingly. Yu explains Magic Night, her final supreme spell, temporarily transforms broad daylight into darkness. Cast during scorching noon, the spell created false totality until you deliberately cancelled it. With sunlight restored, Wu's vampire body erupts in flames exactly as Yulian planned. Wu's mascot desperately urges Qin to devise some method of saving his burning teammate. Qin tells Wu to endure while preparing his corner ability against the spreading fire. Bury into ground wraps Wu inside thick earth, immediately smothering the flames across his body. The protective earthen coating extinguishes the blaze, leaving Wu scorched but momentarily stabilized. A watching system mascot enthusiastically praises Qin's quick thinking and highly effective rescue. Qin braces nearby as Wu's hardened earthen shell begins cracking apart under mounting force. Wu explosively shatters the shell, surging outward again while still wreathed in fire. Qin urges Wu to flee and uses his massive werewolf strength to launch him away. Still burning, Wu hurtles down the roof while Qin promises to cover his escape. Yulian praises people who sacrifice themselves for others, mockingly admiring Wu's desperate retreat. She blows Wu her warmest kiss, releasing enchanted scarlet lips toward the fleeing vampire. The giant lips of flame overtake Wu midair, striking his already burning body from behind. The flaming lips kiss Wu's cheek, spreading supernatural fire across his entire blackening body. Wu's system mascot laments losing such an excellent host and assumes he has died. A small scorched remnant tumbles onto the pavilion roof as flames continue trailing away. Qin collapses over Wu's remains, trembling and tearfully calling his fallen teammate's name. Yulian mockingly regrets preventing Qin from delivering the final blow against Wu. She happily decides Wu's death means nobody else can steal her precious toys. Devastated, Qin accuses Yulian of killing Wu while tears stream down his muzzle. The enraged werewolf launches himself at Yulian, roaring that he will avenge Wu. Yu dismisses Qin as a rebellious toy deserving punishment for threatening its master. She summons swarming worker bees and swings a flexible orange whip formed from magic. Qin leaps to strike, but Yu effortlessly sweeps the enchanted whip across his charge. The orange lash curls around Qin's body, interrupting his attack before he reaches her. Its magically extended length coils through the air while worker bees circle nearby. Yu controls the living whip from her waist, smiling confidently as its coils tighten. Multiple orange bands wrap Qin's torso and limbs, completely binding the struggling werewolf. Yu violently slams the restrained Qin onto the roof, tightening every magical loop. Pinned against broken tiles, Qin strains helplessly while the thick bindings squeeze him. Yu crouches beside her defeated opponent, looming over Qin as he growls through the restraints. Calling Qin her favorite toy, Yu declares he will never escape her grasp again. Yulian's smug expression suddenly vanishes when she notices something unexpected rapidly approaching. Qin suddenly breaks free and seizes Yu, making her cough blood from the chest wound. A blazing achiever's hand erupts through Yulian's torso, shocking her with Wu's signature ability. Confused and bleeding, Yu demands why Qin can wield the supposedly dead Wu's power. The werewolf reveals Wu now controls him, declaring that he himself is Mr. Wu. Qin transferred Wu's soul into his werewolf body moments before the vampire host burned away. Mortally wounded, Yu warns that if she dies, Wu will never escape this place alive. Wu dismisses the threat because Feng remains badly injured and needs time despite silver blood. Yu responds with a sinister smile, revealing her final contingency remains ready nearby. A warning suddenly reveals Feng's chuffication has already climbed dangerously to 99%. Wu realizes Yu prepared another trap as the approaching transformation threatens everyone present. Feng's trembling hand sprouts scales and black claws while his injured body mutates. Wu understands Yu's worker bees previously injected Feng with enough killing intent to cutify. Collapsing from Wu's wound, Yu calls Feng's transformation her final gift before death. Yulian falls backward with eyes closed as her strength finally abandons her. The mutated Feng throws his head backward and roars while completing the monstrous change. Feng finally reaches 100% chuffication, becoming an armored Cud armed with twin blades. The newly transformed Cud charges forward, declaring that everyone around him must die. Feng leaps at Wu's shared werewolf body with both curved swords raised for execution. He unleashes a crossing slash, forcing Wu to defend Qin's body at close range. Wu counters with his blazing achiever's hand, sweeping the lethal blades away from their host. Two blazing hands batter Feng's torso and face, yet the armored Cud barely yields. Wu marvels at Feng's extraordinarily powerful new body after the direct strikes fail. Feng catches one fiery hand against his scaled chest and prepares another counterattack. Spinning both short swords, Feng wonders how Wu can fight after losing those hands. The Cud slashes repeatedly, severing Wu's remote hands and Qin's physical forearms together. Both consciousnesses scream as Qin's werewolf body loses its arms beneath the sweeping blades. Qin takes control and insists his powerful legs remain available despite losing Wu's hands. Begging mockingly for mercy, Qin curls into an acrobatic attack and launches himself forward. Feng stares blankly, confused by Qin's strange plea and his unexpected, unarmed approach. With blood pouring from both stumps, Qin springs upward and positions his feet for combat. Qin whips a powerful kick directly into Feng's head, briefly snapping the cud sideways. He clamps one dexterous foot around Feng's scaled wrist, attempting to control the blade. Feng stops Qin effortlessly, dismissing the leg-based counterattack as utterly unimpressive and pointless. The Cud hurls Qin across the roof, crashing him into several unconscious bodies. After Qin's failure, Wu asks to retake control of their severely mutilated shared body. Red energy coils around the werewolf's severed limbs as Wu begins another transformation. New fangs erupt from Qin's skull while borrowed blood reshapes the battered host. The body rapidly reconstructs, restoring both arms and adopting stronger blood wolf characteristics. Qin praises Wu for successfully turning their shared werewolf body into a blood wolf. Fully restored, Wu advances confidently and promises Feng they will completely defeat him this time. Feng warns that becoming a blood wolf also makes Wu half vampire and sunlight vulnerable. Direct sunlight immediately scorches the shared blood wolf body, stripping fur and flesh away. Qin panics inside their mind and urgently orders Wu to reverse the dangerous transformation. Wu refuses because the vulnerable blood wolf form remains essential for his planned comeback. A blazing projectile crashes into Feng's torso, forcing the Cud backward through the sunlight. The fiery explosion launches Feng upward, giving Wu an opening to close the distance. Wu charges behind the blast, grappling Feng before the recovering Cud can counterattack. Transforming his jaw, Wu bites deeply into Feng's exposed neck while holding him still. Feng smashes an armored forearm into Wu's head, but the blood wolf maintains its bite. The fangs pierce Feng's neck completely, infecting the Cud with the blood wolf's vampirism. A remote fiery hand pours stored blood directly into Feng's mouth, completing his transformation. Feng involuntarily gulps the blood while Wu holds his jaws open under direct sunlight. Reflected sunlight fills Feng's widening eye as the fatal consequence suddenly becomes clear. Both transformed bodies burn, but Feng's newly pure vampire form disintegrates much faster. Wu locks Feng in a crushing embrace, preventing the burning Cud from escaping sunlight. Feng asks whether Wu intends to perish alongside him as their bodies continue crumbling. Wu explains a half-vampire survives broad daylight considerably longer than a pure vampire. Feng's hands and body finally break apart into ash beneath the relentless sun. Wu remains standing in the damaged blood wolf body, clutching Feng's last crumbling remains. Both system mascots celebrate victory and praise Qin for sharing such a compatible host. Mission extraction begins, lifting the exhausted blood wolf body from the ruined pavilion roof. Qin thanks Wu for saving them and admits he now owes his teammate one favor. Wu shakes Qin's hand and advises greater caution against immediate enemy hypnosis next time. Their prolonged handshake embarrasses the watching mascots because both consciousnesses still occupy one naked body. Before extraction completes, everyone suddenly notices Yulian rising alive behind the group. Wu demands how Yu survived after his blazing hand pierced directly through her heart. Yu reveals she prepared silver blood beforehand, letting her heal enough to feign death. As her own extraction begins, Yu politely tells Wu to take care of himself. Yu pauses ominously, implying she possesses important knowledge that Wu desperately needs now. She warns Wu will otherwise never discover the identity of whoever originally killed him. Shocked that Yu knows the truth behind his death, Wu lunges toward her extraction beam. Yu blows him a playful farewell kiss while her body dissolves beyond his reach. Wu reaches after Yu, but both missions extract them before he can demand answers. He vows to uncover everything about his murder the next time they meet. Wu returns to killing in tent space, where the giant evaluation brush scans his restored body. The brush touches Wu's forehead and begins calculating his performance alongside waiting Jiang. Wu receives mission rank B, 3 talent points and 50% title experience. The evaluation machine assigns Wu unchanged C-rank host potential after completing the 4th mission. His mascot explains 50% experience remains insufficient to upgrade Wu's current title. Wu questions why the system previously granted a title before his 2nd mission ended. The mascot offers an immediate title upgrade, but warns Wu would receive only half a title. Jiang asks what obtaining half a title actually means for Wu's future abilities. The mascot explains incomplete titles may malfunction unpredictably or inflict unknown side effects. Wu calmly accepts those risks and insists he can handle whatever consequences appear. The mascot adds that using an incomplete title creates another serious strategic problem. Mission difficulty follows title strength, leaving half-title hosts underpowered for stronger assignments ahead. Rather than retreating, Wu smiles and considers the extra disadvantage even more interesting. Jiang promises to remain beside Wu regardless of the dangerous decision he makes. The mascot guesses Wu wants power quickly because Yulion's secret makes him anxious. Wu cuts off the teasing and steps forward, demanding the promised advancement immediately. He orders the mascot to upgrade his title now while Jiang follows anxiously behind. Wu enters his 5th mission inside a uniformed young man seated in a sunny office. The host works at a desk covered with documents, including a notice about a missing cat. As noon arrives, Wu's consciousness settles into the host while the quiet wall clock ticks. The newly awakened Wu notices a strange disturbance entering through the open office window. He stretches in the chair as the missing cat notice lies prominently on the floor. The system assigns a 1 vs 2 mission to kill Xia Tianhua within 300 hours. The mascot warns Wu nearly failed with an ally, whereas 2 enemies now oppose him. His fresh title upgrade raises mission difficulty and may make the target nearly impossible to locate. Wu confidently announces he has already found the female target despite the system's warning. The astonished mascot asks how Wu identified Xia Tianhua immediately after entering this world. Wu abruptly throws the missing cat notice across the mascot's face instead of explaining. The notice openly identifies cat owner Xia Tianhua and lists her room number. Reading the obvious clue, the mascot falls silent with embarrassment and mounting dread. Although the target seemingly invited discovery, the mascot warns Xia might exceed Feng's strength. Wu lifts the notice and proposes visiting Xia directly to test that warning. The poster directs Wu to condominium room 503, where Hu Yiping's worried owner awaits information. Carrying a large box, Wu arrives outside the numbered apartment and prepares his approach. Dressed as building security, Wu rings Xia Tianhua's doorbell while concealing his intentions. A blonde woman wrapped in a bath towel cautiously opens the door and questions him. Wu identifies himself simply as security while presenting the box and folded notice. He displays her missing cat poster, prompting the surprised resident to recognize her own notice. Xia eagerly asks whether the security officer has finally located her missing cat Hu Yiping. Wu invites her to open the large box and confirm whether Hu Yiping is inside. Xia peers into the box with hopeful recognition, softly calling her beloved cat's name. Her eyes widen suddenly when the box's hidden contents reveal Wu's actual trap. A blazing achiever's hand erupts from the box and smashes directly into Xia's torso. The surprise strike tears through Xia's upper body while Wu calmly retracts his flaming arm. Wu follows with a merciless kick, knocking the wounded woman against the doorway floor. Bleeding heavily, Xia weakly extends one trembling hand and pleads desperately for mercy. Wu coldly refuses mercy, telling Xia an assassin will not spare his target. Xia recognizes him as an assassin and recalls a mysterious incident 6 months earlier. Despite bleeding out, Xia clarifies that her plea was never actually for personal mercy. She only wants to know whether Wu truly found Hu Yiping before she dies. The mascot marvels that Xia thinks solely about her cat while facing imminent death. Wu senses something wrong with the assignment and decides ending it quickly remains safest. The mascot objects that Wu's attack appeared to complete the mission unusually smoothly. Wu agrees the effortless victory itself now provides the strongest reason for suspicion. After reconsidering everything, the mascot identifies 3 major inconsistencies surrounding Xia's apparent death. First, Xia appears completely ordinary despite the system assigning Wu an extraordinarily difficult target. Second, neither of the 2 opposing preventers has appeared to defend Xia yet. Third, killing Xia failed to extract Wu back into killing in tent space as expected. Those contradictions spark Wu's realization about the target's hidden nature and mission condition. Wu concludes his actual target possesses an ability allowing her to resurrect herself. Xia's eyes suddenly open again as the self-resurrection ability restores her fatal injuries. She rises alive beside Wu's feet, completely healed after bleeding motionless moments earlier. Wu calls Xia truly special while she stares upward, shocked and silently confused. He crouches close to the revived woman, studying her while blocking any escape route. Xia insists she is merely ordinary, apparently unaware that dying failed to hold. Wu counters that nobody incapable of staying dead can reasonably call herself ordinary. Xia studies Wu carefully and asks whether he actually comes from another world. Surprised by her insight, Wu asks what evidence made Xia suspect his foreign origin. Xia says every local knows the worldwide phenomenon called the Grim Reaper is dead. Wu repeats the strange phrase in disbelief, confirming he has never heard it before. Xia explains she suffered terminal late-stage cancer 6 months earlier before the phenomenon began. Unable to endure the pain, she climbed onto a rooftop intending to end her life. Xia stepped from the ledge, choosing a fatal fall to escape the relentless cancer. Her broken body landed below, but the unprecedented global event occurred at that exact moment. The Grim Reaper is dead restored Xia's shattered body instead of allowing death. Xia rose alive before astonished witnesses, discovering even terminal illness could no longer kill her. She clarifies the resurrection was universal, affecting hospital patients and countless others worldwide. Corpses throughout morgues suddenly awakened, proving nobody in this world could permanently die. Since that event, every person across the entire planet has become effectively immortal. Outside the condominium, the mascot asks whether Wu intends to let Xia simply leave. Wu answers he cannot kill an immortal target anyway and exits through the gate. He also plans to verify Xia's extraordinary claims before deciding his next move. A red motorcycle carrying 2 thieves speeds past Wu outside the apartment complex. The pair flees after stealing a pedestrian's bag while its owner chases desperately. One thief taunts the victim, promising repayment only if she somehow catches them. Wu teleports a blazing achiever's hand directly toward the surprised motorcycle driver's face. Wu's blazing remote hand forces startled thieves to swerve violently beside the condominium wall. The motorcycle slams into the wall, throwing both riders onto pavement and apparently killing them instantly. Wu points at the fallen driver and dryly blames him for ignoring directions to continue straight. Disguised as a security officer, Wu says the thief mistook his gesture for police instructions. Wu calmly confirms both robbers are dead, satisfied his test produced a clear result. The breathless victim reaches the wreckage and finds her stolen brown handbag beside the motionless thieves. The older woman retrieves her purse by its chain amid scattered motorcycle debris. As she departs, both thieves resurrect behind her, already restrained together inside a tire. The revived female claims a madman tied them up and asks the victim for help. Instead, the furious woman beats the thief with her handbag, warning her never to steal it again. Watching the immortal robbers flee, Wu concludes Zia told the truth about universal resurrection. Wu suddenly halts after sensing an unseen presence nearby, surprising the floating mascot. Wu warns they have company while his blazing hand flickers beside nearby bushes. The mascot spins anxiously and wonders whether the opposing preventers have finally appeared. Wu says the hidden presence is not a preventer and turns toward the shrubbery. Achiever's hand plunges into rustling bushes and drags out whatever was concealed there. The supposed spy proves to be a scruffy brown cat dangling harmlessly from Wu's grip. Wu studies the strangely familiar animal while the skeptical mascot watches beside him. The mascot suddenly recognizes it as Zia Tianhua's missing cat from the notice. Wu kneels, calls the cat Huiping, and cautiously reaches toward his unexpected discovery. Huiping happily nuzzles Wu's approaching finger, appearing tame despite its ragged condition and visible injuries. Wu smiles at the purring animal and announces they have successfully found Zia's missing cat. The mascot reminds Wu his mission requires investigating the Grim Reaper phenomenon, not rescuing pets. While petting Huiping, Wu asks whether a literal Grim Reaper exists in this world. To everyone's surprise, Huiping answers aloud that such a being certainly exists here. The startled mascot screams that the cat just spoke, while Wu studies it silently. Trusting his instincts, Wu immediately identifies the consciousness inside Huiping as Jiang Pinger. Jiang confirms herself and asks how Wu recognized her while she inhabited the cat. Wu calls it instinct as Jiang settles comfortably on his shoulder beside the mascot. The mascot asks about the Grim Reaper, and Jiang says Huiping's veterinarian met him. Walking toward the clinic, Wu asks how Jiang knows the veterinarian is actually Death. Jiang promises his treatment of wounded animals will reveal the disturbing truth to Wu. Their search leads to the Qin Yixian Veterinary Clinic beneath a bright afternoon sky. Wu rushes through the clinic entrance, urgently begging its staff to save Huiping. A green-haired veterinarian accepts the injured cat while his pink-haired nurse observes cautiously. Recognizing Huiping, the veterinarian examines the bloody wound visible across the cat's chest. He demands why Wu possesses Zia's missing cat and how the animal became injured. Wu claims Huiping was already wounded when he discovered it beside the road. The veterinarian carries Huiping toward treatment, followed closely by his assistant and suspicious Wu. The nurse blocks Wu, explaining outsiders cannot enter because they might interrupt treatment. Wu pretends compliance and says he will wait outside, leaving the veterinarian unworried. Inside the clinic, a fluffy gray cat approaches food as someone extends a hand. The pink-haired nurse calmly watches the gray cat eat while Wu waits in the background. The mascot complains Jiang injured Huiping deliberately to demonstrate the treatment, yet Wu cannot observe. Wu confidently raises one finger and says he can still watch everything remotely. Endless knowledge connects Wu to a clinic security camera that has witnessed 103 animal treatments. Wu activates the copied surveillance ability, his eyes glowing as remote footage begins. Through the camera, Wu watches the veterinarian position injured Huiping on the treatment table. The veterinarian gently apologizes to Huiping and strokes the cat's head before operating. Promising a quick ending, he suddenly slashes Huiping's throat, horrifying the watching Wu. Enraged by Jiang's apparent death, Wu rises and shouts her name across the lobby. Wu charges into the treatment room despite the nurse's startled protest, determined to confront the veterinarian. The veterinarian protests treatment is unfinished while Huiping lies motionless on the bloody table. Wu angrily accuses the doctor of killing his cat and seizes a bloodied scalpel. Blinded by fury, Wu lunges at the terrified veterinarian and vows to make him pay. Wu whips the scalpel toward the doctor, who begs desperately not to be killed. The frightened veterinarian claims he lacks the immortal body possessed by everyone else. The mascot urgently tells Wu to calm down and points toward Huiping's body. Huiping suddenly awakens without its fatal wound, proving Jiang's consciousness remains alive inside. Pressing the scalpel against the doctor, Wu demands how Huiping survived the witnessed killing. Cornered, the doctor confesses he is actually the Grim Reaper, despite expecting Wu's disbelief. He explains the Grim Reaper can heal only dead animals, requiring him to kill Huiping first. Wu questions how the supposedly mortal doctor can be Death when every human became immortal. The doctor says he exchanged his fate with humanity, surrendering Death's immortality to them. Asked why, the Grim Reaper admits he transformed the entire world to save Zia Tianhua. 6 months earlier, Zia phoned before surgery fearing death and asking him to take Huiping. Reaching the hospital too late, the veterinarian saw terminally ill Zia leap from the building. Standing bloodied beneath the hospital, he personally witnessed Zia's devastating fall and apparent death. Desperate to save her, the Grim Reaper exchanged his own fate with humanity's. The bargain made him mortal while granting Zia and every other human eternal life. Wu asks why he never reversed the exchange after Zia survived her operation. He explains removing Zia's immortality would let her remaining cancer cells kill her. Wu smiles dangerously and asks what would happen if he killed the mortal Grim Reaper. The doctor says his death instantly cancels the exchange, making killing him suicidal for Wu. Wu retorts that he is an assassin and flicks the surgical knife into an attack. Declaring nobody can die under current rules, Wu launches a powerful downward strike. The blade glances harmlessly across the doctor's chest as a concealed object deflects it. Astonished to remain alive, the veterinarian checks himself while Wu notices the unexpected defense. Wu asks what inside the doctor's pocket managed to block the razor-sharp surgical knife. The veterinarian reaches into his coat and says his nurse recently gave him the object. The protective object is a folded paper crane, instantly reminding Wu of a previous enemy. Recognizing familiar paper sorcery, Wu turns from the doctor and announces their unexpected reunion. Wu identifies the pink-haired nurse as Fei Ran, his raider opponent from the third mission. Fei reveals she is now a preventer protecting the Grim Reaper because his survival keeps Zia immortal. Ordering the doctor to flee, Fei unfolds a book into numerous razor-edged paper cranes. The Grim Reaper grabs Huiping and runs while Fei remains behind to confront Wu. Wu quickly flicks away a paper attacker and reaches toward the escaping veterinarian. Fei's cranes swarm Wu from every direction, shielding the doctor as he retreats. The Grim Reaper grabs Huiping from the table and flees while paper cranes suppress Wu. Wu teleports a burning hand carrying the scalpel toward the fleeing doctor despite Fei's distraction. The blade races toward Huiping's face after the veterinarian abruptly uses the cat as a shield. Wu halts the scalpel inches from Huiping while the doctor clutches the cat protectively. Maintaining concentration, Wu catches several incoming paper cranes with additional blazing hands simultaneously. Multiple achievers' hands destroy Fei's projectiles around Wu while Huiping remains captive nearby. Wu condemns the veterinarian for using a pet to block an assassin's knife so cruelly. The Grim Reaper insists Huiping cannot die permanently while he controls death itself here. Fei immediately charges through the blazing hands and launches a sweeping kick at Wu. Wu retracts his teleported hands toward his body while pivoting away from Fei's attack. Both hands reattach to Wu's wrists, restoring his ordinary arms after remote combat. Wu crosses his arms and activates a mysterious command named Arm of the Oracle Switch. The attempted switch malfunctions spectacularly, making Wu's own hand slap both cheeks at once. Fei mocks the failure, suggesting Wu rename his ability slapping one's own face. Confused, Wu suddenly demands why he lost control of Arm of the Oracle. Fei smirks knowingly and begins explaining how she hijacked his newly revealed ability. Fei reveals her pages control the apparent arm, whose paper shell crumbles around Wu. The Grim Reaper warns Wu as Fei's confidence leaves her vulnerable to a hidden attack. Fei notices a blazing fist reflected in her eye only an instant before impact. Wu's concealed real arm pierces Fei through the upper chest, sending her sprawling. The remote arm retracts through Wu's paper disguise as wounded Fei collapses nearby. Stunned, Fei asks why Wu appeared to possess 3 arms during his counterattack. Wu reveals the visible right arm was a paper fake created solely to deceive Fei. His genuine right arm had teleported away and secretly approached Fei from behind. As Fei lies wounded, Huiping remains unharmed beside the folded paper cranes nearby. Huiping loudly warns Wu, drawing his attention toward another approaching paper weapon behind. Wu spots a paper crane diving directly at the back of his neck. He instantly ducks sideways, narrowly avoiding the deadly paper crane slicing past overhead. Wounded Fei secretly twitches one finger, redirecting the missed crane for another strike. Instead, the returning projectile slices Fei's own neck, leaving her slumped and bleeding. The mascot gleefully laughs that Fei's attack disastrously backfired upon its own creator. Wu disagrees, revealing Fei deliberately intended the crane to slice her own throat. The mascot explains Fei's deliberate suicide as the quickest method to restore her pierced body. In this immortal world, only temporary death can instantly erase severe physical injuries. Fei's eyes reopen moments after the fatal throat wound, her complete resurrection already underway. Fully restored, Fei grabs an empty anesthesia bottle from the treatment room floor. She transforms the container into another elongated surgical blade and prepares to attack. Fei grips her newly formed weapon tightly, confidently resuming the battle against Wu immediately. Claiming she will not repeat the mistake again, revived Fei points her weapon toward Wu. Wu calmly asks why the nearby anesthesia bottle is empty, revealing another hidden trap. Fei realizes too late that her new blade has exposed her to the anesthetic. Wu reveals he coated every available surgical knife with the missing anesthesia beforehand. Fei collapses as the drug takes effect, yet insists Wu will ultimately lose anyway. Succumbing to anesthesia, Fei finishes warning that Wu himself is destined to lose. The puzzled mascot asks what Fei's ominous final statement could possibly mean now. Wu recalls Fei saying we must ensure the Grim Reaper's safety and notices the crucial plural. The word alerts Wu that Fei has been cooperating with another hidden preventer. The mascot remembers the 1 vs 2 mission and warns the second preventer must already be nearby somewhere. Wu lunges at the Grim Reaper, deciding to finish his objective before the unseen enemy can intervene. As Wu thrusts the knife, his vision suddenly glitches and the target's position seems distorted. Wu continues stabbing toward the seated veterinarian, unaware his body is misaligned with his perception. The mascot laughs in confusion because Wu is actually thrusting his knife into empty air. Wu abruptly pulls the knife from seemingly empty space, unleashing a startling spray of blood. Blood continues gushing while Wu calmly realizes his thrust actually struck an invisible opponent. A transparent human body collapses heavily into a spreading pool of blood before Wu. Wu identifies invisibility magic and concludes the second preventer is his recurring enemy Yu Lion. Numerous clinic tools suddenly float around Wu, revealing several more invisible attackers surrounding him. Wu activates heightened vision, preparing to perceive enemies hidden by Yu Lion's spell. His enhanced sight outlines a crowd of concealed human figures brandishing assorted medical weapons. The red-eyed invisible mob rushes from every side while Wu calmly tracks their movements. The Grim Reaper seizes the opportunity to flee with Huiping as attackers distract Wu behind him. One invisible man swings a scalpel toward Wu's neck, but the assassin easily anticipates the strike. Wu bends backward beneath the blade, letting the attack whistle harmlessly over his face. A blazing achiever's hand clamps the attacker's wrist and violently redirects his momentum downward. Wu slams the captured invisible assailant headfirst into the floor as another prepares to throw medicine. Using debris with his teleported hand, Wu smashes another invisible attacker's face at close range. A third assailant grabs Wu's fiery wrist while wielding scissors in the opposite hand. Wu counters the hold and buries the stolen scissors deeply in a nearby attacker's neck. The Grim Reaper escapes the treatment room carrying Huiping while another invisible attacker sneaks behind Wu. The hidden enemy smashes a medicine bottle over Wu's head, showering him with shards. Multiple invisible fighters grapple Wu simultaneously, restraining his arms and crowding him with weapons. The Grim Reaper races into the corridor with Huiping while the mob overwhelms Wu behind him. The invisible mob pins Wu down, but a blazing hand still hovers above one attacker. Wu decides the enemies must be handled first and strikes two assailants simultaneously with fiery fists. One red-eyed attacker boasts Wu cannot kill people who will continually resurrect anyway. Wu replies killing them is unnecessary, revealing he has understood their control mechanism. A teleported hand yanks a small worker bee stinger from the attacker's neck cleanly. Wu explains removing the stingers automatically restores every controlled victim's senses and free will. The freedman clutches his neck, bewildered about why he is inside the clinic naked. The mascot gleefully notes everyone can be liberated by extracting their implanted worker bee stingers. A still-controlled assailant attacks the newly freed man, forcing Wu to intervene before serious injury. Wu's blazing hand deflects a sharp projectile just before it reaches the intended victim. The diverted weapon passes harmlessly beside the frightened freed man's neck and disappears across the room. The enraged controlled attacker roars and continues advancing despite Wu successfully freeing the first victim. The mascot warns victims cannot all recover until Wu locates Yu Lion controlling them. Wu catches a spinning surgical blade in fiery fingertips and redirects it elsewhere. The captured blade suddenly shoots toward a fluffy gray clinic cat, revealing Wu's suspicion. The agile cat springs sideways, narrowly avoiding the knife point aimed at its body. Wu pursues with scissors clenched in a blazing hand as the cat leaps toward the corner. His teleported weapon nearly pierces the airborne cat during a relentless pursuit through the clinic. A red-eyed servant unexpectedly grabs the blade barehanded to shield the threatened cat immediately. Wu notes a mindless victim would never independently risk himself for an ordinary animal. Wu openly names the gray cat as Yu Lion, confirming his deduction before everyone. The cat speaks in Yu Lion's voice and asks what made Wu suspect her. Wu explains the cat was clearly able to see the mascot, something ordinary residents cannot perceive. He adds transmigrating into a cat is unsurprising, remembering Jiang also entered Huiping earlier. Exposed, Yu Lion orders her remaining controlled servants to tear Wu apart without mercy. Her red-eyed servants remain frozen and unresponsive, leaving the cat shocked by her lost control. Yu Lion demands what Wu did while he calmly confronts her feline body. Wu explains Yu Lion controlled the servants through power granted by her Queen Bee title. Wu reveals his new Oracle title has sealed away Yu Lion's Queen Bee title. Yu Lion realizes Wu's upgraded title lets him temporarily seal titles belonging to others. Wu tells her to worry about saving herself as a giant blazing hand crushes the cat. He reminds Yu Lion that cats never gained humanity's immortality in this transformed world. Pinned beneath fire, Yu Lion bargains that killing her will bury the essential truth forever. Wu suspends the cat by its back with a fiery hand and orders her to speak immediately. The blazing hand suddenly breaks apart above Yu Lion, unexpectedly releasing the frightened cat. Yu Lion lands safely while Wu stares at his empty hands, startled by the malfunction. The confused mascot demands what Wu is doing as he examines his powerless arms. Wu admits he suddenly cannot control Arm of Oracle, despite no obvious cause. The mascot realizes dangerous aftereffects of Wu's incomplete half-title have finally manifested during battle. A supernatural hourglass shows Wu's Oracle title temporarily sealing itself and disabling Arm of Oracle. With his Oracle power disabled, Wu faces the advancing gray cat while Fei lies unconscious nearby. Wu reaches with an ordinary hand as Yu Lion darts toward fallen Fei for protection. Yu Lion leaps onto Fei's body and urgently commands the anesthetized preventer to protect her. The gray cat streaks across Fei's chest, triggering a dormant paper defense around her. Wu lunges desperately and reaches for Yu Lion before she can complete her escape. A razor-sharp paper weapon suddenly slices through Wu's outstretched hand and stops his grab. Several folded paper blades erupt around both hands, piercing his palms and drawing blood. Wu tears free from the paper attack and blasts the surrounding defenses completely apart. A violent explosion tears open the clinic wall, filling the treatment room with smoke and rubble. Wu charges through the massive breach, pursuing Yu Lion and Fei into the city. The chase moves into a quiet residential neighborhood beneath a bright afternoon sky. Wu returns to Xia Tianhua's condominium and reaches the familiar door of room 503. Inside the empty apartment, the mascot complains they captured neither the Grim Reaper nor either preventer. Zia is also missing, making the mascot declare the entire confrontation completely pointless. Wu reminds it the fleeing Grim Reaper carried Jiang Pinger inside Huiping, giving them a trail. Elsewhere, ordinary traffic moves through a busy city intersection under the afternoon sun. The traffic signal changes to green while leaves drift beside the roadside trees. Zia Tianhua waves from the curb and calls toward someone approaching from across the street. The Grim Reaper scolds Zia for leaving home despite being targeted while carrying Huiping back. Zia happily takes Huiping and admits she could not wait any longer to see her cat. Huiping suddenly struggles in Zia's arms and meows urgently while staring toward the nearby road. The alarmed cat scratches Zia's hand, forcing its surprised owner to loosen her grip. Huiping jumps from Zia's arms and races away as both adults watch in confusion. Zia realizes Huiping is sprinting directly across the road despite the red traffic light. A speeding truck bears down on Huiping while its furious driver blasts the horn. Zia runs into the road without hesitation, desperately reaching toward her endangered cat. The truck strikes Zia as she shields Huiping against her body at the final moment. Zia lies bleeding beside the damaged truck, still clutching Huiping safely against her chest. The shocked driver calls Zia insane after seeing her sacrifice herself for a cat. Zia calmly assures him she cannot die, despite the immense pool of blood beneath her. The angry driver complains that his truck remains badly damaged even if Zia will recover. The Grim Reaper offers the driver money for repairs and promises additional compensation if necessary. The driver curses the immortal world, where people recklessly behave like invulnerable superheroes. Zia insists she would protect Huiping with her life even without possessing an immortal body. Cradling Huiping tenderly, Zia explains the beloved cat is her only remaining family. Jiang Pinger falls silent inside Huiping, visibly moved by Zia's unconditional devotion toward the cat. Still wounded and bleeding, Zia gently reassures Huiping while holding the cat upon her lap. The group eventually returns from the intersection to the Grim Reaper's quiet residential home. A visitor arrives at the house and presses the doorbell while those inside remain unaware. The Grim Reaper opens the door and finds Fei Ran holding Yu Lion's gray cat body. Fei tells the wary Grim Reaper she has come specifically to protect him from Wu. The Grim Reaper lets Fei inside and she immediately asks where he keeps the cat cage. Fei places Yu Lion's fluffy body inside a large cage already occupied by Huiping. Promising the cats should behave, Fei deliberately leaves the two human consciousnesses alone together. Yu Lion praises Jiang for recognizing almost immediately that the newcomer is not an ordinary cat. Yu Lion openly confirms she is human, smugly licking her paw while facing Jiang inside Huiping. Embarrassed by feline instincts in Yu Lion's advance, Jiang anxiously meows and backs away. Yu Lion mocks how even dignified humans become overwhelmed by animal desires after entering cats. Calling Huiping female, Yu Lion advances suggestively while Jiang sweats and recoils inside the cage. Jiang raises her claws and furiously warns the approaching Yu Lion to stay away. Yu Lion announces that Jiang has finally exposed her human identity inside Huiping. Jiang demands to know how Yu Lion identified her despite the unfamiliar feline body. Yu Lion says she recently asked Wu the same question after he exposed her disguise. She repeats Wu's reasoning that transmigration makes awakening inside a cat entirely unsurprising. Yu Lion lunges forward, but Jiang warns she cannot manipulate her against Wu again. Yu Lion admits Wu sealed Queen Bee, temporarily preventing her from directly controlling Jiang. Jiang cautiously asks what Yu Lion intends to accomplish without her defining control ability. Yu Lion asks whether Jiang can really watch Wu kill Zia, her compassionate feline owner. Jiang remembers Zia sacrificing herself for Huiping and hesitates under Yu Lion's emotional pressure. Despite caring for Zia, Jiang insists she cannot let Wu fail his deadly fifth mission. Yu Lion argues Wu survives mission failure, whereas success would place Zia in immediate mortal danger. Jiang lowers her head, realizing Zia faces permanent death while Wu's own life remains secure. Night falls over the Grim Reaper's home as the guarded rooms suddenly go dark. Yu Lion senses Wu has arrived outside while Jiang sits anxiously beside her in darkness. Yu Lion wonders how Wu discovered the supposedly hidden residence after following their escape. Jiang reveals Wu planted a tracking device inside Huiping's collar before the clinic confrontation. A sudden crash alerts Yu Lion, who turns toward the cage door and prepares to move. Yu Lion smashes open the metal cage, freeing herself and Jiang as the house comes under attack. A cat races through the darkened house while an origami bat swiftly pursues from behind. The Grim Reaper and Fei look upward as the escaping cat and paper creature cross overhead. Fei launches another origami bat through the room, directing her defense toward the intruding movement. Yu Lion intercepts an incoming paper creature with a flying kick before it reaches her. The struck origami bat spins away through the dark room under the force of her kick. The paper bat crashes against a wall and momentarily lodges itself in the damaged surface. Yu Lion boasts that her feline body's night vision gives her an advantage in darkness. Fei calmly ignites a folded paper creature in her hand, preparing an illuminated counterattack. Numerous flaming paper creatures spread through the room, dispelling darkness and surrounding Yu Lion. Fei checks the Grim Reaper and expresses relief that he survived the sudden disturbance unharmed. The Grim Reaper remains troubled, and Fei asks why he still looks so concerned. He reveals Zia Tianhua has disappeared, creating an immediate crisis despite their defensive success. 6 hours pass after Zia's disappearance while the Grim Reaper's residence remains illuminated overnight. The Grim Reaper, Fei, and Yu Lion wait together anxiously without discovering Zia's location. He asks whether either preventer has located Wu Qi, suspecting the assassin kidnapped Zia. Faye admits they still have no information about Wu's current location or movements. The Grim Reaper checks Zia's latest phone message, visibly blaming himself for her danger. The message shows Zia holding Huiping and claiming everything endangering him is her fault. Faye places a reassuring hand on his shoulder while he stares sorrowfully at Zia's photograph. Faye reminds him Zia remains immortal and therefore cannot be permanently killed by anyone. Yulian adds Zia stays safe as long as the mortal Grim Reaper himself remains protected. The Grim Reaper's phone suddenly rings, interrupting their uneasy conversation about Zia's survival. He immediately leans forward to inspect the phone while Faye peers over his shoulder. The Grim Reaper opens an attached video, desperately hoping it reveals Zia's whereabouts. The recording shows Zia trapped beneath water, struggling weakly while the Grim Reaper watches in horror. Zia lies submerged inside a transparent container, unable to breathe or reach the surface. She suddenly opens terrified eyes and begins choking as water fills her lungs. Zia thrashes desperately underwater, pressing both hands against the enclosing transparent barrier walls. Her body repeatedly drowns despite immortality, leaving her gasping and vomiting water between revivals. The horrified Grim Reaper screams Zia Tianhua's name while clutching the phone, displaying her torment. An unknown caller immediately requests a video connection after forcing him to watch the recording. The Grim Reaper angrily accepts the incoming call, desperate to confront Zia's unseen captor. The accepted video call reveals a speedboat traveling across open water beneath the bright sky. A blond young man aboard the boat greets him and confirms he watched Zia's drowning video. The Grim Reaper furiously demands why the caller is torturing an innocent woman like Zia. The captor demands he restore the world to mortality if he wants Zia's suffering stopped. The Grim Reaper recoils, asking whether Wu expects him to kill his beloved personally. The captor argues true love means freeing Zia from the endless agony created by immortality. While Zia continues drowning, the caller urges the Grim Reaper to reverse the exchange immediately. Overcome by Zia's suffering, the Grim Reaper quietly agrees to fulfill the captor's demand. He throws down the phone and loudly promises to restore mortality despite Faye's alarm. Faye tackles the Grim Reaper onto the sofa, attempting to prevent his fatal decision. Faye calls him insane for obeying Wu and sacrificing himself to reverse the world's immortality. The Grim Reaper seizes Faye's throat with a glowing hand while she struggles against him. Surrounded by orange energy, he declares Faye cannot stop him from saving Zia Tianhua. Faye discreetly summons a small paper crane beside her neck while enduring his grip. The paper crane slashes across the Grim Reaper, forcing his hold on Faye to release. A glowing cut appears along the Grim Reaper's neck as his mortal body begins collapsing. The Grim Reaper lies unconscious or dead while Faye and Yulian regard the aftermath solemnly. Yulian concludes both preventers must now face punishment after failing to preserve the exchange. Faye checks the recording timestamp as Zia remains visible with Huiping before the drowning ordeal. 5 minutes later, Faye realizes they remain unextracted even though mortal Zia should already have drowned. Faye wonders whether the Grim Reaper changed his mind and exchanged fates with humanity again. He explains the exchange ability can only activate once every 100 years. Unable to explain the unchanged world, Faye anxiously asks what has actually happened. Yulian suspects her earlier conversation with Zhang Pinger somehow caused the unexpected outcome. Morning sunlight reaches the residence while Faye and Yulian continue analyzing the failed result. Aboard the boat, Wu's mascot asks why mission completion has not transported him into killing intent space. Wu turns toward Huiping and asks whether Zhang secretly did something to save Zia. Zhang apologizes to Wu, confirming she interfered with his plan without requesting permission. Wu sits upright in alarm, realizing Zhang prevented the drowning from permanently killing Zia. Zhang explains Zia once saved her life inside Huiping, making repeated deaths unbearable to watch. Before the drowning, Zhang secretly slipped Zia a knife inside the water-filled wooden coffin. Wu deduces Zia used the hidden knife to escape the coffin after immortality ended. Zhang crouches guiltily on the deck as Wu approaches to confront her merciful interference. The mascot warns that showing mercy to enemies only creates destruction for their own side. Wu studies the remorseful Jiang and calmly prepares a direct test of her commitment. He asks whether Jiang would rescue Zia again if he continued trying to kill her. Jiang insists her debt is fully repaid and promises she no longer owes Zia anything. Wu accepts her answer and lifts Huiping into his arms, ending the confrontation. Carrying Jiang, Wu says they must locate Zia before either preventer reaches her first. The speedboat continues across the open sea as Wu begins pursuing the escaped target. After beginning the search, Wu discovers Jiang has suddenly vanished from his side aboard the boat. Jiang sheepishly admits feline instinct made her chase a moving red laser dot across the deck. Huiping pounces hard on the glowing point, trapping it beneath one raised front paw. Jiang notices the suspicious dot remains on the boat and realizes someone deliberately lured her. Zia suddenly grabs Huiping from behind while holding the laser pointer used as bait. Zia cuddles Huiping and cheerfully promises that mommy has arrived to save her beloved cat. Jiang warns Zia she is mortal again, startling her owner by speaking through Huiping. She explains she is a transmigrated human consciousness, making Zia anxiously ask about the real Huiping. Jiang says Huiping returns after mission completion, prompting Zia to ask what their mission requires. Wu appears holding a knife as Jiang reveals their objective is to kill Zia Tianhua. Wu lunges at Zia with his knife, causing the shocked Jiang to cry out nearby. The revived Grim Reaper crashes onto Wu from above, knocking the assassin violently against the deck. With glowing red eyes, the Grim Reaper pins Wu down before he can attack Zia again. Faye arrives riding a giant paper crane while carrying Yu Lion toward the confrontation. The Grim Reaper restrains Wu from behind and boasts that he has become immortal now. Wu's mascot urges him to break free using Arm of Oracle before Xia escapes. Another hourglass malfunction reveals the half-title has again temporarily disabled Wu's Oracle arm. Jiang charges toward the struggle, desperately shouting that Wu must endure until she reaches him. Yu Lion intercepts Jiang and smacks Huiping hard across the face before she can help. The blow sends Jiang tumbling across the deck while Yu Lion blocks her rescue attempt. Faye launches several paper cranes at recovering Jiang while Xia rushes toward Huiping in alarm. Xia shields Huiping with her body, taking multiple paper cranes through her arms and shoulder. Faye relentlessly sends more paper weapons toward Xia, who curls protectively around Jiang. Xia holds Huiping tightly as another crane freezes dangerously close to the cat. A long paper ribbon suddenly sweeps across the deck while Yu Lion watches nearby. Faye demands why Yu Lion launched her own paper cranes back at their creator. Faye struggles to command the surrounding cranes, admitting she has suddenly lost all control. Rogue paper blades slice Faye repeatedly, spraying blood and forcing her to collapse. Faye falls beside the restrained Grim Reaper while trying to understand her disabled ability. She accuses Wu after an hourglass appears around her title and reveals the source. Wu confirms Oracle temporarily sealed Faye's practitioner skill, leaving her paper creations uncontrolled. With Faye neutralized, Wu approaches wounded Xia and declares the fifth mission must end. Jiang remembers Xia's promise to protect Huiping with her life even without immortality. Breaking her earlier resolve, Jiang begs Wu to spare Xia despite knowing the request exceeds loyalty. Wu silently slashes Xia across the throat or chest, refusing Jiang's plea and completing his attack. Jiang covers her face in grief while Xia's bleeding body remains motionless on the deck. The fallen Grim Reaper cries Xia's name, helpless to prevent Wu from delivering the fatal wound. A defeated preventer bitterly admits losing to Wu again as he stands over Xia. Xia remains still with closed eyes, seemingly dead after Wu's decisive blade strike. Suddenly, Xia's heart beats again, and her eyes open despite humanity supposedly becoming mortal. Xia sits upright in disbelief, realizing Wu's dramatic blade strike somehow left her alive. Wu displays his clean blade and calls Xia's survival fate, revealing he deliberately spared her. Relieved, Xia embraces Huiping and sincerely thanks Wu for choosing not to complete the mission. Wu turns toward Yu Lion and proposes a bargain while she cautiously asks his meaning. He says sparing Xia does not mean Yu Lion escapes consequences for opposing him repeatedly. Wu claims Yu Lion's original murderer awaits inside punishment space after she enters for them. Skeptical Yu Lion asks why Wu is so certain about the identity awaiting her there. Wu explains punishment space repeatedly recreates one's first death until the true cause is discovered. Yu Lion demands proof that she can trust Wu's extraordinary promise about her mysterious murderer. Wu tells Yu Lion to ask his mascot, implying the system itself can confirm his explanation. The mascot confirms Wu's claim when Yu Lion directly asks whether he is telling the truth. Wu angrily asks why the mascot never revealed this information about punishment space earlier. The mascot warns unresolved prisoners endlessly relive their deaths, making the realm anything but a vacation. Yu Lion asks what she must do to enter punishment space in place of Wu's team. She reveals possessing a punishment decree acquired through difficult trading inside Killing Intent Space. The decree has already recorded 2 mission failures accumulated by Yu Lion and Faye. Crushing the punishment decree counts as advanced surrender, creating the 3rd failure required for entry. Wu holds the decree and assures everyone he no longer needs to kill Xia Tianhua. The immortal Grim Reaper recovers from his injuries as strips of paper fall around him. He rushes to embrace Xia, shouting her name while Jiang watches their joyful reunion. Still embracing the Grim Reaper, Xia tearfully regrets that terminal cancer leaves them little time together. Wu approaches holding the punishment decree and casually flicks a sealing effect towards Xia. The Grim Reaper shields Xia anxiously and demands to know what Wu has done now. Wu reveals Oracle can seal not only other hosts' titles but additional harmful conditions. An hourglass-labeled tumor appears over Xia as Wu seals her incurable cancer cells. Xia and the Grim Reaper bow deeply, thanking Wu while he holds Jiang inside Huiping. Wu warns the cancer seal lasts at most 10 years, making their reprieve temporary. Xia accepts the limit gratefully, content with receiving 10 more years beside her beloved. Jiang affectionately promises she will follow Wu everywhere, resting against his shoulder inside Huiping. Wu crushes the red punishment decree and invites Jiang to enter punishment space with him. Wu awakens inside a memory of the violent night when his original life ended. The mascot warns he will repeatedly relive this death until uncovering the truth behind it. During the recreated scene, Wu rapidly kills the armed men surrounding his glass enclosure. Determined to identify his murderer, Wu moves through the burning high-rise exactly as before. After neutralizing his target, Wu prepares to escape along a steel wire outside the building. A mysterious voice calls Wu Qi, startling him at the crucial moment during his escape. Wu loses his footing and falls from the wire toward the illuminated city far below. Before dying, he glimpses the distant silhouette of someone standing upon the same wire. The memory darkens as Wu reflects on the mysterious figure previously hidden by his fall. This repetition differs because Wu is determined to prevent history from repeating and expose his killer. Instead of falling, Wu manifests blazing hands that propel him back upward toward the wire. Wu lands beside a silver-haired woman and realizes she was the silhouette from his final memory. He demands why Xing Meng killed him, but she reacts with genuine shock at the accusation. Xing Meng insists she was trying to save Wu, not cause his fatal fall. She asks whether Wu knows why the criminal world calls her underworld queen. Xing explains she resembles a legendary underworld ruler because she can see everyone's final moments. Xing says she would never have saved Wu if she expected him to suspect her afterward. She claims to have rescued Wu many times before, leaving him confused by the assertion. Xing reveals repeated visions of assassins murdering Wu during vulnerable moments throughout his life. She secretly eliminated those killers first, ensuring Wu survived until the night of his fall. Wu asks whether Xing came to the high-rise specifically because she predicted his approaching death. He demands the identity of the person Xing foresaw eventually killing him in that future. After an awkward pause, Xing answers that she herself was the predicted killer. Wu accuses Xing directly, but she insists the prophecy is far more complicated than it appears. Wu activates Paradigm Arc, his second disciple technique, to inspect Xing's vision personally. The technique projects Xing's foreseen scene of herself standing beside Wu before his death. Wu compares the silent vision of Xing against the woman currently standing before him. Xing notices his scrutiny and looks uncertain as he studies tiny discrepancies in her appearance. Wu observes that Xing's current skirt differs noticeably from the one shown in her prophecy. Xing admits choosing different clothing intentionally because she wanted to prevent the vision becoming reality. Wu suspects he overlooked a crucial detail at the precise moment his original fall began. Jiang asks whether Wu has discovered anything, watching him reconsider the recreated death scene. Wu says he will explain after testing his theory during the next repetition of his life. His focus stare signals that Wu has identified an inconsistency hidden within the fatal memory. The cycle restarts before Wu's assassination target, whose armed guards surround him inside the high-rise. Wu completes the killing and strides toward his escape route as flames consume the room behind. Returning to the wire, Wu watches Xing's dark silhouette appear beside her without explanation. The approaching figure resembles Jiang, while Xing calls Wu's name exactly as his memory recorded. Hearing the call shocks Wu violently, recreating the sudden disturbance that originally broke his balance. Wu tumbles from the wire again while both Xing and the mysterious figure remain above. As Wu falls, he confirms that the woman Xing foresaw beside him was not Xing herself. He finally understands the prophecy depicted another woman whose appearance closely resembled the underworld queen. Wu awakens from the repeated death with certainty about the true identity within Xing's vision. The punishment cycle resets once more at the bloody aftermath of Wu's completed assassination. Wu asks Jiang whether she knows whom he saw on the steel wire before dying. Jiang's mascot form presses for the answer, eager to learn who caused Wu's death. Wu says the unexpected culprit was someone he could never have imagined seeing there. Jiang impatiently demands the identity, prompting Wu to reveal the person from the recreated vision. Wu names Jiang Pinger, whose human form visibly appears within the memory behind her mascot. He explains Jiang appeared from nowhere on the wire immediately before he lost his footing. Jiang vanished as suddenly as she appeared, leaving Wu to fall while Xing watched helplessly. Jiang's mascot avatar asks why her human counterpart would ever want to murder Wu. Wu clarifies Jiang was merely bait, while whoever transported her there was the actual killer. Confused, Jiang asks Wu to identify the hidden mastermind responsible for manipulating both women. Wu reaches toward Jiang's stunned mascot and prepares to expose the culprit standing before him. Pointing directly at the mascot, Wu accuses the killing intent system itself of arranging his death. The mascot protests indignantly, demanding what possible reason it would have for killing Wu. Wu suggests the system coveted his exceptional killing talent and wanted to recruit him as host. Only Wu's death could deliver him into killing intent space, explaining the system's lethal scheme. The mascot admits responsibility but asks why Xing's foresight never exposed it as the murderer. Wu explains Xing repeatedly foresaw his death, allowing her to thwart the system's earlier attempts. To deceive Xing, the system found Jiang in another world because she looked completely identical to Xing. It transported Jiang onto the wire at Wu's death, materializing her without warning or explanation. The substitution convinced Xing that she herself would kill Wu, creating a deliberately false prophecy. Believing herself responsible, Xing overlooked the true cause while Wu unknowingly drank from his glass. Wu reveals the system poisoned his wine beforehand, ensuring the fall eventually became fatal. Caught completely, the mascot falls silent before breaking into a satisfied, mischievous laugh. The mascot praises Wu as the perfect host and announces Punishment Space's mission successfully completed. Wu still demands the deeper reason the system chose to murder him despite recognizing his talent. The mascot postpones the truth until Wu's title reaches maximum level, claiming his death protected him.